Rumor has it that Ji Henyuan, the fourth master of the Ji family, was born with broken love, cold and domineering. Even his own family hated him and feared of him. But one day, he picked up a girl who fell into the water in the Mandarin River. From then on, he held the little girl in his arms day by day. He was afraid of melting in his mouth and falling in his hands. Chapter E. Picking up a beauty who fell into the water. A red sun rises from the east. In the Mandarin Lake, a flat boat floats on ice and goes down the stream. A handsome man with green short hair sat cross-legged on the deck, holding a fishing rod in his hand. He looked at the motionless float, impatiently put the fishing rod on the deck, and smiled heavily at the man in the cabin, mocking. Ji Henyuan, you said that you just came back from abroad, and the Ji family couldn't sit still and did a lot of small moves one after another. At the end, you can take them together. The man sitting in the cabin suddenly sneered coldly. Why? He lowered his eyes and played with the inkjade finger on his thumb. He was cold and powerful, as if he had separated him from everyone around him, and no one should get close to him. It's just a group of beam-jumping clowns, and it's worth my action. His voice was like a bass cello, low and hoarse, but with a domineering momentum, extremely cold and chilling. Hearing the words, Lin Qingmian hooked his lips and smiled, habitually flirting with his green bangs. Yes, who is Ji Henyuan? At the king who broke away from the Ji family and built countless underground forces. The means are cruel, and the cold-faced Shura, the group of minions of the Ji family, are not enough to look at in front of him. Suddenly, there was a thud from outside the cabin. At the same time, a weak and soft female voice came. Save, help. Who is it? Lin Qingmian immediately stood up vigilantly and looked around. However, the eye-catching picture suddenly stunned him. The cold abyss. Yes, it's a man who fell into the water. When Lin Qingmian looked at Ji Henyuan, he found that Ji Henyuan had already looked over. His dark pupils suddenly flashed an imperceptible dark light. He stood up in a second, and his whole body suddenly became extremely tense. I only saw the girl in the water, lying on a driftwood. Her face was extremely pale, but her forehead and cheeks were still covered with mottled blood stains, contrasting with her delicate little face the size of a palm, which seemed to be cold-eyed on the broken beauty of war losses. She saw the lonely abyss, as if she had seen the only straw, with the only remaining will to survive. He said slowly, Seek, please, save, help me. When the sound fell, she seemed to lose her strength. Her eyelids were closed. Her hand holding the driftwood loosened, and her whole body suddenly sank into the lake. Lin Qingmian was about to remind Ji Henyuan whether this was a trick of the Ji family, so he was careful. But he found that Ji Henyuan's whole body was like an arrow of the string, jumping into the lake with a bang and steadily pulling the girl into his arms. Lin Qingmian was stunned, and a small pinch of green hair stood on his head. The cold abyss. What's the situation? Such a girl of unknown origin, who has always been cautious, actually jumped directly into the lake to save people. You also fished people into your arms. Ji Henyuan, the fourth master of the lonely family, who has always been famous for his coldness and ruthlessness. When is he so? For the sake of righteousness and courage. In Lin Qingmian's shocked eyes, Ji Henyuan's powerful arm held the girl firmly on the deck, and he also jumped up with the help of his arm. His dark eyelashes drooped, covering the deep emotions in his eyes. His slender fingers trembled and probed the girl's nose, and suddenly he breathed a sigh of relief. He half-knelt on the deck. The next second, he took the weak and boneless girl into his arms and sat in the cabin. He laid the girl's body on her side in his arms with her head down in case there was still water in her lungs. At the same time, he covered the girl with his usual blanket. That careful look is like treating a peerless treasure. Lin Qingmian was so shocked that he felt that his heavenly cover was about to be lifted. The cold abyss. Is this evil? Before he could come back to his senses, Ji Henyuan's cold eyes shot at him, and his voice was like quenching an eye. The knife. Accelerate and go back to Gaoyao Villa immediately. Lin Qingmian. Ji Henyuan. Why do you look so worried about the girl who fell into the water? A flatboat that had originally floated down suddenly started and began to move forward rapidly. The calm lake crossed two rolling white waves. The silent cold abyss in the cabin hugged the girl tightly in his arms, and his deep eyes were obscure. He raised his slender fingers and slowly approached the girl's white cheeks, but at the moment when he was about to touch it, he suddenly froze and stopped in mid-air. After all, he lowered his hand again. Suddenly, the girl's long eyelashes trembled. A few seconds later, he slowly opened his beautiful eyes. With a pair of crescent-like eyes, she looked at Ji Henyuan, and then blinked in confusion, and asked in a soft and sticky voice, who is it? Looking at the strangeness in the girl's eyes, Ji Henyuan's heart was slightly stagnant, and his eyes flashed with loneliness and inferiority. He held the girl's hand and trembled. 2 seconds later, he finally put the girl on the chair, separated her from her, lowered his eyes and whispered, "Sorry, I didn't mean to offend." Lim King-mian, who was sitting aside and manipulating the direction of the ship, sneered when he heard this and deliberately joked, "Isn't it the girl who fell into the water just now? It was our silent master who jumped into the water to save you. Don't you remember how much you forget?" God knows how cold-hearted Ji Henyun is. It's like being born to be pulled out of 7 emotions and 6 desires. But just now, Ji Henyun not only dived to save people without hesitation, but also held the girl in his arms all the time after rescuing them. What's more, Ji Henyun is not in good health. It's hard to get better abroad. Now he is not only soaked all over, but also gave the girl the only blanket to cover. She woke up. Looking back, Ji Henyun fell ill again. What was unlucky was Ji Henyun. Lim King-mian really doesn't understand what kind of evil Ji Henyun has been. Could it be that Chongqing fell in love with the beauty of the girl who fell in love at first sight? However, the girl is so embarrassed now, and her face is covered with blood and stains. Ji Henyun, why don't you dislike it? At this time, when the girl heard the words of the green-haired man next to her, her long eyelashes trembled, and the crescent eyes suddenly felt guilty. She subconsciously raised her eyes and looked at the cold abyss in front of her. The brother in front of him looks like it was carefully carved by God inch by inch. His facial features are three-dimensional, noble and elegant. But at this moment, his whole body was wet, and even his black hair was still dripping through his smooth jawline and sinking into his white collarbone. In fact, his face was extremely pale, which made his handsome face a little more delicate and broken. But he still has a warm blanket on his body. But there is nothing. Obviously, he gave himself the only blanket. At this moment, the girl couldn't help but have a strong fondness for the brother in front of her. He must be a gentle and kind person by nature. Suddenly, the girl felt grateful and guilty from the bottom of her heart. She bit her lip lightly, and her black and white eyes were like innocent kittens. She looked at Ji Henyun watery and said softly, "Yes, sorry, I don't seem to remember anything." Then, she raised her hand and hammered her head in frustration. She really wanted to think of something, but the harder she thought about it, the more her head hurt. In an instant, a dark light flashed from the bottom of the deep eyes of the silent cold abyss. He suddenly looked up at the girl, and the light under his deep eyes rippled, as if the cold abyss suddenly ushered in the rising sunlight, faint and bright. A few seconds later, he raised his hand again. This time, he gently stroked the girl's head, and his tone was as gentle as if he had changed. "It doesn't matter. Since I saved you, I will be responsible to the end." The girl's eyelashes trembled, and she felt the coldness of the man's hands above her head, and she felt even more guilty in her heart. "My brother is really kind. She should repay him with all her heart." Subconsciously, the girl stretched out her hands, hugged Ji Henyun, and also gave him the blanket on her body to cover it, wanting to share all her warmth with him. Her soft lips were slightly raised, and her voice was delicate and soft. "Brother, thank you. In the future, I will repay my brother well." The sound of brother made Ji Henyun's back stiff, and a numbness seeped into the blood, instantly flowing all over the limbs and skeleton. He lowered his eyes. His thick eyelashes covered the deep emotions in his eyes, and the sexy throat knot slid gently. "It's her. Take the initiative to get close to him. In this case, then I won't let go again. In this life, he will put her in his arms and not allow her to leave him at all. In the future, he will be her exclusive prison." The next second, Ji Henyun naturally reached out and hugged the girl's slender waist, hugged her tightly in his arms, and his voice was gentle and spoiled. "From now on, I will call you Tang Tang, okay? She is the bright moon in the sky and the honey in his heart. Sugar, sugar." The girl tilted her head and muttered twice. It seemed as that she subconsciously feels that the name is very familiar and kind to her. So, she nodded obediently and smiled at Ji Henyun. "I like the name Tang Tang." She smiled, her eyes bent into crescents, and there were 2 pairs swirls on her lips, as if they really contained sugar, which was so sweet and cute. Ji Henyun couldn't help but hook his lips slightly, and his slender fingers gently touched the girl's pear vortex. "Well, I also like it. I like it very much." Chapter R. Hug if you don't agree with each other. Yan'an Mountain, halfway up the mountain, a European-style villa is hidden in the green forest. Ji Henyun held Tang Tang all the way and went directly into his room. He carefully put the sleeping Tang Tang on the sofa and covered her with a thick blanket. His Tang Tang's body was cold. If he caught a cold, he would be heartbroken. So Ji Henyun glanced at the row of servants guarding and ordered coldly, "Prepare a flower bath immediately, and be sure to keep her warm. Buy her all the latest clothes, shoes, backpacks and accessories of all the big brands on the market, and fill the empty cloakroom. Tell the kitchen to prepare food and more sweets. She likes sweets." call a doctor to guard her and give her a full body examination later. After a pause for a second, Ji Henyun added another sentence. I want a girl. When Ji Henyun gave an order, the servants were shocked like being struck by lightning, and they were all stunned. The fourth master has been abroad for several years. Why did he change directly when he came back? When did they ever see the fourth master say so many words at once? And when have you ever seen the fourth master care about a girl so much? Is it possible that the girl brought back by the fourth master is the future lady? Are you going to have a mistress? The servants subconsciously looked at Lin Qingmian and tried to get the answer. However, Lin Qingmian only hooked his lips and smiled heavily, so that he could look at all kinds of abnormal performances of Ji Henyun with his free hands around his chest. In a short time, when the servant went to the bathroom to prepare hot water, Ji Henyun was still afraid of the girl who fell into the water that would freeze him. The blanket covered is covered again and again. Looking at her, he was even more caring. He didn't seem to see anyone around him, only his girl who fell into the water. Lin Qingmian raised his hand and touched the heavenly spirit cover that had been numbed by the shock, and only felt that the scene in front of him was extremely wonderful and incredible. He and Ji Henyun have also known each other for more than 10 years. Ji Henyun is like an old monk who is as far away from female creatures. But now, the only thing that can be explained may be that he fell in love with the girl who fell into the water at first sight. The old man who has been single for 26 years suddenly became enlightened and suddenly wanted to open the meat. After all, although the girl who fell into the water picked up by Ji Henyun was too embarrassed to see the whole picture, when she cried out for help on the water, it was a pity that I felt sorry for her. Maybe, he is silent and cold, just this bite. However, noticing that Ji Henyun was still wet and his face was frozen without blood, Lin Qingmian frowned and had to remind Ji Henyun, your water girl is now taken care of by nannies. You should also take a bath and have a rest. 大姐, see, and your ragged body will stand you. After all, if Ji Henyun ruined his body again, it would be Lin Qingmian who was forced. However, Ji Henyun looked at Lin Qingmian, his deep pupils wrinkled, and suddenly said, you don't understand. I can keep Tang Tang by my side and see her cute face day by day. You can also hold her, touch her, and even kiss her. Any discomfort in his body has long subsided, replaced by endless joy. The girl he has been coveting for a long time, after all, came to his side. At the thought of Tang Tang depended on the delicate appearance of drilling into his arms. Ji Henyun couldn't help but raise the corners of his lips and walked to the bathroom. Lin Qingmian is right. It's time for him to take a shower. He also has to wash it cleanly and fragrantly. In this way, it is easy to continue to hold his sugar. Seeing that Ji Henyun was so happy that he took care of himself, he laughed. Lin Qingmian's non-shining guy was suddenly shocked by Ba question marks. Even the green hair on the top of the head trembled several times. It turns out that this is what an ascetic old man's sinews first opened. Do you still learn to jiggle? It looks strangely sweet. Lin Qingmian subconsciously looked at the falling girl lying on the sofa again. The little girl looks like she is only in her 20s. Her little face is pale and weak. She really has no power to bind chickens. Now I have fallen into the water and lost my memory, and I have no support and can't take care of my own life. It's really like, it's a dog weight that an individual can break with one palm. That's it. Although the origin is unknown, most of them can't make any storms. As long as she can make Ji Henyun happy and leave her, it doesn't hurt. After all, for so many years, Ji Henyun has lived hard enough. When Tang Tang was awakened by the servant in a daze, he inadvertently saw so many strangers, and he didn't know where he was from. He was so scared that he huddled in the corner of the sofa, curled up and hugged himself, and kept muttering for his brother, Dian. The servants looked at each other and didn't know what to do, hesitating whether to call Ji Henyun. Ji Henyun, who was potting hot water in the next room and preparing to take off his clothes and take a bath, seemed to have a telepathy. Suddenly, he still felt that he was still at ease, so he immediately strode back to the room. With a click, the door of the room opened. Tang Tang should go to the reputation. At the moment of seeing the tall figure of Ji Henyun, the loss, confusion and helplessness in Tang Tang Crescent's eyes disappeared in an instant, replaced by endless joy and joy. She jumped off the sofa with her bare feet, jumped to the ground, and ran to the cold abyss excitedly as a little rabbit. Then, as if he had lost and recovered, he tightly wrapped around Ji Henyun's waist. Her head leaned on Ji Henyun's chest, and her voice was mixed with a trace of grief. Yes, brother. Tang Tang woke up and couldn't see his brother, thinking, brother, don't want to be sugar. Listening to the girl's aggrieved and pitiful soft voice in his arms, Ji Henyun's heart was slightly stagnant and he suddenly felt guilty. It's him who didn't think well. Tang Tang lost his memory and felt very insecure. In her world, There is only herself now, and she only depends on herself. But he left Tang Tang alone and went to take a shower by himself. He is so bad. Ji Henyun aimed, idly hugged Tang Tang with his big hand, hugged the girl tightly in his arms and comforted her in a warm and patient voice. Tang Tang, I won't want you. You still have chills on your body now. My brother is afraid that you will catch a cold, so he arranged for the servants to bathe you first. Tang Tang, go to take a shower first. Your brother will come to you as soon as you finish taking a shower. I guarantee that you will see you as soon as possible. Okay. Hearing Ji Henyun's explanation, Tang was happy in an instant. Her red lips bent up, the crescent eyes were full of warmth, and the corners of her lips were as sweet as containing sugar. It turned out that my brother didn't want him to, but so thoughtfully arranged for her to take a shower first. So many people have been arranged to take care of her. Sure enough, my brother is the best person for her. So, Tang Tang looked up at Ji Henyun, looked at him with crescent eyes and nodded obediently, but cutely said, Tang Tang, listen to your brother, and then take a shower. How good? Ji Henyun rubbed Tang Tang's head spoiledly, and his deep eyes were full of tenderness. Even the corners of his lips were slightly raised, and the smile was real and obvious. The servants who witnessed this scene were stunned. When have you ever seen such a silent fourth master? Gentle and considerate. It can also coax people. The point is to laugh. The smile is still so obvious. After working in GAOYUE Villa for so many years, they have always thought that GCI is a machine that can't laugh. The servants shook their minds and saw Ji Henyun's cold face again, and a cold look swept towards them. Take good care of her. If you lose more hair, I want you to look good. Suddenly, the servants trembled with fear, and they didn't dare to raise their heads, and their backs were cold. At the same time, they were strangely relieved. Sure enough, the gentleness and thoughtfulness just now are all fake. Such a domineering and cold man is the real silent fourth master. And, Ji Henyun added coldly, next time she comes to me, she will inform me as soon as possible, and there must be no mistake. As long as his sugar misses him, he must appear by her side as soon as possible. The girl he loves naturally gets his wholeheartedness. Nowadays, he is the only one in her world. He will redouble his efforts so that every day in the future, in her world, will be full of only him. No one can be stuffed in anymore. At the same time, another team of people on Yan'an Mountain is already crazy. A woman with long purple wavy hair kicked the dead branch in front of her and cursed. The boss was obviously trapped by the two bitches in her family. She fell from Yan'an Mountain. Why can't she find anyone? She looked at the man beside her and said angrily, Baboon, how about we just chop up the two bitches of the Han family first to vent our anger? The man called a baboon does look a little like a bee. Baboon. He is tall, dark-skinned and has high cheekbones, but he is simple. He scratched his head innocently and said, Diao Diao, this is not good. How can we kill her family without the boss's order? What if the boss comes back and knows and chops you and me into puree? Hearing the words, Diao Diao suddenly trembled and subconsciously lifted her purple hair. Although baboons are simple, they can always find the truth in one word. Yes, the boss likes her family so much, and he is so hot-tempered. Maybe, they can really chop them into puree. After all, in Taoism, the degree of cruelty can be said to be comparable to that of the cold-faced Shura, and only their family is the boss. Known as the Hot Hand Demon Head, cold-faced Shura smashed his internal organs with one palm. The hot witch overturned the heavenly spirit cover with one move. This is the most intimidating existence on the road. It's just that where on earth did their boss go? Won't. It must have been killed to death. Chapter 10. The first trick is to spoil the wife madman. Tang Tang didn't like to be guarded when she took a shower, so she politely let the servants go out. The servants retreated to the outside of the room knowingly, waiting for Tang Tang's instructions at any time. After Tang Tang washed her whole body, she changed into the pink and white skirt given to her by Ji Henyun. She wiped her hair with a towel and looked at herself in the mirror. The delicate goose egg face seemed to be the size of a pal. Because of the bath, two red glows appeared on the fair face, which was as cute as a red peach in white. Because Tang Tang couldn't remember anything, he was worried about whether he would be ugly and not worthy of his brother when he took a bath. After all, in her eyes, her brother is so handsome, hairless and unparalleled, even so kind, gentle and considerate. He is simply an invincible and perfect good man. Now, seeing her appearance, she was relieved and even curled her lips happily. She is also a very beautiful beauty. When Ji Henyun pushed the door in, he saw this scene. The little girl jiggled in front of the mirror alone, and her eyes bent into a small crescent moon. At a glance, people felt that there was sugar in her mouth, which was so sweet. He walked over, reached out and gently tapped the girl's sweet hair vortex, and asked gently, Tang Tang, why are you laughing alone? Seeing that Ji Henyun really appeared as soon as he took a shower, Tang Tang was very happy. She smiled at Ji Henyun in the mirror and said softly, "Happy Tang Tang is also good looking, worthy of her brother." Hearing the words, the corners of Ji Henyun's lips couldn't help rising. "Does the little girl mean that you think he is also particularly good looking?" "Oh, it's only in the lover's eyes that she came out. It seems that his sugar has already. I have feelings. Even if it's the benefactor's love, it's still love." In this way, he has to work harder to make Tang Tang deeply affect him as soon as possible and unable to extricate himself. It's best to wait to haunt him all the time and stick to him all the time, never leave him for the rest of his life, and even live and die with him. At the thought of the happy and beautiful picture, Ji Henyun's deep eyes were emotional. He couldn't help holding Tang Tang into his arms, rubbing her soft waist with his big hand, and his voice was low and deceiving. "My little girl is naturally the most beautiful in the world." In his eyes, she is the elf who has fallen into the mortal world, beautiful and precious. It is to make him feel blasphemous at a glance. Tang Tang raised his lips and smiled happily, and put his feet around Ji Henyun's neck excitedly. Girls especially like to hear praise and praise. Even Tang Tang, who has lost his memory, is no exception. Hearing that Ji Henyun praised her as the most beautiful girl in the world, Tang Tang was very happy. She looked at Ji Henyun with curled eyebrows and said in a jumping tone, "My brother is also the most handsome in the world." The corners of Ji Henyun's lips rose. Suddenly, he leaned over and held the roots of Tang Tang's legs, and picked him up directly like a father. Tang Tang exclaimed and held Ji Henyun's neck tightly. "Brother." She was so scared that she pouted and shouted unhappily. Ji Henyun hooked his lips. "My brother just wants to hold you to blow dry your hair." After all, he paused for 2 seconds and deliberately added in a low voice, "If my little fudge catches a cold, my brother will be very distressed. Her waist is very soft, and her whole body is very soft. So, his small fudge." Hearing the words, Tang Tang was suddenly annoyed. It turned out that her brother saw that her hair was wet and wanted to take her to blow dry her hair, so he picked her up without saying a word. "My brother is so good." But she almost blamed him. She is simply too bad. She doesn't remember anything now. She is a little waste who can't do anything. But her brother not only saved her life, but also took her in without any disgust and took care of her so thoughtfully. "There is no one better in the world than my brother. How can she meet her brother?" Tang Tang secretly vowed from the bottom of her heart that in the future, she must be better to her brother and repay her brother twice. Even if she gave her whole body to her brother, she was willing. Ji Henyun finished blowing Tang Tang's hair and just turned off the hairdryer. A purring sound suddenly came. Tang Tang immediately stroked his stomach shyly, bit his lip embarrassedly, lowered his eyes, and his eyelashes trembled slightly, and he was very upset. "She is really unpleasing. She is so hungry that she is hungry." Ji Henyun hooked his lips and smiled, looking at Tang Tang doubtingly. "Are you hungry?" Tang Tang nodded embarrassedly. Ji Henyun put down the hairdryer and walked directly to Tang Tang. His slender fingers scratched the tip of Tang Tang's nose. "My brother was going to take us Tang Tang to dinner." As the sound fell, he leaned over and held Tang Tang's buttocks accurately, and picked him up again. Tang Tang subconsciously hugged Ji Henyun's neck and hung on him obediently. "Brother." Tang Tang can go by himself. Although she is not heavy, she is not light either. She is afraid of tiring her brother. However, he only heard Ji Henyun's hoarse voice and said righteously, "Tang Tang, you are still so weak. How can you walk on the ground? It's safest for my brother to hold you. At least you have to wait for the doctor to see you." 3 big question marks gradually appeared on Tang Tang's white forehead. Is she weak? But she felt that her face was quite rosy, and there was nothing wrong with her body. Oh, but she fell into the water and lost her memory. There are still lumps on her head. She really has to pay attention to her body. Sure enough, my brother is the best person for her in the world. In the future, she just needs to listen to her brother's arrangement unconditionally, because what my brother says and does is the most right thing. Ji Henyun walked out of the room with Tang Tang in his arms and strode down the stairs. A tall man who is nearly 1.9 meters tall is still expressionless and powerful. Every step he takes seems to be cold. However, holding a petite and cute soft girl in his arms, this picture is strange and harmonious. Although the servants have seen the extent to which the fourth master spoils Miss Tang Tang, they still feel incredible. Is the fourth master planning to be Miss Tang Tang's humanoid stepper? After all, Miss Tang Tang has never been on the ground since she entered the villa, and has been nestled in the arms of the fourth master. However, next, there are things that make them even more incredible. I was almost so shocked that I lifted the heavenly spirit cover with Lin Qingmian. I only saw Ji Henyun and Tang Tang sitting side by side at the table. As usual, Th. Anyone eats alone. Even if he had dinner with Lin Qingmian and others, he also had his own special tabloir and his own dinner plate, containing the dishes he wanted to eat and put them in front of him, because he never has a plate of food with anyone else. Mi Kaiming said, "Don't eat anyone's saliva." But what about now? He seems to have completely forgotten about the exclusive tabloir. Picking up his chopsticks, he kept picking up the dishes for Tan Tan. A small hilltop was built in front of Tan Tan. Enough, enough. Before Tan Tan finished speaking, Ji Henyuan actually took a piece of beef directly and took the opportunity to feed it to Tan Tan's still open mouth. The servants. "Oh my god, the fourth master actually used his own chopsticks. I personally fed Miss Tan Tan for dinner." In fact, the fourth master seemed to be addicted. He felt that it felt good to feed Miss Tan Tan like this. Unexpectedly, he couldn't stop one bite after another. Is the fourth master going to spoil Miss Tan Tan to the point where she can't take care of herself? Sure enough, if an old man doesn't know the trick, he will be a madman who spoils his wife. Chapter 3. Even if it's arsenic, he is as sweet as candy. When Lin Qingmian came in with Zhao Gang, Ji Henyuan's assistant, he saw this scene. Shocked, Lin Qingmian's green hair stood on a bunch of dull hair, and Zhao Gang's delicious moles on the corners of his mouth also trembled. Ji Henyuan, such a cold-hearted man, is now holding chopsticks, pinching a piece of the most delicious abdomen of squirrel eel, and gently feeding it to the girl's mouth. "Is it delicious?" he asked in a particularly spoiled tone. The girl was fed by him all the time, and her cheeks bulged, as cute as a little hamster. Finally, there was a chance to speak. The girl quickly chewed and swallowed the food in her mouth, and quickly said, "The dishes at my brother's house are all delicious. This fish, sweet and sour ribs, and spicy chicken are all delicious." When the sound fell, she smiled at the quiet cold abyss again. Her smile was as bright as the sunshine in early spring. It seemed that when she smiled, people felt that the ice and snow melted, the earth was springed, and everything was full of vitality. Her voice is also soft and glutinous, as if it contains honey, which makes people feel that their hearts have turned into sugar water, which is very sweet. Ji Henyuan was really fascinated. He glanced at the chef who was waiting for it and immediately said coldly, "Double the kitchen salary." Several cooks suddenly trembled, and the servants were also shocked one after another. It turns out that the wealth password is Miss Tan Tan. When she said it was delicious, the chefs directly doubled their salaries. You know, the salary of working in Gaoyao Villa is much higher than that of other places. Now, unexpectedly, it is directly doubled. It seems that as long as you take good care of Miss Tan Tan in the future, you can reach the peak of your life. Brother, you also eat. Tan Tan sandwiched a piece of steamed perch and sent it to his lips like Ji Henyuan fed her. "My brother has been only cared about feeding her, and he didn't eat much. Her brother is so kind to her." "No, don't." Suddenly, an exclamation came, and Tan Tan was so scared that his chopsticks fell to the ground with a snap. Lin Qingmian rushed over and directly pushed away the steamed perch in front of Tan Tan. He looked at Tan Tan unhappy. He was about to have an attack, but he was stunned. This girl who fell into the water, didn't she take a bath and change her skirt? Why have you become so He, Lin Qingmian, boasted that he was the son of a rich family, handsome and rich, and wanted to climb up with him. There are many women in the bed, and he has met all kinds of beautiful women, but the one in front of him is really the most beautiful person he has seen in his 25 years of life. The eyes muscles are white and glowing, and the flawless face is blushing, as sweet as fresh peaches. Crescent eyes are curved, pure and cute. Full lips are red and soft, adding 3 points of beauty. It's so pure and lustful, salty and sweet. Ji Henyuan's scent is so short-sighted. When the girl who fell into the water was in a mess, she saw her fairy-like essence through her appearance. So no wonder Ji Henyuan was suddenly fascinated by 5 fascinations and 3 ghosts, as if he had directly changed a person. It was love at first sight, and it was an exception to bring people back. She also fed herself and almost ate the fish she fed. Is this brother so in love that he forgets that he can't eat fish? Lin Qingmian cleared his throat and thought he was a gentleman. He couldn't be too bad at the beauty, and only reminded him in a warm voice. Ji Henyuan is not in good health and is still taking medicine. He can't eat fish, which will make him poisonous. Tan Tan's eyes widened in shock, and then looked at Ji Henyuan. Suddenly, I felt upset and guilty. Her brother can take care of her so carefully, but I don't know anything. The brother who almost killed the poison hare. However, her brother knew that she couldn't eat it. Why didn't she say a word when she fed it? She almost ate it. Of course, Tan Tan doesn't know that as long as she gives it, even if it's arsenic, Ji Henyuan will be as sweet as candy. Just talk too much. Ji Hong Yue stared at Lin Qingmian displeasedly, his eyebrows locked, and he was extremely cold. Ten Ten finally took the initiative to feed him. It was too late for him to enjoy it, but he was interrupted like this. Naturally, he is unhappy. The servant, who was just tidying up the chopsticks on the ground, was suddenly trembling by the terrifying momentum of Ji Henyuan, and quickly retreated to the back for fear of being affected. However, the next second, Ji Henyuan changed his face again, gently rubbed Ten Ten's head, and comforted him in a low voice. It doesn't matter, I didn't tell you in advance, brother. Ten Ten looked at the cold abyss, and the crescent eyes gradually filled with water mist. Her brother, how can it be so good? Sorry, in the future, Ten Ten won't. Her voice choked. She blamed herself and felt guilty. It's because she doesn't care enough about her brother. Thinking of my brother's body, it's poisonous again. I have to take medicine again. She suddenly felt that her heart was so stuffy. She would rather be sick than her brother. After all, even her life was saved by her brother. Seeing Ten Ten's pitiful appearance, Ji Henyuan frowned, directly held Ten Ten's arm with both hands, and took her into his arms to sit, soothing him in a warm voice. Silly girl, my brother is fine. He hugged Ten Ten tightly and kept rubbing her waist as a relief. Seeing Ji Henyuan's change of face and the coquettish operation of showing love in public, Lin Qingmian, 问号. He looked back at Zhao Gang, a single dog, to seek resonance and comfort, but found that Zhao Gang was stunned and his face was numb. Zhao Gang even subconsciously touched his heavenly spirit cover. Lin Qingmian, damn it. Lin Qingmian and Ji Henyuan have been friends for so many years. Why don't they know that this man is actually a love brain? It's just his broken body. Is it still alright? If this fish goes down, I'm afraid it will take half of his life. He kindly reminded that he not only didn't get any benefits, but also scolded too much. Lin Qingmian said unhappily, Ji Henyuan, have you forgotten that your broken body has long been full of toxins, and you can only rely on drugs to survive? I don't object to you falling in love. After all, you are still a virgin at the age of 26 and live like an abstinent old monk all day long. But you can't joke with your body when you fall in love, can you? If you do this again, I won't care about you if you die of illness in the future. Lin Qingmian's venting can be said to have exposed a lot of shocking information. However, Ten Ten only heard that her brother's body was full of poison, and he could only rely on drugs to die. In an instant, the tears in Ten Ten's eyes could no longer bear, and they smashed down. Her hazy eyes looked at Ji Henyuan, and her delicate hands couldn't help holding Ji Henyuan's face. No wonder her brother's face was so pale. It turned out that he was sick, and he was seriously ill. But his brother jumped into the water to save her without hesitation, and covered her with the only blanket. But she almost fed her brother fish and poisoned him. In an instant, Ten Ten felt that his heart was so stuffy. Her brother is so kind and so good. Why did God treat him so cruelly? She doesn't want her brother to get sick and suffer. She would rather bear it for her brother than suffer half of her brother's pain. Brother, Ten Ten sniffed, looked at Ji Henyuan with bright eyes, and said firmly, Ten Ten will definitely find a way to cure her brother. Even if she risks her life, she will have no hesitation. Chapter 5. God arranged Ten Ten to come to him. Hearing that Ten Ten was determined to save him, Ji Henyuan couldn't help licking his lips, and his heart was as sweet as sugar. How lucky he was to save Ten Ten when she fell into the water. At the same time, she also lost her memory, which gave him the opportunity to get close to her, even dominate her. She is the bright moon in the sky that he has coveted for a long time, but even if he looks at her more, he feels blasphemous. In the past, he could only be alone in the cold abyss, peeping at the bright moon in the sky from afar. And now, he is lucky enough to hold the bright moon in his arms. Even if he dies like this at this moment, he will close his eyes with satisfaction. It's just, he is too greedy again. He hasn't hugged her enough and kissed her yet. There is no thorough dominate her. Even if he is gone, will Ten Ten cry so pitifully like this moment? It made him feel that his heart was about to break. As soon as she shed tears, he couldn't wait to kill people. The treasure in his hand should be carefree and happy. Therefore, he can't die yet. Ten Ten is his only firm belief in survival. Ji Henyuan immediately held the person in his arms and gently coaxed him. Ten Ten, I'm really fine. Lin Qingmian is exaggerating the facts to scare you. Lin Qingmian just wanted to explain that he did not exaggerate the facts, but was stared at by Ji Henyuan's cold eyes, and he immediately dared not speak. Oh, the old man's sinus has become a love brain at the beginning, and can only accompany act to coax the beauty who fell into the water. After all, an old man can say that he can't do it. What if I am in poor health and disliked by a beautiful woman who fell into the water? By the way, Lin Qingmian changed the topic and asked, Is there something wrong with the beauty who fell into the water in your family? Why did you call a female doctor before? Now she is not a girl who fell into the water, but a beauty who fell into the water. However, his famous doctor is left here. Can't he show the beauty who fell into the water? Ji Heng-yun glanced at Lin Qingmian unhappily and said coldly, there is a lump on her head, which may be related to amnesia. Hearing the words, Georgie, the assistant who had been numb all over, suddenly came to his senses and couldn't help hissing. Lin Qingmian suddenly turned around and looked at Zhao Gang with a smile. He guessed what Zhao Gang had thought of and immediately pulled Zhao Gang to the side and whispered, now do you know why your fourth master can kidnap a beautiful woman who fell into the water? Because she has lost her memory. Zhao Gang, it turns out that Dr. Lin said before that the beauty who fell into the water was lonely and lonely, and the cold-hearted boss always fell in love at first sight. Now it is going to become a powerful drama in which the scheming old man takes advantage of the amnesia of the beauty who fell into the water to kidnap people home and directly cook raw rice and cook mature rice. Lin Qingmian hooked his lips and smiled heavily. Gangzi, if I quickly let the beauty who fell into the water recover her memory, will this romantic drama that you and I fell in love at first sight immediately become the annual robbery drama? She ran away, he chased. She inserted her wings and it was difficult to fly. The more Lin Qingmian thought about it, the more excited he became. He returned to the side of the silent abyss excitedly and said, then I have to show the beauty who fell into the water quickly. However, Lin Qingmian was about to check the lump on Tang's head when he was slapped by Ji Heng-yun. Lin Qingmian covered his painful hand and stared at Ji Heng-yun in a daze. What are you doing? This old man really doesn't let the beauty who fell into the water recover her memory, so he plans to hide her in such a golden house. How could Ji Heng-yun have thought that Lin Qingmian had made up so many big dramas in his mind? He only frowned unhappily and bowed to sovereignty extremely domineeringly. What I wanted a female doctor to show her. Do you always don't know your gender like this? Lin Qingmian, get it? For the sake of possessiveness, it can only be his silence. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay if I don't touch your little child Jill. Lin Qingmian rolled his eyes speechlessly, wrapped his hands around his chest, and ignored it. Zhao Gang immediately explained, Fourth Master, Dr. Lin, a cousin, Dr. Lin Jiren, is already on her way, and she should arrive on time. Suddenly, Lin Qingmian subconsciously looked out of the door and smiled, saying that Cao has arrived. Lin Jiren, dressed in a white shirt and black suit trousers, stepped over. He was skillful and fresh, and he seemed to walk with the wind. She smiled and joked, no wonder I sneezed all the way. It turned out that my cousin had been talking about me. Ha ha ha. Lin Qingmian borrowed the topic. It's not that I'm talking about you, it's the fourth master who is talking about you. Lin Jiren was stunned and subconsciously looked at Ji Heng-yun. But Ji Heng-yun didn't look at her. He was wiping the tears of the girl in his arms. He looked at the eyes of the girl in his arms, as gentle as a new person, who was the lonely cold abyss that Lin Jiren had never seen before. Then he heard Lin Qingmian say again, Jiren, did you see it? This beautiful Miss Tang is the favorite of Ji Heng-yun. Even if I are a doctor, I can't touch your brother. That's why I asked you to come here to see a doctor. Lin Qingqing's hand hanging on his side twisted, and a trace of obscurity flashed in his eyes, but it disappeared in a second, and he smiled cheerfully in an instant. I have never seen a woman around the fourth master before. It is said that the fourth master was born with love. Unexpectedly, she deliberately looked at Ji Heng-yun and Tang teasingly, and joked, the fourth master is very demanding. If you want to like the most beautiful girl, that's it. Lin Qingmian nodded in great agreement and subconsciously touched his green hair. This silent abyss has a good vision. If he also picks up such a beautiful beauty who is full of him, then he will also come to a golden house to hide his beauty. Then I can't wait to show it to Miss Tang. Lin Jiren smiled cheerfully and looked at the quiet cold abyss again. I don't know if it's convenient for the fourth master to give me Tang for a few minutes, and I'll take her to the room to have a look. What are you doing in the room? Ji Heng-yun frowned fiercely and glanced at Lin Jiren with a cold face. His cold eyes were the same as those looking at everyone except Tang, which was cold. He said forcefully, "Use." She looked here. He did not allow people who had not been identified as reliable by him to take away his sugar and let his sugar out of his sight. His sugar can only be around him. Don't leave every step. Lin Jiren smiled helplessly, but fortunately, Ji Heng-yun held Tang and put it on the sofa, so that it was convenient for her to see Tang's injury. Miss Tang's back of her head was indeed hit violently. Whether there was a blood clot in her head compressing the nerves and causing amnesia, she had to go to the hospital to take a film to determine. It's so simple that there's no need to shoot a film. Lin Qingmian hooked his lips and raised his chin proudly. This is where your Western medicine is not as good as our traditional Chinese medicine, right? Come on, I'll take the pause for Tang Tang. As soon as Lin Qingmian stretched out his hand, he thought of the humiliation and severe pain of being beaten by Ji Henyuan just now. He stretched out his hand back and took a tissue. He shook the paper in his hand, looked at Ji Henyuan, and said, I'll take her pulse with a tissue. Is it okay? Ji Henyuan didn't say anything, which can be regarded as acquiescence. Lin Qingmian snorted coldly and said to himself, it's really not easy to be a doctor these years. However, in order for the beauty who fell into the water to quickly recover her memory and stage the drama of escaping from the cold abyss, he must seize the opportunity to treat her. He also endured a little humiliated. However, the more Tang Tang took the pulse, the tighter Lin Qingmian frowned. He took 5 or 6 minutes and changed hands back and forth 3 times, but he didn't say a word. Ji Henyuan was no longer patient. He frowned and asked coldly, Lin Qingmian, can you do it? Then Lin Qingmian turned his head to look at him and said quietly, a good news, a bad news, which one do you want to listen to? Ji Henyuan's face suddenly sank, and Lin Qingmian immediately surrendered. I said directly, the bad news is that your little sugar, like you, is also poisoned, and, like you, toxins are all over the body. In an instant, Ji Henyuan's whole body suddenly became tense, and his clenched fists jumped up. He stared at Lin Qingmian, waiting for his next words. The good news is that your little sugar is very similar to the poison in your body. Maybe our medicine can also restrain. With a bang, the cup in front of Ji Henyuan was directly smashed by him. The temperature arrow on him dropped sharply, as if he had been touched by the reverse scales. The whole body was horrifying and particularly terrible. He glared at Lin Qingmian, and the sound he said was like an ice knife. Is this the good news you said? That medicine can't be cured at all. That is to say, the poison in his sugar body, like him, spreads all over the body and cannot be cured. That is to say, his sugar will suffer terrible torture and pain just like him. He hurts. It's okay. However, he can't bear high-as sugar pain. Even if he is allowed to bear twice, he doesn't want his sugar to suffer half of the damage. Lin Qingmian glanced at the cold abyss, quite helpless. When you couldn't be cured, I didn't see you so anxious. Now that you know that Tang Tang is also poisoned, do you know that you are in a hurry? This old man with a love brain is a real dog. In the past, when I was in pain to death, I always carried it. Now I feel sorry for Tang Tang, and now I know that I need to find a way to detoxify. Suddenly, Lin Qingmian blessed a wonderful idea in his heart. Could it be that Tang Tang was arranged by God to save him? Chapter 11. Sleeping in the same bed and sleeping together. The poison in the body of Ji Henyuan and Tang Tang could not be solved for a while, but now strangely, even if the toxicity is similar, Tang Tang has no symptoms. You know, when the silence and cold abyss are poisonous, it will hurt to death. That is, he is naturally tough and patient. Otherwise, if it were anyone, they would have died long ago. However, this discovery made Lin Qingmian more determined that he could find a way to help Ji Henyuan detoxify from Tang Tang, so he drew a tube of blood for each of the two and left. He has to hurry back for testing. At the same time, Ji Henyuan was arranged to take Tang Tang to their hospital for a full body examination tomorrow. It is important to detoxify Ji Henyuan. After all, if even he doesn't care about him, no one in the world will care about the life or death of this guy. But now, it is equally important to give Tang Tang to restore memory. He is still waiting for the drama code that is difficult to fly with wings. Lin Qingmian has left, and Lin Jiren naturally has to go with him. On the way, she smiled at Lin Qingmian. Cousin, thanks to you today, this is the first time I have come to the Fourth Master's Bright Moon Villa, and I have a lot of knowledge. I guess this is the only time in my life. Lin Qingmian shrugged his shoulders indifferently. Anyway, he has nothing to look at here. It doesn't matter whether he comes or not. Lin Jiren smiled, covered her emotions in her eyes, and joked. Why do you say there is nothing to look good? It's so tight today. The first time I came here, I saw the legendary ruthless and loveless Fourth Master who spoiled a girl so much, which shows that the rumors are all false. No, the rumors are all true. Lin Qingmian's attention in his mind was on the poison in the body of Ji Henyuan and Tang Tang, but his brain said casually, Ji Henyuan is indeed never close to women, and he has few friends. Today, the girl was just picked up by him. Lin Jiren's eyes widened in surprise. What he just picked up? It seemed that Lin Jiren had a big reaction. Lin Qingmian suddenly returned to his senses and looked up at Lin Jiren. Lin Jiren seemed to realize that she was talking too much and quickly explained, "I'm sorry, cousin. I didn't mean to spy on the affairs of the fourth master. I was just a little surprised. It's nothing." When Lin Qingmian thought of Lin Jiren's personality, he knew that she was not the kind of person who would talk nonsense. So he let down his vigilance and said casually, "The old man's sinews are just beginning to open. It's normal to be deceived by beauty for a while. It's okay with him. Ji Henyuan has always done whatever he wants, and he is happy. Ji Henyuan's life is bitter enough, and he has suffered inhuman pain since he was a child. Home is not home, and brothers are not brothers. He is also tortured by the poison in his body from time to time. Now a beautiful and delicate girl can appear, which makes him happy, and may even relieve the poison in his body. This is enough." Lin Qingmian only cared about the poison in his brother's body. Naturally, he didn't notice it. Lin Jiren's flash of eyes only told him casually, "Jiren, don't reveal anything about Ji Henyuan, especially if he will go to the hospital for examination tomorrow. There are too many enemies in the cold abyss. If the itinerary is revealed, if you don't pay attention, you will die without a place to be buried." Lin Jiren smiled cheerfully and said, "Don't worry, cousin, I'm strict." Yan'an Mountain at night is particularly quiet, far away from the hustle and bustle of the city, full of natural tranquility and leisure. Ten Ten lay in bed alone, thinking about Lin Qingmian's words over and over again. It turned out that not only her brother was poisoned, but also she. However, she doesn't seem to have any symptoms. "Not like my brother. I heard from Lin Qingmian that when my brother is poisoned, he will be in great pain." Ten Ten sat up. If she can think of something, will she be able to help her brother? At least, it can make my brother less painful. The next second, Ten Ten patted his head hard and tried to recall it. "But the more I think about it, the more my brain hurts." After struggling for half an hour, Ten Ten was exhausted and helplessly lying on the bed, looking at the dark forest outside the window. "Why is she so useless? I can't help my brother at all. I don't know how my brother is doing now." Suddenly, Ten Ten felt that he missed his brother very much. Why didn't he come back to sleep? Suddenly, the door of the room clicked open. Ten Ten sat up and turned on the light for a second. The tall figure of Ji Henyuan appeared at the door. He is dressed in black home clothes, with a long figure and a noble temperament. When he saw Ten Ten, his indifferent pupils instantly became warm. It was like the moonlight outside the window entering his eyes, which was very gentle. "Why haven't you slept yet?" He looked at Ten Ten with concern. The next second, Ten Ten jumped out of bed flexibly, stepped on the white carpet with bare feet, and rushed directly to Ji Henyuan. Her slender calves hung on Ji Henyuan's waist. Her tender white hand tightly wrapped, head around his neck, raised her head, and looked at Ji Henyuan with bright eyes. "Brother, why did you come back?" Ten Ten pouted up her red lips and said pitifully, "Ten Ten misses you." Hearing that Ten Ten took the initiative to say that he missed him, Ji Henyuan suddenly raised the corners of his lips and was in a very happy mood. He raised his hand and hugged Ten Ten's soft waist, held the person steadily to the bed, deliberately teasing, "What's the matter, Ten Ten? Can't you sleep without your brother?" Ten Ten bit his lip, lowered his eyes, and nodded shyly. "Although it's embarrassing, but it seems to be true. Without her brother, she is very, very insecure and can't sleep. She doesn't remember or understand anything. The only thing she can rely on is her brother." Seeing the cute appearance of Ten Ten shyly bowing his head, Ji Henyuan only felt that his heart had melted. He gently scratched the tip of the sugar's nose and asked deceivingly, "Then brother will sleep with you in his arms?" "Okay." Ten Ten nodded obediently and smiled at Ji Henyuan. The crescent eyes are bright, and the eyes are full of silence and cold abyss. Ji Henyuan hooked his lips and stretched out his hands. Ten Ten immediately got into the arms of Ji Henyuan. The soft and boneless body brushed his legs, department, waist, between. It brings up a burst of numbness. Her head, which exudes jasmine, scented shampoo, leaned against his chest. Her soft hands wrapped arrow on his waist, and her delicate calves were also placed between his legs, like an octopus, wrapped around him. The delicate and small girl is like his pendant. It's so soft and so fragrant. At this moment, Ji Henyuan felt like honey flowing into his heart, which was very sweet. The girl he has loved for a long time has come to sleep with him at this moment. Not long after, Ten Ten's small breathing gradually stabilized. In the moonlight, Ji Henyuan looked at the delicate girl in his arms, and the corners of his lips couldn't help rising. His sugar, even when he fell asleep, was so cute. Long eyelashes and slightly puffy lips make people want to suck. Take a sip and taste the sweet honey. It seemed that his little breathing sound had a sleeping effect on him, and the drowsiness gradually came. He hugged Ten Ten with satisfaction and slowly closed his eyes, Before falling asleep, he thought that this night must be the most wonderful night in his 26 years. It turns out that with 10 boring and meaningless sleep can become so wonderful. Only when you can sleep with 10 in your arms is called a truly meaningful sleep. However, the beauty of the silent abyss did not last long, because in the middle of the night, Gale Villa suddenly welcomed a group of uninvited guests. Chapter 3. It turns out that this is how to use the powerless to bind chickens. At 2 o'clock in the morning, everything was silent. In the middle of the night, Yan'an Mountain is so quiet that you can only hear the sound of the wind blowing through the woods and the occasional sound of birds. Suddenly, in the dark, Jihenyuan suddenly opened his eyes. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and his ears moved slightly. The whole body suddenly became tense. He subconsciously looked at Ten in his arms. Seeing that she was sleeping soundly, he couldn't bear to wake her up. So he carefully picked her up and put her on the sofa in the cloakroom. Then, with a click, the cloakroom was locked. At the same time, Zhao Gang also came to Jihenyuan's room. He reported in a low voice, "Fourth Master, there is a sneak attack." Oh, in the dark night, the cold abyss neared. The whole person, the momentum suddenly changed. He moved his wrists, and his deep pupils were full of cold and murderous spirit. This group of ignorant minions dared to disturb the beautiful dream of him and Ten sleeping together on the first night. Tonight, he will definitely call them, and there will be no return. Jihenyuan strode out of the room with a cold momentum. At the same time, countless people in black sneaked towards Gale Villa from around Yan'an Mountain. A war is about to begin. However, at the same time, 2 people are sitting on a crooked neck tree behind Gale Villa. A big purple wavy long-haired girl swayed her white cuff, hooked her lips and smiled. It was a baboon. There was a good drama to watch tonight. I don't know how many bad things this silent master has done, and there are so many enemies. As soon as he returned to China, the enemy's family couldn't wait to kill him. The baboon touched his head in a simple way. But the fourth master of silence should also be very powerful, right? Maybe it has been prepared long ago. Not necessarily. Diao Diao shook his head, looking like he was optimistic about the play. There are a lot of people on the other side, and the battle is very large. It is clear that he will die tonight without a place to be buried. She hooked her lips again, shook her legs, pinched a tender branch and put it in her mouth. She joked, "It just so happens that we have been looking for the boss for a day. Why don't we sit here to rest and enjoy tonight's big show? After all, it is also an unforgettable memory to see the death of the fourth master with your own eyes." Baboon, if you don't go to see the boss, just leave it here to watch the play. Is it really good? Ten was awakened by bursts of exclamations and screams. She suddenly sat up and found that she didn't seem to be in bed anymore, so she suddenly became alert. Fortunately, she has excellent eyesight. Even if it is extremely dark around, she can roughly see that she is in the cloakroom. But, what about my brother? Ten jumped off the sofa and slapped the light. It was found that there was no figure of Jihenyuan at all. Her heart suddenly sank and her intuition was bad. "Brother, is it dangerous now?" Ten immediately went to open the door, but found that the door of the cloakroom was locked from the outside, and she couldn't open it at all. Ten understood in an instant. She must have sensed the danger, so he locked her up here. In an instant, Ten felt that his heart was pulled into a ball. My brother is worried about her, but she is more worried about her. Now, all kinds of screams, gunshots and broken glass outside are enough to show how dangerous and terrible the situation outside is. In case, what should SHE do if something happens to her brother? The more Ten thought about it, the more he felt flustered. She couldn't accept that she was hiding here alone and stealing her life, and completely ignoring her brother. She is going out. In an instant, Ten's whole body seemed to have endless power. As if instinctively, she suddenly raised her foot and kicked the door of the cloakroom. Unexpectedly, the door of the cloakroom was kicked down by her directly and fell to the ground with a bang. Ten himself was so shocked that his eyelashes trembled, and he subconsciously looked at his bare feet. It turns out, is she so strong? Never mind. Sneak out to see my brother's situation first. She quickly withdrew her thoughts and slipped out of the room carefully. The scene outside the courtyard suddenly made her pupils widen. Countless people in black surrounded Jihenyuan, Zhao Gang, and the bodyguards of the villa in the middle. Even if they have knocked down the people all over the ground, the people in black are endlessly attacking them. Even Iron Man can't stand such a fight. "Brother," Ten suddenly whispered worriedly, as if sensing Ten. The silence in the encirclement suddenly raised his eyes and was looking at Ten's side. His pupils shrank, and his eyes were full of tension and worry. He raised his lips and said to Ten in his lips, go back. The next second, the man in black suddenly attacked him. He was almost attacked and quickly dealt with it. He kicked one and fell down. Every punch he punches seems to be mixed with cold and murderous intent. Damn it, damn it. Tang Tang, who was hiding in the dark, naturally understood the words of Ji Henyuan. But her brother was now in such a great danger. How could she steal her life alone with peace of mind? No, no, she wants to save her brother. The next second, Tang Tang rushed back to the room. She opened the drawer of the bedside table of Ji Henyuan, and indeed found several beautifully shaped guns in it. Branch. Tang Tang's eyelashes trembled slightly, and she plucked up the courage to touch it with trembling white fingers. It was strange that at the moment she touched the coiled gun, she seemed to feel the blood around her suddenly boiling, as if there was a flame burning in her body, driving her to pick up the gun. Instinctively, she put the gun in her bag and rushed out immediately. She didn't even have the speed of going down the stairs and jumped directly down the second floor. Even she herself doesn't know why this series of sharp and bold operations. It's like being born with it. Seeing the silence in the encirclement, Tang Tang Crescent's eyes narrowed slightly, and her slender arms raised two guns and dropped them sharply. Bang, bang, bang. Every shot, accurately below the head. All of them were aimed at the people who tried to sneak attack the coiled abyss. Ji Henyuan suddenly looked at back. Inside, his Tang Tang was still wearing a pink and white nightgown, and his bare feet stepped on the ground barefoot. But the whole popularity has completely changed. The sweetness fades away, and the coldness suddenly appears. His gun has such a strong recoil, but for her, it is as simple and light as a toy gun. Every shot seems to be accurately modeled, accurate and fierce. Suddenly, they seemed to have an excellent helper, and the encirclement was directly broken through. The man in black suddenly knocked down a blockbuster. With the help of Tang Tang, Zhao Gang was able to take a breath, but before he could breathe, he was shocked by Tang Tang and numb again. He looked at Ji Henyuan in a daze, and his voice stuttered. Fourth Master, Sugar, Miss Tang Tang, this is what Dr. Lin said. There is no power to bind chickens. There is no branch to follow. Weak and pitiful, delicate beauty. Which adjective matches her? Question mark. This gun's accurate headshot posture is simply the reappearance of the female killer god. I'm afraid that there are only spicy witches on the road who can fight with Miss Tang Tang. The fourth master, what kind of immortal did you pick up? At the same time, the two people on the tree with their necks crooked almost fell down from the tree when they saw this scene. Diao Diao grabbed the baboon tightly, stared incredulously wide-eyed, and took a breath of cold air. Baboon? I'm right, am I? That is it, our boss. The baboon's eyes stared like a bronze bell, and it also stuttered, which was, yes, but, however, oh what, boss, how could, here, also held, silence. Silent fourth master. Diao Diao punched at the baboon. Don't stutter. I almost choked to death when I heard it. The baboon touched his head in a simple way. So what should we do now? Are you going to support the boss? Hearing the words, Diao Diao thought for a time. A few seconds later, he raised the corners of his lips again and smiled loosely. No, I won't go, baboon. Are you really not afraid that the boss will know and beat you? Diao Diao hooked his lips and looked at the baboon, touching the baboon's simple head in a deep and unpredictable way. Baboon, you are still young, don't understand. How can we interfere in the matter of beauty-saving heroes and disturb the boss's good things? Baboon, is he small? Where is he too small? Diao Diao hooked his lips and looked at his boss's hands, on killing of the enemy as if he were watching a play. This group of minions will not be their boss's opponent at all, not to mention the powerful help of Ji Sei, so she naturally doesn't feel at ease not to help. However, she has been surprised today. Their boss disappeared inexplicably and didn't leave a letter to them, which was not her style at all. Now she understands. It turns out that the boss is busy flirting with handsome men and has no time to pay attention to them. Well, the little skirt has been changed, and the feet are still bare. Maybe I'm having fun at night. So, as intimate subordinates and friends, how can they disturb them? Diao Diao feels that he is simply a genius. I perfectly guessed the boss's unknown thoughts. The boss of their family finally figured it out and finally started to pick up with men. The hot-handed witch is the fourth master of the silent family. TSK, what do you think? How wonderful. Suddenly, a flash of light flashed in Diao Diao's mind, and he thought of something more incredible. She remembers that the villa of Ji Sei seems to be called Gaoao Villa, and the boss of their family, whose real name is Tang Jiao. Among them, is there any other connection? Chapter meeting you is the greatest luck in my life. An hour later, the yard of Gaoao Villa is already full of fallen people in black. The victory or defeat has been decided, and the victory or defeat has been divided. The only few remaining men in black knew that they would die and had already fled in a hurry. Zhao Gang took people to chase him. Since you're all here, don't even want to run. In the moonlight, Ji Henyun turned around and looked at Tang Tang from afar. His girl's fair face splashed a lot of bright red blood, and she still held a gun in her drooping hands. Such well-behaved and beautiful hands should not be used to hold a gun. It's his fault. It was he who didn't protect her well. However, Tang Tang threw away the gun in his hand, stepped on the co-step, and slowly walked towards him. The coldness gradually faded, and the crescent eyes bent, and it was the sweet and clever girl. Brother, Tang Tang reached out and hugged Ji Henyun, leaning on his chest. Sorry, the tone is like a child who has done something wrong, aggrievedly admitting his mistakes to his parents. Ji Henyun was obviously puzzled. Tang Tang bit his lip and lowered his eyes with a guilty heart. I don't know, why do I use a gun? Still use it so skillfully. It seems that she used to do such things. But if she was such a terrible and dangerous person, my brother, will you still like her? Will you think that she is a bad girl and don't want her? However, she can't remember anything. She only has her brother. If even her brother doesn't want her, then she will have nothing. At the thought of this possibility, Tang Tang felt very wronged, and his hand tightly held Ji Henyun's thin waist and did not want to let go. She can't be without her brother, don't want me? Okay. Tang Tang's tone was aggrieved and pitiful, which suddenly made Ji Henyun's heart melt. Silly girl. He bent down directly, held Tang Tang's buttocks and picked him up. Facing the moonlight, he walked all the way to the room. It's too dirty here. His sugar should stay in a clean and pure place. However, at the thought of Tang Tang running out without listening to him, Ji Henyun felt angry again. These people can't hurt him at all. What's more, even if he is injured, even if he is skinned, he doesn't care. He was even more afraid that his sugar was injured. God knows how worried he was when he saw her sneak out before. When he saw those people in black pounced on her with murderous intent, how much he wanted to kill. With a snap, Ji Henyun threw Tang Tang on the sofa, and then turned the person over. With a snap, his palm fell directly on Tang Tang's buttocks. With a thought, before he could react, he heard Ji Henyun reprimanding in a cold and domineering tone like a parent scolding his own child. I don't know how to wear shoes. What should I do if my feet are injured? It's late at night, and I don't know how to wear a coat when I come out. What should I do if I catch a cold? I asked you to go back and hide. You have to come out. In case something happens to you, what do you want me to do? When the sound fell, Ji Henyun turned Tang Tang over again and asked her to face him. At the same time, I immediately overturned up. His pupils seemed to be burning with fire. His burning palm pinched Tang Tang's chin and looked at her with paranoid eyes. Tang Tang was frightened by such a quiet abyss and shouted timidly, brother. However, Ji Henyun did not let go. Instead, she was tighter, and her pupils seemed to be about to burn out. It was hot, and the sound of her output was extremely paranoid. Tang Tang, do you know that I can't live without you? It's never that he doesn't want her. Instead, he coveted her and longed for her. But he did not dare to approach her and was not qualified to approach her. She is the bright moon in the sky, clear and pure, white and sacred. And he is in the cold abyss at the bottom of the cliff, dark and dirty. He can only snoop from afar and hide his evil thoughts for fear of defiling her. But now, God has given him this opportunity. Gao Yue took the initiative to come to him. Once the dark man accepts the light, he can no longer leave it. He will never let her leave him in his life. He wants to take him as a prison, lock her up by his side, and keep an inch of her. At this time, looking at Ji Henyun's eyes, Tang Tang trembled subconsciously, bit the corners of his lip, and apologized in a soft voice. Brother, Tang Tang, wrong. It turned out that my brother didn't care about her horrible appearance just now, but had been worried about her safety. He even said, without her, he can't live. Maybe, like her, like him and like herself. Right. At this moment, Tang Tang felt again that she was really lucky. Meeting her brother is the greatest luck in her life. Tang Tang stretched out his hands, took the initiative to hold Ji Henyun's waist, and hugged him tightly. In the future, Tang Tang will listen to your brother. Tang Tang will never leave her brother in her life. As long as her brother doesn't want her, she will rely on her brother, the person who wants to be his brother in life, and he ghost who stays by his brother's side in death. Anyway, my brother is his. Even if she becomes a ghost, she doesn't allow other women to approach him. Listening to the girl's delicate and soft words, feeling her slender arms tightly wrapped around him, Ji Henyun suddenly disarmed and surrendered, and all the anger suddenly disappeared, replaced by endless softness and sweetness. She can always touch his heart so easily that he can't extricate himself from her. Perhaps, in this life, he fell into her hands. Good candy. The paranoia in Ji Henyun's eyes gradually disappeared. Seeing that Tang Tang's chin was pinched red by himself, he kissed with guilt, sorry, no, it doesn't matter. Ten quickly shook his head obediently, but his eyelashes couldn't help shaking, just because, just now, my brother actually kissed her, although it's the chin, but, at this time, I feel numb in my chin, and there is a very strange feeling flowing in the bottom of my heart. It makes people feel as if they are floating on the clouds, and the whole person is crisp and soft. So, is that what it feels like to kiss someone you love? I don't know. If it's a kiss with lips, what would it feel like? Just when Ten's mind was drifting away, Ji Heng-yun picked her up again and carried her into the bathroom. He let her sit on the bathtub, and he took the shower and carefully rinsed her feet. His sweet little feet are white and soft. Even the pink and nail shell is too cute. He just wants to hold such a pair of cute little feet in his palm and make it white forever. The next second, Ji Heng-yun couldn't help raising his hand and gently stroking the instep of Ten's foot. In an instant, Ten's round toes curled up. She looked at Ji Heng-yun shyly, and Ji Heng-yun also raised his eyes and looked at her at the same time. It's just that at this time, there are more obscure things in his eyes. Ten. His voice was hoarse, with a trail of deception and unspeakable desire. My brother will help you wash, take a shower, okay? Chapter 9. Ten is a peach in the world. When he got into the quilt, Ten's whole body was as hot as a boiled shrimp. Listening to the sound of water in the bathroom, she couldn't help but think of what had just happened. Even if her brother's request embarrassed her, she was still reluctant to refuse her brother. So, extremely shy and agreed. But when she stepped into the warm bathtub and was surrounded by bubbles, her brother escaped before the battle. At that time, he strode to the compartment to take a shower and wash straight to the present. Ten didn't know what his brother was going on, so he washed himself obediently and got into the bed. However, he is still very shy, and his fair skin is red all around him, just like peaches in the world, sweet and fragrant. Of course, Ten didn't know how hard Ji Heng-yun endured. I don't know, because he took a cold shower, and there was no fog on the compartment glass, so that he could see it completely. His little fudge is like a peach, and his eyes muscles are white and red, soft and smooth. However, after all, he can only take a cold bath to suppress it. He is insecure because of his memory loss, timid and shy. He can't be in a hurry yet. Take your time, until the whole peach body is completely covered with his seal. Because too many things happened tonight. Ten had fallen asleep before Ji Heng-yun went to bed. With a chill, he looked at the little sweet sugar sleeping obediently in the quilt. He couldn't help leaning down gently and kissed her forehead devoutly. In the future, he will spend his whole life to compensate her for the dream that he couldn't sleep together tonight. When he took the quilt for Ten, Ji Heng-yun calmed down, put on his home clothes, and went out lightly. As soon as he went out of the door of the room, he saw a busy yardman in the yard, and his momentum suddenly sank. He must catch the mastermind behind him and Ten Mimen. The next day, Ten slept until 3 hours on the sun before he slowly woke up. I opened my eyes and was stunned for a moment before I remembered where I was now. However, the voice of Ji Heng-yun suddenly came into my ears. Are you awake? Ten sat up with his hands, and then found that Ji Heng-yun was sitting on the sofa next to him, holding the computer in his hand, as if he was dealing with official business. Ten was stunned. Brother, is this? Even the office is guarding her. In an instant, because of his brain, Ten felt particularly sweet in his heart. She got up from the bed and walked to Ji Heng-yun's side. She wrapped her hands around his waist, put her head on his chest, and said obediently, well, Ten is awake. The sound of the little fudge in his arms waking up at the beginning was as sweet as sugar, soft and glutinous, which instantly made Ji Heng-yun's heart numb. He put down the urgent official business in his hand, couldn't help holding his sugar, kissed her fragrant head, and said in a low voice, my little lazy pig, it's noon. If you don't wake up again, my brother will come to spank you. Ten blinked in surprise in an instant. Unexpectedly, she could sleep so well. Well, brother. She got out of Ji Heng-yun's arms, looked up at Ji Heng-yun with crescent eyes, and said softly, do we still have to go to the hospital or examination? She remembered every word Lin Qingmian said yesterday very clearly. After all, it was about her brother's health, but I didn't expect. She overslept. Ten said regretfully, if we don't go again, the doctors in the hospital should be off work, and they all blame Ten for not being good. If she delays the examination and treatment of her brother, she will feel guilty to death. Silly girl. The tip of the slightly sugary nose spoiled by Ji Heng-yun has a gentle tone. But the words he can say are domineering. You and I haven't gone yet. Who dares to get off work as a doctor in this hospital? If so, His genuine has been in vain these years, and his good days for Lin Qingmian should come to an end. In an instant, Tang Tang was stunned. Brother, he must be a very powerful person, right? She tilted her head, and a whimsical idea suddenly appeared in her mind. Is it possible she accidentally got a boss next to her? Ji Henyuan and Tang Tang had lunch and drove to the hospital. The hospital is Lin Qingmian's family, and specially arranged an area for Ji Henyuan and Tang Tang for private examination. After all, something happened in Gaoyu Villa last night. If anything happens again today, Lin Qingmian can't tell. First, the doctor was arranged to take a film of Tang Tang's brain to check for blood clots in the brain. At the same time, Ji Henyuan did a full body examination on Lin Qingmian's side. Tang Tang finished. At the examination, before Ji Henyuan came out, Tang Tang sat on the chair in the corridor and waited for her. Unexpectedly, a sharp female voice suddenly came from the quiet corridor. My fourth brother is here. Why can't I go there? Lin Jiren, I warn you that you are just a branch of the Lin family. He is still just a doctor. If you dare to stop me today, believe it or not, I will let you leave this hospital directly. Tang Tang frowned slightly and turned his head to look. I saw a woman in a particularly luxurious purple dress, stepping on high heels. She has a domineering face and a high chin, which looks particularly difficult to mess with. Behind her, Lin Jiren chased after her in a hurry, with a helpless face. Miss Zhou, looking back, the fourth master was angry. I really can't afford you. Hearing the words, the woman's steps stopped, turned around and suddenly stared at Lin Jiren, flying and domineeringly. Lin Jiren, what are you talking about? My own sister Zhou Ruxu is the third lady of the Ji family. The fourth master is my fourth brother. How could he be angry when I came to him? Let's talk about it again. Zhou Ruxu suddenly raised her lips and smiled, and her eyes bottom shows love and shyness. I haven't seen my fourth brother for so long, and he should miss me. After saying that, Zhou Ruxu turned around and continued. Suddenly, a chill and an unknown fire were born from the bottom of Tang Tang's heart. What did this fierce woman say? Say that her other misses her. How could her brother miss her? A fierce woman. Brother, it's hers. The next second, Tang Tang suddenly stood up and stood straight in the middle of Zhou Ruxu's way. In the arms of Ji Henyuan, a tall girl who is nearly 1.9 meters tall. She looks particularly petite, but in fact, she is also 1.7 meters tall. However, because of the small skeleton and white skin, it looks particularly delicate. At this moment, she stood here in the ginger princess costume chosen for her by Ji Henyuan, but her momentum was out of the way. It's like a noble princess, and people can't help but want to submit to her feet. Zhou Ruxu naturally saw Tang Tang. While she was surprised, a trace of amazement flashed in her eyes, but at the same time, it was replaced by strong jealousy. She stopped in front of Tang Tang and asked with a disdainful and aloof face, "Who are you? How can you be here? Don't you know that there are big people here for inspection today? If it affects something, can you bear this responsibility? Why don't you get out of here?" Oh, Tang Tang sneered, and his eyes were full of cold momentum. He looked at Zhou Ruxu coldly, and his tone was extremely domineering. You are the one who should get out, right? It's not an interrogative sentence. It's an affirmative sentence. Chapter 10. The silent cold abyss is domineering and protects the sugar. Zhou Ruxu suddenly widened her eyes and was obviously shocked by Tang Tang. She frowned and was very unhappy. There are few people in the capital who dare to talk to me like this. It seems that she is a wild girl who doesn't know where she came from, and she hasn't figured out the situation yet. Then I'll tell you today. Let you know how ignorant and stupid you are. Do you know who the big man who is doing the inspection now? It's my fourth brother. My fourth brother is the fourth master of the Ji family, Ji Henyuan. Suddenly, Zhou Ruxu seemed to think of something. She looked at Tang Tang up and down, sneered, and looked at Tang Tang with contempt in her eyes. So, didn't you know in advance that my fourth brother would do the examination here? So you rushed here. So you still dare to try to get me out of here. Are you afraid that I will ruin your good things? Ha ha ha. My fourth brother hates you women who are in a hurry to cling to him. I advise you, you'd better get out of here right now. Otherwise, if my fourth brother comes out to see you, with his temper, you will definitely die today. Zhou Ruixue said something very indignantly. It's like she's a lofty queen, giving alms and begging a steamed bun, kindly pointed to a way to live. If it were anyone, they might be scared by her momentum. However, what she is facing is Tang Tang. In the face of Zhou Ruxu's domineering aura, Tang Tang was not afraid at all. On the contrary, his whole body suddenly sank. The tone of the outlet is like the cold wind mixed with the cold winter and the 12th lunar month, which is extremely cold. Who allowed you to call him the fourth brother? The frivolous ending is full of deterrency. Zhou Ruxu suddenly stared wide-eyed and said incredulously, my fourth brother, why can't I call? However, she hasn't said anything yet. Suddenly, Ten suddenly raised his hand. With a snap, he slapped her directly in the face. Zhou Ruxu was caught off guard and took several steps back to stand firmly. She covered her hot face and looked up at Ten incredulously. In an instant, her eyes were full of anger. "Bitch, how dare you hit me?" Ten looked at her coldly, and suddenly burst out an extremely terrible murderous intent, and said coldly and terrifyingly, "If you shout the fourth brother again, I will slap you. If you say that he is yours again, I will tear your mouth." "Brother, only she can call. My brother can only be hers. She is alone. Any woman who wants to get close to her brother, she wants them to look good." In an instant, Zhou Ruxu was frightened, and a chill suddenly appeared on her back. The woman in front of her looks so delicate, but now she is so terrible. The eyes are full of terrible killing intent. Zhou Ruxu had no doubt that if she shouted again, she would really beat herself to death. But why? Her own sister, the third lady of the lonely family, is sought after by everyone wherever she goes. When has she been so humiliated? Suddenly, with a click, the door on the side opened. Ji Henyun, dressed in black, stepped out. Zhou Ruxu's eyes suddenly lit up when she saw Ji Henyun. She immediately rushed to Ji Henyun and made a shy look of a little girl. She was no longer the domineering appearance just now, and her tone immediately became delicate and soft. "Fourth brother, you can calculate it. Look at this woman. She not only came to make trouble in private, but also beat me." Zhou Ruxu showed her red and swollen cheeks, and suddenly felt very wronged. Woohoo, she hurt so much. Zhou Ruxu thought that Ji Henyun would definitely stand on his side and take care of this wild girl who doesn't know the height of the sky. After all, she is his sister-in-law's own sister. However, Ji Henyun didn't even look at her and walked straight past her, then went to Ten. There were obviously 3 women present, but in his eyes, there was only Ten from beginning to end. He walked to Ten, looked at her gently, rubbed Ten's soft black hair, and whispered, "Baby, have you been waiting for a long time? Are you hungry? Are you tired?" The gentleness of the cold abyss suddenly dissipated Ten's anger. However, she is still very jealous. "Brother, could there be a lot of women before her? Could it be that she is not the only one in my brother at all? In her opinion, her brother is so good that many girls should like him, right? What if my brother falls in love with someone else?" At the thought of this possibility, Ten felt that his heart was cut by a knife. She only has her brother, and she must never lose his brother. The next second, Ten raised his eyes, and the crescent eyes looked at Ji Henyun aggrievedly, and his voice seemed to have a pitiful tremor. "Brother Yuan, Ten is neither hungry nor tired. That is, not very happy." As soon as Ten's words fell, Zhou Ruxu beside her couldn't hold back. Seeing that Ji Henyun was so gentle to this woman, she was incredibly shocked, and what she thought was to snatch Ji Henyun away. Immediately, "Don't let this woman and the wicked man sue first." Zhou Ruxu immediately shouted, "Fourth brother, don't listen to her nonsense. She is uneducated and beats people. Look at the slap marks on my face. When I go back, if my sister and brother see it, they will definitely be heartbroken. And the old lady, she has been talking about you and wants me to take you back to see her." Suddenly, Ji Henyun suddenly raised his eyes and looked at Zhou Ruxu. Naturally, they know that although Ji Henyun looks cold and ruthless, he will not do anything to him at all. Others think that he is domineering and never unreasonable. He always does whatever he wants and respects me. In fact, he knew that Ji Henyun was not a demon in those people at all. He hurt the person who hurt him first. That's why he dares to talk to Ji Henyun so unscrupulously, because Lin Qingmian will never hurt Ji Henyun. At this time, Lin Qingmian glanced at Zhou Ruxu on the ground, the usual domineering young lady. Now her cheeks were red and swollen and collapsed on the ground, which was so funny. Lin Qingmian didn't bother to pay attention to her, and he was even more not afraid of her. He just said to Lin Jiren, "Throw her out." Then, he said to Ji Henyun and Ten, "I have something important to tell you two. Come with me." When the sound fell, Lin Qingmian took the lead. Ji Henyun looked at Ten gently and took her hand to look at it. His sugar skin is tender. With a little force, he will leave marks on his fair skin. At this time, the little hands are red, which makes people feel particularly pitiful. Ji Henyun rubbed her distressedly, and leaned over to hold Ten's leg and picked her up. Spoil her as if she were his only treasure. As long as she is there, he can never see anyone else in his eyes. Anyone who dares to mess with her, I don't mind using my Ji Henyun's methods on women. With this saying, he strode away with the person in his arms. Zhou Ruxu completely collapsed, and her face was like ashes. Lin Jiren looked at Ten nesting in the arms of Ji Henyun, and twisted his drooping hands. Ji Henyun's words not only deterred Zhou Ruxu, but also warn her. At this moment, Lin Jiren felt that his heart suddenly sank to the bottom. Why did such a woman suddenly appear? Except for being beautiful and almost nothing, it took away the heart of Ji Henyuan like this. Ji Henyuan, how could he spoil her so much? Thinking that Zhou Ruxu was still by her side, Lin Jiren took a deep breath and tried to calm down. She tried to reach out to pull Zhou Ruxu. Miss Zhou, please. However, with a snap, Zhou Ruxu suddenly knocked off her hand and stared at Lin Jiren angrily. Look at my joke, right? Let me tell you, Lin Jiren, today's matter, if you dare to reveal half a word, I want you to look good. Zhou Ruxu staggered up, supported the wall, and stared viciously in the direction where Tan left. She, Zhou Ruxu, can never admit defeat like this. At the same time, in Lin Qingmian's office, he handed over 2 reports to Ji Henyuan and Tang Tang. This is your blood test report. Lin Qingmian suddenly restrained his usual appearance. His face was heavy, and he seriously got straight to the topic. The toxins in your bodies are exactly the same. In an instant, Tang Tang looked at Ji Henyuan in surprise. Ji Henyuan frowned and said nothing. Naturally, they know that although Ji Henyuan looks cold and ruthless, he will not do anything to him at all. Others think that he is domineering and never unreasonable. He always does whatever he wants and respects me. In fact, he knew that Ji Henyuan was not a demon in those people at all. He hurt the person who hurt him first. That's why he dares to talk to Ji Henyuan so unscrupulously, because Lin Qingmian will never hurt Ji Henyuan. At this time, Lin Qingmian glanced at Zhou Ruxu on the ground, the usual domineering young lady. Now her cheeks were red and swollen and collapsed on the ground, which was so funny. Lin Qingmian didn't bother to pay attention to her, and he was even more not afraid of her. He just said to Lin Jiren, Jiren, throw her out. Then, he said to Ji Henyuan and Tang Tang, I have something important to tell you two. Come with me. When the sound fell, Lin Qingmian took the lead. Ji Henyuan looked at Tang Tang gently and took her hand to look at it. His sugar skin is tender. With a little force, he will leave marks on his fair skin. At this time, the little hands are red, which makes people feel particularly pitiful. Ji Henyuan rubbed her distressedly, and leaned over to hold Tang Tang's leg and picked her up. Spoil her as if she were his only treasure. As long as she is there, he can never see anyone else in his eyes. Anyone who dares to mess with her, I don't mind using my Ji Henyuan's methods on women. With this saying, he strode away with the person in his arms. Zhou Ruxu completely collapsed, and her face was like ashes. Lin Jiren looked at Tang Tang nesting in the arms of Ji Henyuan, and twisted his drooping hands. Ji Henyuan's words not only deterred Zhou Ruxu, but also warned her. At this moment, Lin Jiren felt that his heart suddenly sank to the bottom. Why did such a woman suddenly appear? Except for being beautiful and almost nothing, it took away the heart of Ji Henyuan like this. Ji Henyuan, how could he spoil her so much? Thinking that Zhou Ruxu was still by her side, Lin Jiren took a deep breath and tried to calm down. She tried to reach out to pull Zhou Ruxu. Miss Zhou, please. However, with a snap, Zhou Ruxu suddenly knocked off her hand and stared at Lin Jiren angrily. Look at my joke, right? Let me tell you, Lin Jiren, today's matter, if you dare to reveal half a word, I want you to look good. Zhou Ruxu staggered up, supported the wall, and stared viciously in the direction where Tan left. She, Zhou Ruxu, can never admit defeat like this. At the same time, in Lin Qingmian's office, he handed over 2 reports to Ji Henyuan and Tang Tang. This is your blood test report. Lin Qingmian suddenly restrained his usual appearance. His face was heavy, and he seriously got straight to the topic. The toxins in your bodies are exactly the same. In an instant, Tang Tang looked at Ji Henyuan in surprise. Ji Henyuan frowned and said nothing. But, Lin Qingmian said again, Tang Tang did not take any antitoxin drugs, but she herself did not have any symptoms. Not like you. Lin Qingmian looked at Ji Henyuan and said, once you stop taking the medicine or eat something you shouldn't eat, you will immediately get poisoned hair and feel pain all over your body, and even painkillers won't work. Hearing Lin Qingmian's words, Tang Tang's heart suddenly tightened. He subconsciously stretched out his hand and held Ji Henyuan's big hand. She couldn't imagine how her brother got poisoned. Over the years, he must have had a hard time alone. Looking at Tang Tang's eyes without false worries, Ji Henyuan only felt a warm current in his heart. He held Tang Tang's little hand in his palm and whispered, I'm fine, don't worry. He is not afraid of heaven and earth. He never cares about this small injury or illness, even death. Now that Tang Tang is around, he will only be more determined and powerful, just because he has people who want to do their best to protect. In the past, he basically ignored the poison in his body. After all, he knows how the poison came from, so he doesn't want to care about it. But it's different now. If he has someone he wants to protect, He must be more indestructible in order to stand in front of her anytime and anywhere and protect everything about her. Ten just needs to hide behind her and be a carefree little princess. Be her armor and protect her for a lifetime. What's more, he is in pain, okay, but he will never allow Ten to have any pain, whatever possible. He has to uproot. Is there any possibility of detoxification? Hearing Ji Henyuan's words, Lin Qingmian suddenly smiled happily. You guys finally agreed. Lin Qingmian looked at Ten excitedly and gratefully. Sure enough, God really sent a beauty who fell into the water to save him. There are two plans now. First, help Ten recover her memory quickly and let her remember how she was poisoned, why she didn't have any symptoms of poisonous hair, and whether she had ever eaten anything to restrain this poisonous thing. Second, Lin Qingmian looked at Ji Henyuan, and his eyes suddenly became complicated. He said slowly, only when you find the poisoner and get the poison can you take the right medicine. Ten saw Lin Qingmian's eyes and felt wrong, and looked at Ji Henyuan suspiciously. I saw that in his deep eyes, there was a large dark cloud in the bottom of his eyes, and under the hidden emotions, there was an indescribable fog. Is it brother's poisoning? What else? Hidden feelings. My brother doesn't seem to want to find this poisoner. In an instant, Ten bit his lip and made up his mind. She needs to find a way to recover her memory quickly and help her brother get well soon. However, Ji Henyuan didn't seem to want to mention this matter, so he changed the topic and asked, has the inspection report of Ten come out? How is her health? Lin Qingmian had no choice but to take a deep look at Ji Henyuan, sighed, said nothing, and looked at the computer. The emergency came out. He immediately printed out the report and handed it to Ji Henyuan. There is blood stasis in the brain that compresses the nerves, so it causes amnesia. However, now Ten has no other symptoms except amnesia. The situation is fine, and the blood clot is not big, so there is no other problem. When the body automatically absorbs this blood stasis, the memory will be restored. If you can't wait for automatic recovery, you can also use acupuncture or drugs to accelerate the dissipation of blood stasis. I take medicine. I have acupuncture. Ten immediately couldn't wait to get excited. She must recover her memory as soon as possible. Silly girl. Ji Henyuan frowned and said in disagreement, it's a medicine with 3 parts of poison. No. Ten looked at Ji Henyuan firmly and said persistently, I want to recover my memory quickly so that I can help my brother recover. However, Ji Henyuan looked deeply at Ten and didn't know what to do for a moment. If Ten really recovers her memory, will she still want him? Chapter Shar. Why did you suddenly fall in love? On the way back to Gaoai Villa, Zhao Gang was driving in front of him and saw the picture of the back seat of the car through the rearview mirror. Xiaoling got subconsciously numb, and then, the baffle was raised silently. I thought sorely in my heart. Obviously, I was still single yesterday. How? The fourth master suddenly, abandoning their single dog team, they fell in love so coldly. The back seat of the car, Ji Henyuan held Ten as usual, rubbed the girl's soft cheeks from time to time, rubbed the girl's fragrant head from time to time, and rubbed the girl's slender waist from time to time. Deep eyes, full of satisfaction. It's like reaching the peak of life. His little fudge is soft and fragrant, and it feels great. Make him can't wait to net it all the time and never let go. I can't help it. Ji Henyuan remembered taking a bath last night. The scene at the room saw peaches in the world, stained with the dew in the morning, are white and red. In an instant, Ji Henyuan's eyes began to change, and his surroundings were warm. The degree began to rise. Ten also seemed to be used to the arms of Ji Henyuan, holding his waist tightly with his hands and leaning his head on his chest, looking particularly dependent. She rubbed it habitually, but unexpectedly, she heard Ji Henyuan's hoarse voice saying, don't move. Ten was stunned, subconsciously raised his head, blinked his crescent eyes, and looked at Ji Henyuan innocently. The delicate sick face appeared in front of her eyes, so close that the small fluff on her fair cheeks seemed to be visible. Ten's skin is white and tender, and it is always white and red. What's the difference with peaches with this little fluff at this time? It makes people really want to taste the sweet taste of this sweet juice. The throat knot of the lonely cold abyss is slightly slippery, and I can't help it. Lean over slowly, realizing what Ji Henyuan wanted to do. Ten's heart tightened, and her eyelashes trembled. Subconsciously, he closed his eyes. She is willing to kiss her brother. Even give everything you have to your brother. Just as Ji Henyuan's thin lips were about to touch Ten's soft red lips, Zhao Gang's oddly bricked and almost threw Ten out directly. Ji Henyuan reacted in a second, reflexively covered Ten's head tightly, and held him in his arms. He fell heavily on the seat with his back, but he didn't let Ten bump into it. Ten, how about it? Are you alright? He looked at Tang Tang in his arms nervously, and his eyes were very worried. Tang Tang bit his lip and shook his head. In fact, she hadn't come out of the fact that she was about to kiss Ji Henyun just now. She was said that the good kiss was gone, but afterwards she felt shy and tight, so she didn't say anything for a while. But in Ji Henyun's opinion, his little sugar was seriously frightened, and he was so scared that he couldn't speak. Ji Henyun's momentum suddenly sank all over, and his dead eyes shot coldly at Zhao Gang in the front row. Zhao Gang naturally sensed Ji Henyun's anger, quickly lowered the baffle, and explained in a hurry, "I'm really sorry, Fourth Master, it's a sudden matter." In a RRY, a car suddenly came out of the front corner and stopped directly in front of us. If I didn't brake suddenly, we would have crashed directly. Ji Henyun frowned fiercely and looked over with cold eyes. As Zhao Gang said, there was a big red sports car in front of their car. The sports car is extremely coquettish, not only the color, but also all kinds of decorations. Long eyelashes are attached to the front headlights, and red lips are printed, and a purple bikini is printed directly behind the car. It really fulfills the proverb, red with purple, shit. It's enough to see how wonderful this car owner is. 感叹号. Moreover, the two cars are very close. If it hadn't been for Zhao Gang's quick reaction, they might have collided at this moment. Obviously, the other side is not only a strange man, but also a deadly madman. He wants to see what kind of dog he is, so bold. Even he dares to stop. With a click, the door of the coquettish red sports car opened. A woman in a gorgeous red skirt with purple wavy hair and an extremely exaggerated colored sunglasses came out of the car. She raised her sunglasses above her head, hooked her lips, and hooked her index finger at Ji Henyun's car. Calm down. The sound of the exit is very scattered. In an instant, Tang Tang, who was still nestled in the arms of the silent abyss, was stunned. At this moment, she actually felt that this voice was very familiar. However, this feeling is just a flash, and I still can't think of anything. However, she couldn't help but look at the girl outside the car. Zhao Gang looked back at Ji Henyun and reported, "Fourth Master, I'm sure we didn't have a holiday with this girl. However, she looks very similar to the Diao Diao of the Star and Moon Alliance. Rumor has it that there is a purple-haired woman named Diao Diao in the Star and Moon Alliance. She has a charming appearance, an unruly personality, and can do whatever she wants. Only the hot witch of the Alliance of the Star and Moon Alliance can cure her on the road." And the woman in front of them also had purple hair, and she looked like she was doing whatever she wanted. And, how dare you stop their car? The only candidate Zhao Gang can think of such a bold and presumptuous action is Diao Diao. After listening to Zhao Gang's analysis, Ji Henyun frowned. He and the Star and Moon Alliance have always been in the well and in the river. Why did this chingy suddenly stop the car? Ji Henyun rubbed the little gummy in his arms and bent down to comfort. Tang Tang, wait for your brother in the car. With a click, Zhao Gang got out of the car first, and then respectfully opened the door for Ji Henyun. The shiny leather shoes took the lead in stepping down, and then came a noble and indifferent figure, tall and strong, which could not be ignored. Ji Henyun's cold eyes swept Diao Diao, lowered his eyes, and brushed the moil wrench finger on the thumb of his left hand. The whole person stands here and does nothing, just like Ji King who stared at the world in ancient times. But Diao Diao was not only not afraid, but also blatantly looked up and down at the cold abyss. She held her chin and made a hissing sound in her mouth. "Baboon, do you see it?" She turned to the simple and tall man who came out of the co-pilot and said, "This fourth master of the silent family is really a handsome man. The boss of their family has such a good vision. She has read countless men. This quiet and cold abyss is definitely ranked top." 大写 T. Baboon came over and trembled subconsciously when it saw the cold abyss. Although he was tall and powerful, his courage formed a sharp contrast with his image. He was obviously afraid of the cold abyss. He stretched out his hand and carefully pulled it, whispering, "Diao, don't make trouble. Let's go. The boss is not here. We can't afford to provoke." Diao Diao sneered and gave the baboon an unpromising look. The boss of their family is going to become the fourth lady of the Ji family. Do they still need to be afraid of the fourth master of the Ji family? Even if this silent fourth master is famous, I'm afraid it's hard to escape the beauty of their boss. After all, if it weren't for the fierce name of the hot witch, the boss of their family, who doesn't talk or fight, is really a watery little fairy. In this case, if the boss really takes down the fourth master of the silent family, the Star and Moon Alliance wants to deal with the cold-faced Shura and his cold light pavilion, and it will be just around the corner. Chapter 13. Will Tang Tang be hiding something from him? Next to the black Bentley, Ji Henyun stood tall in black, and his body was like an ancient emperor. He was cold and domineering, which made people feel a chill in their backs at a glance. At this time, he raised his eyes and glanced at Diao Diao, and then lowered his eyes to play with the mole finger on the thumb, and the voice he said was extremely cold. Give me a reason. In an instant, the baboon was so scared that his internal organs trembled. He was simple, but he understood what the fourth master of silence said in the second half. That is, if they didn't give him a reasonable reason today, then, I'm afraid they can't retreat with their whole body today. Even, it is very likely to explain your life here. After all, the end of those people in black last night. He was still vivid in his eyes, and he was shocked when he thought of it. This silent fourth master is absolutely first class, and he can even compete with the cold-faced Shura on the top. Therefore, in the absence of the boss, if he fights hard, he and Diao Diao will definitely fight to death. So, the baboon pulled Diao's clothes from the bottom of his heart, came behind her and whispered, Diao, let's apologize, admit our mistake, and run away. Diao Diao turned around and glared at him fiercely, something that was not promising. How does the boss usually teach us by word of word? Don't be timid when something happens, just do it. What are you afraid of? After scolding fiercely, the next second, a handsome man turned around, flirted with his long purple hair, and walked towards Ji Henyun and Zhao Gang with his long legs, and once walked out of the catwalk. Then, at a distance of 1 meter away from them, he suddenly smiled. Well, Ji Sei, and this big brother, hehe. Diao Diao smiled brightly and said excitedly, the little girl is here to talk about cooperation with you. Zhao Gang twitched with a delicious smile on the corner of his mouth, and subconsciously looked at Ji Henyun's face. Obviously, his face was low, as if he had no patience. So Zhao Gang immediately said seriously, what cooperation? Diao Diao smiled again and said flatteringly, let's work together to turn over the cold-faced Shura, which lifted his cold light pavilion. In an instant, the air stagnated, a cold wind blew, and Zhao Gang shuddered. Then he came to his senses and turned his head stiffly to look at Ji Henyun. I saw that Ji Henyun was still looking down and playing with Moyo's finger. Suddenly, Leng sneered. Did your alliance leader ask you to come here? When Ji Henyun asked like this, Diao Diao suddenly frowned. What's the situation? The owner of their family is in his car. The baboon didn't see it. She kept shouting that the boss was not to cause trouble if he was there, but she just saw clearly that it was the fourth master who was still holding the car of their boss. That's why she dares to stop the car so boldly. Anyway, there is a boss here, and there is also a boss who cleans up the mess for her. What's more, the boss has fascinated Ji Sei so much that he has been holding her in his arms almost all the time. Obviously, he has seduced people 3 times. Why did the fourth master still ask like this? Suddenly, a spiritual light flashed in Diao Diao's mind. That's right, she and the baboon are here. Why hasn't the boss come out of the car? Doesn't she love them anymore? Diao Diao didn't believe in evil. He strode straight to the other side of the back row of the car, knocked on the window, and smiled at the signature lips. Hi, beauty, come out and have a chat. She usually talks to the boss in such a tone. She didn't believe that the boss was indifferent. The next second, the window slowly shook down. What is revealed is an extremely delicate bow-tie face. But the beauty in the car opened her big watery eyes, looked at her innocently, and even blinked her eyes, with the words alertness and strangeness written on her face. In an instant, Diao Diao's heart sank to the bottom of the sea. Boss, this is... what's the situation? At the same time, Diao Diao felt that his back began to feel cold and his scalp began to numb. Even the internal organs seemed to be swept by a gloomy wind. Just because Ji Sei is looking at her. Moreover, the more there is intent has been used. Diao Diao took a deep breath and still pretended that nothing had happened. She only smiled at her boss and said, she is indeed a big beauty. Hehe, it's a feast for the eyes. Enough, enough. Then, she pretended to be nothing, slowly walked to the baboon, and suddenly smiled extremely strangely. When the baboon saw Diao Diao's smile, the soles of his feet suddenly became numb. Then, I heard Diao Diao say, baboon, 1, 2, 3, run. In an instant, the two tactical Y jumped into the car immediately, as fast as a tornado, and the buttocks of the red sports car wafted away. This series of operations is so skillful that it is shocking and heartbreaking. Zhao Gang, 问号. Ten tilted his head in doubt and always felt that something was wrong. My mind feels stuffy and swollen, as if something is about to jump out, but I can't squeeze it out. Fourth master, Zhao Gang looked at Ji Henyun with a black face and asked, what does this person in the Star and Moon Alliance mean? Do you want to chase? Unexpectedly, he boldly ran to the cold-faced Shura master of Hanglong Pavilion and shouted to overturn his Hanglong Pavilion. Isn't this nonsense? Ji Henyun turned the moil wrench in his hand, but his eyes were looking at Tang Tang in the car. In the deep eyes, an inexplicable emotion flashed. This little guy, is it? What else is hidden from him? After Diao Diao and the baby escaped, they were relieved to see that no one had caught up with them in the rearview mirror. However, the baboon, who is still in a daze, obviously hasn't figured out the situation. This Tricky, who was so bold to cause trouble at the beginning, suddenly made him run away so cowardly. Diao Diao naturally knew that the baboon didn't know the situation and explained, there is something wrong with the boss. Only then did the baboon realize it. The boss was in the car just now. Diao Diao glared at the baboon with an indisputable look. You idiot, let me tell you that we are miserable. The baboon touched his head in a simple way. What's the situation? At this time, Diao Diao was completely no longer in his usual appearance, and his expression became serious. I don't know what the fourth master of silence has done to our boss. The boss can't even recognize me, and he has completely changed his personality. Thinking of the boss's clear and clean eyes just now, he tilted his head slightly and looked at her innocently. At the same time, he was strange and worried, and he only felt that his heart was sinking to the bottom. Blame her all. It's her who is too playful and too confident. Unexpectedly, I thought it was the boss who figured it out and finally knew how to pick up with men. Unexpectedly, it was simply this damn silent fourth master who tied up their boss and didn't know what he did to the boss, so that the boss directly changed from a witch to an innocent little girl, and she didn't know whether to die or not to provoke the fourth master of silence. And GCI is famous for his cold-blooded and ruthless iron-blooded wrist. Looking back, if GCI blames their boss, in an instant, countless possibilities flashed in Diao Diao's mind. What kind of whip? Handcuffs, cage, iron chain. Yes, the hot-handed witch who was discouraged on the road was actually reduced to this point. Then shouldn't you just run away from the heart like this? Shouldn't we go back and fight to save the boss? However, she doesn't want to die yet. Suddenly, a flash of light flashed in Diao Diao's mind. Will it be? There is another best possibility. In fact, the fourth master of silence doesn't know at all that their boss is the hot witch of the Alliance of the Star and Moon Alliance. He kidnapped the boss back, but Chongqing liked the boss's beauty. Therefore, the boss's life is not in danger for the time being, and she can also run away with peace of mind and continue to live a dashing life. Chapter 14. What can't my woman in the cold abyss do? Ji Henyuan was not in a hurry to bring Tang Tang back to Gaoyao Villa. It's rare for the little girl to come out. She seems to be very curious about everything. This should also be asked to him, and that should also be asked to him, just like a walking Shiwan wise. Therefore, Ji Henyuan is reluctant to take her back like this, even if he still has a lot of things to do. After dinner with Tang Tang, he took her to the mall again. Tang Tang's clothes were still too few to fill a cloakroom. She has to choose by herself. It's better to fill the remaining cloakrooms. Tang Tang, who is curious about everything, is also extremely excited about shopping. She has no idea about money. She only knows that anyway, her brother took her mobile phone and said to swipe and buy at will, so she obediently bought it casually. After shopping in several stores and buying a lot, I went into a women's clothing store. Tang Tang fell in love with a dark red skirt at a glance. Looking back, he saw that Ji Henyuan suddenly received a phone call, so he took the skirt and went to the fitting room to try it on. The fitting room is the kind of overall type. After trying on, you can only look at it in the mirror inside, and you can't wear it out. There are waiters at the door to serve. Tang Tang just went in with a red skirt, met two women face to face, and suddenly looked at her blankly. Seeing the faces of the two people, Tang Tang suddenly felt a tingling sensation in her brain. This feeling made her very uncomfortable and wanted to escape immediately. She immediately entered the compartment with her red dress in her arms. Who would have thought that the two women also chased in? Tang Jiao, you are not dead. The young woman of the two women looked at Tang Tang incredulously and seemed to tremble all over. Another middle-aged woman was obviously much calmer. She patted the young woman on the back and comforted. Ying, it's okay, don't be afraid. Then, his sharp eyes looked straight at Tang Tang. The tone seemed to be calm, but it was mixed with threats and intimidation. Tang Jiao, since it's okay, why don't you go home? Mom and sister don't recognize it, do they? When he said this, Zhao Zufen clenched her drooping hands very tightly. I really don't know how this illegitimate daughter is so lucky. However, what if you are lucky enough not to die once? Whether it's twice or 3 times, she is so bright that she doesn't want to escape from their palms. Everything that belongs to her daughter Ying, she will never allow it to be robbed by Hang Yao, the shameless illegitimate daughter. She doesn't mind. Take Hang Yao to Yan'an Mountain again and push people down again. For her daughter, she, a mother, can give everything. The sudden malice of the two women made Tang Tang very uncomfortable. They called her Hang Geo, and they also called her mother and sister, but she didn't remember anything. She only felt that there was an electric drill in her mind, which made her very uncomfortable and instinctively kept retreating, until the back is heavily against the wall. Tang Gao, don't pretend to be garlic with us. Let's go out with us. Tang Ying, who came back to her senses, grabbed Tang Tang's arm and was about to drag her out. She must take Tang Yao away again. Let her disappear from the world completely. Don't leave hidden dangers. It must not affect her marriage with Muze's brother. However, Tang Tang knocked off Tang Yingying's hand that grabbed her arm, and then frowned and stared at her. Don't touch me. As soon as this lady touches her, she feels sick with her physical and psychological reflexes. Tang Yingying looked at the red mark on her hand that was stamped by Tang Jiao, and her eyes flashed in an instant. Tang Yao, who has always been so docile that he dares not let go, dares to resist her and beat her. Seeing that her precious daughter Tang Yingying's hands were beaten red, Zhao Zufen suddenly became angry. She grabbed Tang Tang's wrist and pulled him out, shouting at the same time, "You rebellious girl, how dare you beat your own sister? Today, I have to teach you a good lesson about etiquette and integrity." At the same time, Ji Henyuan, who made a phone call outside, came in with a frown. Although he is on the phone, he has been paying attention to Tang Tang. He knew that Tang Tang happily took a red skirt into the fitting room, but it had been 3 minutes, and no one had come out yet. Suddenly, the vigilant Ji Henyuan felt something was wrong and hung up the phone in advance and came in. Approaching the fitting room, I heard several people outside talking. It seems that being a mother is teaching her daughter a lesson. That girl is so beautiful, and I don't know why she has such a bad character. According to her mother, she didn't go home and beat her own sister in public. Ouch, ouch. It's already started to fight. Suddenly, there were bursts of screams inside, sharp and harsh, chaotic. In an instant, Ji Henyuan's heart became a ball, his sugar candy. At this moment, he couldn't care about anything anymore and rushed in directly. However, the sight made him stunned. He stared fiercely at the 2 women lying on the ground and screaming. He crossed his arms and said angrily, "I told you not to touch me, but you didn't listen. Then don't blame me for being rude to you." Silent cold abyss. He glanced at the 2 embarrassed women on the ground, and naturally recognized them as Tang Tang's family. However, one is a mother who is not related by blood, and the other is an older sister who is only half related by blood. Suddenly, Tang Tang reflexively raised her eyes and saw Ji Henyuan at a glance. Her eyes lit up and she couldn't wait to run to him, looking at him with bright crescent eyes. "Brother Yuan," calling someone, she realized again that she seemed to self-destructed in age again. Unexpectedly, he hit someone in front of his brother. She bit her lip and lowered her eyes with a guilty heart. It doesn't matter." Ji Henyuan seemed to know what Tang Tang would say. He took her into his arms and interrupted her domineeringly. "You beat them to look up to them, and they should feel honored. Who can't beat his woman in the cold abyss?" The 2 women of the Tang family, Tang Tang thought. Even if she poked the sky out of the basket, he would make up for her. Zhao Zufen and Tang Yingying, who were lying on the ground, were still howling. The moment they saw Ji Henyuan, they were shocked and stopped talking. The man in front of him is extremely noble. Although the brand of the clothes on his body can't be seen, it can be seen that the fabric is excellent and the price must not be low. In addition, the inkjet wrench on his finger. Suddenly, Tang Yingying felt that he was a little familiar, but she couldn't remember it for a moment. But how could this Tang Yaogao suddenly climb into another man? Normally, Tang Yao didn't want to steal Jiang Mu's from her. She should be happy. However, seeing the man in front of me, he is more handsome than Jiang Mu's and nobler than Jiang Mu's. If he is more valuable than Jiang Mu's, then Tang Yingying, wasn't she compared with Tang Yaoying again? No, she will never allow this kind of thing to happen. Tang Yingying turned over and stood up, tidied up her skirt and hair, and smiled politely at Ji Henyuan. "Hello, sir, I'm Tang Yingying, the older sister of Gao Yao." Tang Yingying stretched out her hand to Ji Henyuan. She thought that her appearance was no worse than Tang Yao's. After all, Tang Yaojiu is usually a sullen board, and men can't like her, who has no mood and femininity at all. Jiang Mu's is an example. Therefore, as long as she flirts a little, the man in front of her will definitely be in her pocket. However, Tang Yingying's hand stretched out in mid-air and almost froze. Ji Henyuan suddenly sneered. Her thin lips were slightly raised, and her tone seemed to have a bone-chilling cold. "If you are 1 centimeter closer to me, I'm afraid your hand will break here immediately." Chapter 15. She is his only one. Looking at the man's preciously hugged Tang Yao and walked far away, Tang Yingying couldn't come back to her senses, until Zhao Zufen came to her side and frowned. The man Tang Jiao was looking for was too cruel to speak and act. Even she, who as used to seeing the big world, was shocked by the threat just now, and her back couldn't help tingling. Tang Yingying bit her lip and rubbed her stiff hands, and a strong jealousy flashed in her eyes. "Mom, Who is the man Tang Yaohao hooked up with? Could it be? It was because Tang Jiao was attached to someone more powerful than Jiang Mu's that he deliberately did not return to the Tang family. After all, they directly tore apart the gentle appearance of the past 20 years and directly shed Tang Yao off the cliff. But since she came back unharmed, why don't you go back to the Tang family to settle the score with them? Zhao Zufen naturally took this into account. However, after all, Ginger is still spicy, and she is obviously deeper than Tang Yingying thought. She looked serious and said slowly, Tang Yao's state is a little wrong, but I can't tell what's going on. Maybe they have to find another opportunity to explore Tang Gao again. Back to Gao Villa, Ten still didn't come to his senses. She was alone in the bathtub, and the fragrance of flowers lingered around her, but her mind was still stuffy. Two women I met in the mall. One said she was her mother and the other said she was her sister. She also said that her name is Tang Yao. However, the books and TV she has read recently told her that her family is the person who loves you the most in the world. But the two of them are full of malice towards her. She doesn't remember anything. She is not stupid. They looked at her with disgust, rejection and hatred. Even the first sentence that blurted out was, why didn't she die? However, the harder Ten tried to think about it, the more his brain hurt like a needle. She patted her head, a little upset. Why can't I think of anything? I can't remember my background. If it goes on like this, how can I help Brother Yuan? However, Brother Yuan didn't let her treat. It is said that the medicine is 3 parts poison, which is not good for her health. She knew that Yuan's brother would consider everything for her, but she couldn't be so selfish, and she would have to pay for her brother. She doesn't want to wait passively. The next second, Ten immediately took a shower and came out of the bathtub and made up his mind. She wants to contact Lin Qingmian secretly and ask him to give her acupuncture treatment. As long as you don't take medicine for treatment, it should not be a lie to your brother, right? A few days later, Ji Henyuan went out with Ten. Recently, Ji Henyuan has been very busy. Ten can't see him until the evening, so he took himself out today. Ten was very happy. In the car, she hugged Ji Henyuan's waist, looked at him with bright eyes, and said in a tone, Brother Yuan, are you going to take Ten out to play? Hearing the sound, Ji Henyuan suddenly smiled, and unspeakable complex emotions flashed in his deep eyes. Then, he rubbed Ten's head with his big palm and said in a low voice, well, I'll take you to see a good play. If you provoke him and don't make a good show to give it back to others, how can he continue to hang out on the town? By the way, Ji Henyuan rubbed Ten in his arms and asked, why have you been calling me Brother Yuan recently? This little sweet sugar always called brother at the beginning. Suddenly, he began to call Brother Yuan. It seems that it has been called that recently. At this time, Ten bit his lip and said in a low voice without confidence, I don't know if anyone else will call you brother, but I just think I want something special. In this way, it can leave a more special place in my brother's heart. After all, the woman named Zhou that they called the fourth brother one by one. In case there are other women like this who also call him brother by word. Ten admits that he is small-minded, possessive, and very easy to be jealous. She is very selfish and wants her brother to belong only to her. Listening to the explanation of the little fudge in his arms, seeing her aggrieved and pitiful look, Ji Henyuan understood in an instant. It turns out that the little girl is still jealous of Zhou Ruxu. In an instant, Ji Henyuan was in a good mood. It seems that his sugar likes him more and more. That's why I'm jealous and awkwardly change my name. Ji Henyuan held Ten's soft cheeks and looked at her with gentle eyes. Silly girl, don't worry, you are the only one from beginning to end. Whether in his eyes or in his heart, she was the only one from beginning to end. She is his only and his everything. He will only love Tang Gao for the rest of his life. Hearing the comfort of Ji Henyuan, Ten smiled softly. She felt that her heart was gently brushed by feathers, crisp and numb. His brother always treats her so gently. It's always so easy that it can make her heart pound and addicted to him. Ten leaned in the arms of Ji Henyuan with peace of mind and thought to himself, she accidentally fell into the water and lost her memory, but she was lucky enough to meet her brother. It turns out that God is really fair. In the future, she will also love her brother Yuan very much. I also gave him all her sincerity and her people. Even if the memory is restored, it will not change the original intention. At the same time, in the banquet hall of a 5-star hotel under the Ji family, it is very because today is the 30th birthday of Ji Mingpen, the third master of the Ji family. At the same time, it is also his celebration banquet. In the real estate industry under the Jijia he managed, the real estate he invested in sold well as soon as it opened and made a lot of money. Today is also his most enthusiastic day. He is ranked third, and his position is not up or down, and he is not the most core industry of the Ji family, but he did so well that he obviously gave himself a harsh PR. In addition, his wife was found to be pregnant recently. 3 joys are coming, and Ji Mingpeng is a visible spirit. Today, as the only protagonist, he is also receiving everyone's praise and congratulations. At this moment, with an exclamation, the lively banquet hall suddenly became quiet. Everyone looked at the door with the eyes of the people around them. Suddenly, they all took a breath of cold air. I saw Ji Henyuan, wearing a black street suit, with a long figure and noble temperament, and, stepping in, he is domineering and cold around him. His expressionless but handsome face seems to be writing 4 big words that I'm not easy to mess with. Just like the emperors in ancient times, they are noble and domineering, and people can't help but want to submit. In an instant, everyone was shocked. The long disappeared Ji Henyuan suddenly came back. Does this mean that the capital is going to set off a bloody storm again? However, what's weirder is Ji Henyuan is still holding a woman. Chapter 16. The fairy couple came to blow up the scene. The woman beside Ji Henyuan, wearing a light purple long dress, is dreamy and elegant. Although the skirt is conservative and long-sleeved, the skirt is ankle length, and everywhere is tightly covered. However, it still can't hide the graceful figure of this woman. The slender waist is not full of a grip. Exquisite collarbone, white and charming. Even the exposed ankles are too beautiful. Not to mention head face, flexible eyes, red lips, ice muscles and jade bones. When people just look at it, 4 words can't help but appear in their minds. Human beauty. For a moment, everyone seemed to forget the shock brought by the sudden return of Ji Henyuan to China, and was immersed in the picture of this talented woman. This is also, too eye-catching. This pair of people seems to come out of the painting. Wow, my eyes are going to be pregnant. Where did the little fairy come from? Pure and lustful. Ooh ooh ooh. I love her face. Abstinence cold boss vs pure lust delicate beauty. My god, who can understand how I want to knock on CP? But, did everyone ignore a little important information? GCI, isn't he? Never close to women. In those years, there was a celebrity from a rich family who designed a bed to climb the abyss of silence. As a result, the person was directly beaten and thrown back to her own gate. Since then, there has been no name of this girl in the capital. The Tai family can only break their teeth and swallow it into their stomachs. After all, who made him a cold abyss? They can't afford to provoke at all. Gradually, everyone also knows that no matter how beautiful you are, how good your family is, how excellent you are, or how good you are at hooking with men, you can't do anything in front of Ji Henyuan. Because of him, I don't like women at all. However, at this time, Ji Henyuan held the hand of the girl beside him tightly. Suddenly, Ji Henyuan directly grabbed the girl's slender waist with his big hand and fished her into his arms to hide. He leaned over to Tang Tang's ear and said possessively, Tang Tang, I regret taking you out. Everyone is watching his sugar. The way they looked at her made him very uncomfortable. A group of ignorant ants. How can they be qualified to count his Tang Tang's beauty? They don't even deserve to give her shoes. Tang Tang leaned shyly in the arms of Ji Henyuan. She also noticed that these people were looking at them. Some are amazing, some are jealous, and even many malicious glances. At the same time, Tang Tang also noticed. Today turned out to be Ji Mingpeng's 30th birthday. These days, Lin Jiren will come to give her acupuncture every day. Because Lin Qingmian didn't dare to touch her, he was hiding it from Brother Yuan. If he still touched her, Brother Yuan would know. He was afraid that his hands would be ruined by her Brother Yuan, so he taught Lin Jiren how to acupuncture and asked Lin Jiren to treat her. Originally, there were a few specific acupoints. In addition, Lin Jiren was extremely talented. At the beginning, Lin Qingmian personally guided her. After several times, Lin Jiren can treat her independently. At the same time, when Lin Qingmian was away, Lin Jiren also told her a lot of things about the silent family. Therefore, she also feels more sorry for Ji Henyuan. It turned out that her brother Yuan's relationship with his family was very bad. It's very pitiful. Obviously his mother is the wife his father Ming Media is marrying, the real wife of the silent family. However, his father has always liked another woman, whether before or after marriage. He has always been close to her and constantly disobeys his family for her. He even gave birth to 3 sons in a row, who were older than Ji Henyuan. What's more, later, Ji Henyuan's biological mother went crazy and was sent to a nursing home, and this woman went directly to the hall and entered the room. Now, she has become the old lady of the silent family that everyone praises and respects. Therefore, Ji Henyuan left the Ji family when he was young and came out to work hard alone. Does that family have any other meaning for him except a surname? For him, it only hurt. So Tang Tang was still a little surprised to notice that today was Ji Mingpeng's birthday party. Brother Yuan, didn't you say you would take her to the play? Why, came here. At this time, when Ji Mingpeng in the banquet center saw Ji Henyuan, his face was so dark that he seemed to drip water. His wife Zhou Ruli frowned and said, Mingpeng, why don't I know when he returned to China? Did you invite him? Ji Mingpeng sneered and looked at Ji Henyuan with gloomy eyes. You are pregnant, and I don't want to tell you these dirty things to distract you. But today, I didn't invite him. He is originally straightforward, and he doesn't want to maintain a seemingly harmonious brotherly relationship with Ji Henyuan like the eldest brother and the second brother. A bad relationship is a bad relationship. It's not a mother's birth, and his mother has occupied the position that should have belonged to their mother for so long. How can they have a good relationship? He can't wait for Ji Henyuan to die outside as soon as possible. How can you invite Ji Henyuan to his happy day? However, today there are too many people in heaven, and Ji He are all powerful and celebrities. No matter how much he hates the Silence Cold Abyss, he can't lose the face of the Silence family in front of so many people. Therefore, he had to go to the Silent Cold Abyss, hooked his lips and smiled falsely, and his words were all polite. Fourth brother, I haven't seen you for a long time. Why did you go back to China and didn't say a word to the third brother? Ji Henyuan hugged Tang Tang in one hand, hid the little man in his arms, and played with the moil wrench finger in his hand with the other hand. He raised his eyes and glanced at Ji Mingpeng. In his deep eyes, there seemed to be a depth that could see through everything. I told you in advance. How can I surprise you? After all, he brought Tang Tang here, so that Tang Tang could see it with his own eyes, and he personally avenged them. The dream they hugged and slept together on the first night but didn't finish it, which must be doubled. For them, surprise. Ji Mingpeng's eyelids jumped, and suddenly there was a bad premonition. The surprise from the mouth of Ji Henyuan. Can that be an ordinary surprise? What on earth does he want to do today? However, Zhou Ruxu, who has been by Zhou Ruli's side and stares at Ji Henyuan, heard Ji Henyuan's words. His eyes suddenly lit up. For, she originally blurted out and wanted to call the fourth brother. However, she noticed the girl in Ji Henyuan's arms and remembered the humiliation. And of that day, her tongue was knotted and forced for several times before she could understand the words clearly. Fourth master, you and my brother-in-law have a good relationship. Did you suddenly come back from abroad to celebrate your brother-in-law's 30th birthday? As soon as Zhou Ruxu said this, Zhou Ruli immediately pinched her hand. She has always been used to her sister. She didn't tell her many things, hoping that she could grow up innocently and carefree. But I didn't expect that this girl would say such a thing in public. Sure enough, Ji Mingpeng glared at Zhou Ruli and Zhou Ruxu. Zhou Ruli was suddenly shocked and quickly said, it doesn't matter if you are surprised or not. It's good if the person comes. We have received your heart. The fourth master, everyone in the Ji family also misses you. You have to remember to go home and have a look later. However, Ji Henyuan had no intention of picking up her round field and handing over the steps. On the contrary, after sneering, he raised his eyes and glanced at her. That deep look, there is such a trace. Sympathy. Zhou Ruli noticed Ji Henyuan's eyes, and her eyebrows jumped, and there was a bad premonition for no reason. Then, I only heard him say in a cold voice, I heard that you have been promoted to be parents. Chapter 17. What on earth does my brother want to do? Tearing open the shiny appearance. When Ji Henyuan said this, not only Zhou Ruli had a bad intuition, but also Ji Mingpeng's eyelids jumped straight. Although Zhou Ruli is was pregnant, but because the month was short, it was only more than a month, Mrs. Ji didn't let them reveal it, lest Zhou Ruli could not sit unsteadily. It's because, except for their own family members, no one knows about Zhou Ruli's pregnancy. So, how did Ji Henyuan know? What do you mean? Ji Mingpeng asked directly with an unpleasant attitude, staring straight at Ji Henyuan with hot eyes. If not, Ji Henyuan still planted eyeliner around them and stared at their every move. This damn bastard. I knew that he would never die, and he was uneasy and kind. Oh, Ji Henyuan only sneered, lowered his head and wrenched the moil finger in his hand, and said nothing. However, his sneer made many people around him goosebumps, and even felt a numb feeling of scalp for no reason. Even Tang Tang raised his eyes suspiciously and looked at the silent cold abyss. Ji Henyuan seemed to notice the movement of Ji. He little fudge in his arms, and lowered his eyes to give her a soothing look. It seems that everything has been calculated. and he is firmly in his palm. Ten Ten was instantly aroused by curiosity. Brother, what on earth are you going to do? Just then, there was a sudden noise at the door. A sharp and excited female voice cut through the crowd and accurately reached everyone's ears. Ji Mingpeng, you don't care if your son has a high fever. You are here to show your love to your wife to celebrate your 30th birthday. My son is 2 years old. You promised to marry me into the door of the Ji family. You don't plan to achieve it, do you? Now that your wife is pregnant, you don't care about us, do you? Suddenly, everyone was dumbfounded. The woman who suddenly appeared was still holding a little boy who looked about 2 years old in her arms. But the little boy looks particularly weak at this moment because of a high fever. Pitifully weak. She rushed in while shouting, and almost everyone looked at the little boy in her arms curiously. Suddenly, everyone was extremely shocked. This little boy looks exactly the same as Ji Mingpeng, at least 6 or 7 points similar, right? Just by looking at it, people feel that they are the living father and son. At the same time, several security guards chased behind, looking anxious, but obviously did not stop the mother and son. And now, this embarrassing situation has been created. What's the use of stopping them? The brick HT surface of the banquet is destined to be torn apart. The darkness inside is so nakedly exposed in front of everyone. In an instant, Zhou Ruli's face turned pale, and she looked at Ji Mingpeng incredulously. Although the two of them were also family marriages, it was Ji Mingpeng who chased her for a long time and begged her to marry him. Finish unexpectedly, the Zhou family has been involved in the real estate industry for more than 20 years. At that time, Ji Mingpeng, who was in charge of the family's real estate business at the beginning, was very helpful. It can be said that he can come to this day and make such great achievements in his career, thanks to the Zhou family. Of course, among them, she went to her mother's house to talk to him. Naturally, she is also willing, because in her heart, Ji Mingpeng is her good man and the lover she wants to spend the rest of her life with. She wants to do her best to help him. After all, she always felt that he was better to her. She hasn't been pregnant since they got married for 4 years. Her mother-in-law is urging her, and many people have said bad things, and even doubted whether there is something wrong with her. At this time, Ji Mingpeng always gently comforted her and told her that it was okay and that he was not in a hurry to have a child. Even as long as she is by his side, he is willing to do not have children, because he loves her as a person. He is always so gentle and so good. Therefore, every time he comforted her, she would feel more self-reproach and guilty, and at the same time let the Zhou family help him more. After all, he is 30 years old, and she hasn't given birth to a child that belongs to him yet. As a result, unexpectedly, he has already had an illegitimate child, and the child is already 2 years old. No wonder he is not in a hurry to have a child. It turns out that he has already become a father outside. No wonder he always coaxed her that it's okay if she doesn't have children in her whole life, because he already has a son to pass on to him. Now that I think about it, Zhou Ruli only feels disgusting. It's disgusting how moved she was at the beginning, how disgusting she is now. Zhou Ruli was shaky and retreated one after another. She couldn't believe that the man who lay beside her every day and gently coaxed her was a scumbag who was full of lies and had been cheating on her. She looked at Ji Mingpeng's eyes, which had changed from shock to despair, pain and disgust. Seeing this, Ji Mingpeng was so anxious that he hurriedly said, "Lily, listen to my explanation to you." However, he stretched out to grab Zhou Ruli's hand, but was slapped off by Zhou Ruli's palm. Liar, divorce. I want to divorce you. What kind of mountain alliance and sea oath? What kind of only you are all fake? It's fake. The men of the Ji family have simply inherited the irony and inferiority of the old men of the Ji family, one at home and one outside. He also had an illegitimate child outside before his wife gave birth to a child. Disgusting. It's disgusting. Suddenly, there were bursts of tingling in Zhou Ruli's abdomen. She stroked her stomach, and she was in a particularly bad condition. Lily, when Ji Mingpeng saw Zhou Ruli's shaky appearance, he hurried to help her. The sudden change caught him off guard, and he didn't know what to do for a moment. I just want to appease Zhou Ruli quickly. However, just then, baby, my baby, 感叹号. The little boy in the woman's arms began to convulse. Ji Mingpeng, baby, what's wrong with this? Baby, my baby. In an instant, Ji Mingpeng saw the little boy's convulsions and blue face. Unexpectedly, he ignored Zhou Ruli, rushed to the woman's side and hugged the little boy. Baby, don't scare Dad. Dad will take you to the hospital. Brother-in-law. Zhou Ruxu looked at Ji Mingpeng incredulously and left with the woman and the illegitimate son. She completely ignored her sister. She called her brother-in-law several times in a row and almost chased her, but was stopped by Zhou Ruli. Zhou Ruli's face turned pale, hugged Zhou Ruxu, and said in despair, "Don't shout, Zuir. In the eyes of men, sons are always the most important." Omer, Ruji gave birth to 3 sons for him because the woman outside gave birth to him first, completely ignoring his wife, like her own father, who praised sons over daughters, took her and her sister as a marriage mission, and all the family business was prepared to be left to her brother. What's more, she is just a woman. How can she compare with his real blood relationship? And in her belly, it's just a fetus that hasn't yet been formed. I don't know whether it's a son or a daughter. Oh, she really said that she was shrewd, but as a result, in fact, he was so stupid that he easily believed men's nonsense. She knew so many truths, but she still didn't bypass a woman's fate. She thought, she was destined to marry the right person. After all, Ji Mingpeng is different from other men. He is gentle and considerate. He knows that it is not easy for her. He loves her and loves her. But now, oh, it's fake. It's all fake. There are no good men in the world. Suddenly, Zhou Ruxu exclaimed, "Ah, sister, you are bleeding. Hurry up. Quickly call Yi Erling." Chapter 18. He didn't allow her to leave his side for a second. Zhou Ruxu was caught off guard and quickly sent Zhou Ruli to the hospital. Everyone didn't expect that it would be like this today. After a while of noise, the originally grand and lively birthday banquet has completely become a gossip for everyone in the capital. Ji Mingpeng, the third master of the dignified Ji family, has a successful career, a beautiful wife and love. As a result, he has already had an illegitimate child outside. When the lover was in a big fuss, he ignored his wife who was bleeding, but went to his lover and his illegitimate son. The can almost be said to be unscrupulous, which directly makes him the object of everyone's contempt. At the beginning, Ji Mingpeng was so enthusiastic, but now he is so famous. The party became so noisy that the protagonist went to the hospital, and everyone broke up. The lively banquet hall returned to calm. Ten watched the play in the arms of Ji Henyuan, and then realized it. Brother Yuan, the mastermind behind the assassination of our people in black who was sent to Gaoyao Villa that day. I was Ji Mingpeng. Ji Henyuan hooked his lips and smiled, rubbing the sweet sugar's head in his arms. Why are you so smart? The little head is full of wisdom. Ten blinked his eyes and suddenly realized. It turns out that this is what my brother said about watching the play. This scene is really good. She is happy to see that these people who are bad to Brother Ewan have been punished. I can't even wait to step on it a few more times and vent my anger to my brother. What's more, a big bad guy like Ji Mingpeng not only tried to kill her brother Ewan, but also failed his wife. It should be exposed. Let everyone know how disgusting he is. However, Ji Henyuan suddenly said deeply and unpredictably, Ji Mingpeng is just an open messenger. Ten blinked his crescent eyes in surprise. Could it be that there were other people behind it? Silly girl, don't think about it. Ji Henyuan rubbed Ten's head fiercely. Your cute head is not used to think about these rotten people. Suddenly, Ji Henyuan leaned over and approached Ten. His thin and cool fingers gently touched her soft lips. His deep eyes looked straight at her, and his voice was very low. Think about me more. In an instant, Ten felt that his ears were red. Brother, obviously, she is by his side, but he still wants to think of him. How can he be so domineering? Moreover, he also rubbed his lips. Cool, crisp. It's like bringing a small current. Reflexively, Ten thought of the unfinished first kiss that day, and for a moment, her cheeks were also hot. I'm going to the toilet. Ten came out of the arms of the cold abyss flexibly like a little loach, and then jumped away like a little rabbit. Looking at the cute and running back of the little gummy candy, Ji Henyuan couldn't help laughing. I wanted to follow him to the bathroom and guard his little fudge. After all, if she is outside the Gaoyao Villa and leaves his side for a second, he'll feel sick and insecure. If he was in his absence, his Ten suddenly recovered his memory, remembered something, didn't want him, and even left him like this. What should he do? However, Zhao Gang suddenly came over and urgently reported something to Ji Henyuan. In an instant, Ji Henyuan's face was solemn. Ten jumped to the toilet alone and entered the compartment. She was full of her first kiss with Brother Yuan, and she didn't notice that 2 women followed behind her. Seeing Tang Yueling go into the toilet, Tang Yingding bit her lip, and her eyes were full of jealousy and hatred. Mom, why did Tang Yuejiu come to the birthday banquet of Ji Senai? How does she have this qualification? Even they are qualified to come because she climbed up to Jiang Mu's. After all, their Tang family is just a lost family, and they have been going downhill over the years. Even if her father Tang Yueo who unexpectedly got rich in those years, he obviously lacked the ability to take their Tang family into the upper class society. Not to mention that the business has not yet made any better, the investment has been failing, and the family's wealth is getting thinner and thinner. Therefore, the mother and daughter had to plan for themselves. After all, if you are used to living the life of a celebrity and a noble woman, you can't accept that you have become a countryman whom they despised before. At this time, Zhao Zufen shook her head and said solemnly, "Who made us unlucky? There was a car accident on the road, and we were half an hour late. Unexpectedly, we had just arrived, and even the banquet had ended, and we didn't know what had happened. It was a great opportunity to make friends with upper-class celebrities, but it was affected by an accidental car accident. Although it was just a tailgating, the other party had been indomitable and asked them for compensation, causing them to be half an hour late." The more Tang Yingying thought about it, the more angry she felt. At this time, I saw Tang Geojiu, who was obviously full of happiness in the empty banquet hall. Can she not be angry? What if this bitch climbs into the silent house while they are away from the party today? I'm going to catch her. Tang Yingying was about to rush into the toilet, but he was caught by Zhao Zufen. "Don't worry, Yingying." Zhao Zufen flashed a shrewd light in her eyes. She sneered, and then whispered a few words in Tang Yingying's ear. Tang Yingying suddenly realized in an instant, and then hooked her lips and smiled. At the bottom of the eye, it is inevitable. The next second, she skillfully switched the expression on her face and turned back to the gentle and kind celebrity lady in a second. Hearing the movement inside, she walked in and met Tang Tang in front of her. She was surprised. "Gao Gao, why are you here? What a coincidence." As soon as she saw Tang Yingying, Tang Tang instantly felt uncomfortable all over. She ignored her and was about to go out after washing her hands. However, Zhao Zufen blocked the door. She smiled gently and looked at Tang Tang with great kindness, and her tone was very gentle. "Gao Gao, what happened that day was a misunderstanding. You and Sister Yingying have always wanted to find a chance to explain to you, but we have been calling you all the time, and we can't find your person. I happened to meet you here today. Obviously, God wants to give us a good opportunity to make up. You can give us a few minutes and let us explain it to you, okay?" The tone is gentle and kind, like the image of a loving mother. If it weren't for an instinctive rejection in her body, Zhao Zufen and Tang Yingying's gentle and kind appearance, coupled with her memory loss and can't remember anything, wouldn't she be deceived in minutes? But she just lost her memory, not her mind. Who is good to her and who is not good to her? Tang Tang is clear in her heart. The next second, Tang Tang shook his head firmly and said indifferently, "I'm sorry, I have something to do, so I'll go first." It's right. However, Zhao Zufen blocked the door and didn't let Tang Tang leave. Chapter 19. I miss him for a second. Tang Tang frowned. "This lady, I advise you not to stop me, otherwise, I don't guarantee that what happened that day will happen again today." When Tang Tang said this, he was very indifferent, and his whole body was like a copy of the cold abyss, which made people's heart tremble. Zhao Zufen was frightened in an instant, and her bone and joint reflex hurt, and she almost couldn't help but retreat directly. However, she tried to stabilize herself. Seeing Tang Yao's current reaction and her domineering appearance, she was more sure that Tang Yao's memory may have lost her memory. "So, I don't remember them at all." So she asked tentatively again, "Gaoio, since you don't want to listen to Aunt Zhao's explanation, and Zhao won't bother you much, but it's your sister Yingying's engagement party in 2 days. This is the most important day in her life, and I also hope your sister can come to bless her. So, can you go then?" After Zhao Zufen finished speaking, Tang Yingying immediately came over and stared at Tang Yao. "Gao Gao, our sisters grew up together and even slept in the same bed. The relationship is so good. Now that my sister has found her own happiness, I hope you can witness it together, okay?" Looking at Zhao Zufen and Tang Yingying in front of her, Tang Tang lowered her eyes and her eyelashes trembled slightly. The more gentle and kind they are, the more uncomfortable she feels. "Even, I feel nauseous in my stomach and want to vomit." Tang Yingying said that she was still sleeping in the same bed with Tang Yingying. Tang Tang only felt incredible. How could she sleep in the same bed with Tang Yingying? In this life, she can only accept sleeping in the same quilt with her brother Alun. Others don't think about it. What's more, they treated her so maliciously when she was in the mall last time, and today, it's like a new person. Isn't it clear to dig a hole for her to jump? And the engagement banquet, why do you have to go to her? She won't go. The next second, Tang Tang stretched out his hand directly and pushed Zhao Zufen away. Although she felt that she obviously didn't use much force, Zhao Zufen was directly pushed 2 or 3 meters away by her. She stepped on her high heels and almost stumbled to the ground. Tang Yingying quickly held Zhao Zufen and stared at Tang Yao incredulously. "Tang Yao, don't toast. If you don't eat, you will be punished. Why do you push my mother?" Tang Tang looked down at his hand and still felt sick. So while washing his hands, he said indifferently. Sorry, I don't eat whether it's a toast or a penalty. In the future, please stay away from me. Otherwise, she can't control her hands that are somehow strong. Potting down the harsh words, Tang Tang strode away directly. She is too lazy to waste her energy on these people. Until she recovers her memory, she will never believe anyone's words, even if they say they are her mother and sister. In the whole world, she only believes in her brother Alan. What's more, with this time to talk nonsense with them, she might as well stick to her brother Alan. After all, she misses him again after only a few minutes of seeing him. Her brother Ye should have waited for a long time. Tang Tang couldn't wait to rush to Jihenyuan, but found that Jihenyuan was talking to Zhao Gang, and even his face was solemn. It's like they are talking about something very important but not very good. So Tang Tang slowed down and waited quietly. However, Jihenyuan noticed his sugar at a glance. He immediately restrained his serious look and walked to Tang Tang. Come here. The low tone seems to be sandwiched with gentle strings. Tang Tang suddenly burst into laughter and ran to the silent abyss excitedly. Jihenyuan hooked his lips, opened his hands, and Tang Tang rushed straight into his arm, as with a smile. At this moment, Zhao Gang, who was beside him, was blinded. He reflexed forward in his mind, two-way running. It turns out that the two-way love is really so sweet. Jihenyuan held the little gummy in his arms tightly, rubbed the head of Tang Tang Xingxiang, and said in a low voice, "Let's go home." Well, Tang Tang leaned on his chest and nodded obediently. Well, when I go home, I'm still with my brother, the best and warmest. She is no longer curious about the people and I'm outside. She just wants to stay by her brother's side and wait for him to get off work at home every day. In her world, he alone is enough. What Tang Yunbing and Zhao Zufen, how far away they are, don't pay attention to her. However, she doesn't want to pay attention to it. But it doesn't mean that these dog skin plasters will not be applied by themselves. At this time, Zhao Zufen said with an angry face and said fiercely, I don't know what this damn Tang Gaoil has done. Her strength has become so great. It's so painful. Mom, Tang Yunbing frowned. This bitch used to dare not let go of a weak personality. Now why is she tough with us every time? And this time we have all put our attitude so well. In the past, she would have been led away by us. Now, I'm really worried about her amnesia and becoming so rough. If one day she suddenly remembers that we pushed her off the cliff, will she? Yunbing, don't be afraid. Zhao Zufen interrupted her, took Tang Yunbing's hand, and patted her soothingly. With my mother here, I won't let this kind of thing happen. Besides, oh, Zhao Zufen sneered, and the inevitable light flashed in her eyes. As long as she dares to come to your engagement banquet, I will definitely want her. And there will be no return. The next day, Gaoil Villa, Lin Qingmian and Lin Jiren came to check Jihenyuan and Tang Tang's health as usual. Now that Tang Tang is here, Lin Qingmian will basically take Lin Jiren with him when he comes over. There is nothing he can do. Someone is too possessive. In order to protect himself, he can only work hard for his cousin to follow him back and forth. What's more, in order to escape for her, he chased. And his play of flying with wings could be stitched as soon as possible. He must take Lin Jiren to give Tang Tang acupuncture. Fortunately, his cousin Lin Jiren is kind. She doesn't mind taking time out of her busy schedule to come to Gaoil Villa, and she has to risk being angry by Jihenyuan at any time. However, Lin Jiren seems to have a good relationship with Tang Tang and is also willing to come over. When she came to Gaoil Villa today, Lin Jiren did not go directly to find Tang Tang, but followed Lin Qingmian into the study of Jihenyuan. Lin Qingmian realized it with hindsight and looked at Lin Jiren suspiciously. Lin Jiren's face was solemn and he said seriously, Cousin, you didn't go to the party of the third master yesterday. I heard some rumors about Tang Tang at the scene. I think it's urgent and I must come and report to the fourth master. Hearing the words, Lin Qingmian's eyebrows jumped. It was about Tang Tang, and he didn't dare to be vague. So he took Lin Jiren into the study of Jihenyuan. Lin Jiren went in and saw Jihenyuan in black in front of the desk at first sight, and her heart was pounding. He is still so noble, handsome and extraordinary. There is no more outstanding man in the world than him. Lin Jiren held back all her emotions, took a deep breath, and then calmly reported, Fourth Master, when I heard someone say Tang at the banquet yesterday, I called Tang Yaojiu. After that, I went back to check and found that Tang was indeed the second lady of the Tang family, Tang Yaojiu. After a pause for 2 seconds, she added another sentence, I live on the other side of Xianshan Road, and there is a Tang family of a lukewarm furniture company at home. Lin Qingmian raised his eyebrows in surprise. The Tang family on Xianshan Road make furniture. Which Tang family is this? Why haven't I heard of it? Lin Jiren covered the emotions in her eyes and said, it's not the Tang family of the second-rate family. The image is that it is just a small family that they have never heard of. Suddenly, Lin Qingmian frowned. Goodbye. He has always been inclined to think that Tang Tang must come from some secluded family. After all, he has never really seen Tang Tang in the upper class of the capital. However, Tang Tang was born so beautiful and has her own princess temperament. How can she come from an ordinary background? As a result, now, his life is so ordinary to almost. It is not enough to match with Ji Henyuan, let alone bring any help to Ji Henyuan. Now several people of the Ji family are staring at him, and there are so many forces staring at him on the road. Suddenly, Lin Qingmian couldn't help looking at Ji Henyuan. Now, Ji Henyuan knows Tang Tang's background. What kind of attitude should he have? Will he start from chaos to end? Chapter 20. His Tang Tang is the best girl in the world. At the same time, Lin Jiren also looked at the Ji Henyuan. Her heartbeat couldn't help but accelerate. Her hands hung on her side, and she couldn't help tightening. As long as he begins to dislike Tang Yao's background, slowly, he will definitely no longer like Tang Yao's background. What else is that Tang Gao's beauty? He has an ordinary background, a delicate personality. He sticks to the quiet cold abyss every day, and he doesn't know anything. It's just that he doesn't help him at all. He will even drag him down and only play in bed. The ways of things. This kind of woman, what is worthy of Ji Henyuan? She just wants to stop the loss as soon as possible. In this way, only then can she have a chance to let herself be seen by him. However, when Lin Jiren looked at Ji Henyuan nervously with high expectation, Ji Henyuan stopped. Then he raised his eyes, but he didn't look at Lin Jiren, but looked at Lin Qingmian instead. The deep eyes are so cold that there seems to be no trace of temperature. Lin Qingmian, when will elect people be allowed to come in my study? In a sentence, with a deep atmosphere of deterrence and horror, Lin Jiren's expectation suddenly sank to the bottom. She admitted that she had expected it. Would Ji Henyuan also take a look at her, and even say a word to her and praise her, even if it was because of Tang Gao's matter? But he still didn't even look at her. Even on the surface, she was talking to Lin Qingmian, but the threat in that words came to her as much as possible. He was warning her that she could come to Gao Villa entirely because she was still a little useful and could examine Tang Yao's body. If it weren't for Tang Gao, she wouldn't even be qualified to step into the Yao Villa. Today, she walked into the study as an irrelevant person. Obviously, she had touched the scales of the silent cold abyss. She couldn't eat a handful of rice, which disgusted him. Similarly, Lin Qingmian was also shocked and quickly grabbed Lin Jiren and dragged him out. Jiren, you go and show Tang Tang's body first. In the future, don't worry about anything about Tang Tang except her body. Go. As Lin Qingmian said, he urgently pushed Lin Jiren out, clicked and closed the door heavily. Lin Qingmian looked at the dark-faced Ji Henyuan intimidation and apology. I'm sorry, Henyuan. I thought it was about Tang Tang, so I asked Jiren to come in with me. Ji Henyuan sneered and said coldly, if she is not your cousin, do you think she can still get out alive? In his study, except for Tang Tang, what qualifications do women have to come in? Do you need others to spy on his sugar to report to him? In the bottom of his heart, his sugar is the best girl in the world. What's the matter with your background? What's more, he has always felt that her disgusting family members are not worthy of her, but for some special reasons, she has always been grateful to them, so he has never touched the Tang family. Now Tang Tang has lost her memory, which just allows her to draw a line with those rotten people. It's great. What he wants, from beginning to end, is just Tang Yao's person. Lin Qingmian knew that he had missed the consideration this time, and did not mention Tang Tang's background again. Heoki lowered his head and coaxed humbly, and changed the topic to talk about the poison in their bodies. At the same time, Lin Jiren, who was pushed out of the study, only felt that his whole body was cold, and the rest of his life was robbed. Just now, Ji Henyuan really wanted to kill her. However, she was thinking, was it because she entered the study, or because she mentioned Tang Yao's matter? Lin Jiren bit her lip and went to Tang Tang's room again. Tang Tang, who was bored, suddenly smiled when he saw Lin Jiren. Jiren, here you are. Lin Jiren risked being discovered by Ji Henyuan and took time to give her acupuncture almost every time. It's not like that, but Lin Jiren still helped her like this. Tang Tang is naturally grateful. What's more, it's boring for her to stay alone in such a big villa every day. Of course, she is happy to have someone to talk to. Lin Jiren also smiled generously and said gently, I think my cousin and the fourth master still have something important to say. so I should still have time to give you acupuncture today. Really? Ten Ten's eyes suddenly lit up and said excitedly, that's great. Ten Ten immediately lay down on the sofa chair obediently, and then said, Jiren, why can't you think of anything when you say I've had acupuncture so many times? Although she doesn't want to have an intersection with Tang Yunbing and Zhao Zufen, she thinks that amnesia is also good. However, she is more worried about the poison in her brother Yuan's body. Seeing her brother take so many medicines to suppress the toxicity in her body every day, she was heartbroken. Her brother loves her, so he knows that the medicine is 3 parts poison. Even if she has not recovered her memory and let him take care of her like this, he doesn't want her to take medicine casually, for fear of affecting her body. But what about himself? He takes medicine one by one every day. How can she not feel distressed? After all, she loves her brother more. Therefore, even if you recover your memory, you will think of some bad things and come into contact with some bad people. But Ten Ten is still extremely firm and righteous. She must recover her memory as soon as possible. Lin Jiren skillfully took out the silver needle box and slowly inserted the sugar into the acupoint. Traditional Chinese medicine is generally slow. Acupuncture and moxibustion alone must be more time. If you are in a hurry, I can bring you some medicine quietly. Western medicine will take effect quickly. Hearing the word RDS, Ten Ten bit his lip and fell into entanglement. However, it was her fault to treat her without her brother's knowledge. After all, you should have no reservations about the person you love. My brother also said that the medicine was 3 parts poison, and she was not allowed to take the medicine. She took advantage of the loophole and chose acupuncture, as if she had not disobeyed her brother's words. Forget it. Ten Ten compromised. I won't take the medicine for now. I'll wait patiently. An obscure light suddenly flashed in Lin Jiren's eyes, and she lowered her eyes to cover it. Well, just send me a message whenever you want to take medicine. After a few seconds, she suddenly pretended to be speechless. Ten Ten, there is something that I don't know whether to tell you or not. Ten Ten blinked. What's the matter? Jiren, you say it. Lin Jiren pursed his lips and said hesitantly, I seem to know your background by accident. In an instant, Ten Ten's eyebrows jumped. She bit her lip and was silent for a long time before she said slowly, actually, I knew it a long time ago. Now, it was Lin Jiren's turn to be surprised. Have you recovered your memory? No. Ten Ten shook her head. I just met 2 family members. And then I checked on the internet and found it. She didn't know what was wrong with her. She always knew something strange inexplicably. Even if she doesn't remember anything, there will always be some instinctive reactions when she touches those things. For example, the gun that day. For example, when she touches the computer, she can subconsciously type out a lot of strange codes. Therefore, after knowing Zhao Zufen and Tang Yunbing, she found out some private things of the Tang family from the computer, which was almost a trivial matter for her. So she also knows her background. It's really hard to say. Because of this, she doesn't want to investigate more things about the Tang family, let alone take care of it. If it weren't for Brother Yuan, she really hoped that she would never recover her memory in her life. At the same time, Lin Jiren looked at Ten Ten's expression and always felt that her reaction was a little strange. She thought for a moment and subconsciously said tentatively, in 2 days, it seems to be the engagement party between your sister and Jiang Mu's. It just so happens that our family and the Jiang family still have a little friendship, so they also invited my family. Ten Ten, if I want to go, I can accompany you. No, Jiren, I don't want to go. Ten Ten directly interrupted Lin Jiren, and his attitude suddenly became extremely indifferent. He said straight, Jiren, don't talk to me about the Tang family in the future. Thank you. After saying this, she closed her eyes directly and made it clear that she didn't want to talk anymore. For some reason, she always felt that Lin Jiren said something strangely today, and there was a feeling that she couldn't say it, which made her very rejected. Seeing that Tang Yuejio directly turned his face and stopped talking to her, Lin Jiren rolled his eyes secretly, but his tone was still gentle. Sorry, Ten Ten, it's my fault. I thought you would look forward to recognizing your family. Sorry, I won't mention it in the future. However, Ten Ten kept closing his eyes and pretending to sleep and didn't answer again. While Lin Jiren gave Ten Ten acupuncture, his thoughts became heavier and heavier. Since Tang Yuejio has known his background for a long time, but he has not revealed it at all, and he is not even willing to go back to recognize his family, there must be something fishy in this. Suddenly, Lin Jiren narrowed her eyes, and a flash of light flashed in her eyes. Since Tang Yao doesn't want to go to this engagement party, she must let Tang Yao go. Chapter 21 Stunning Appearance in the Bombing Field. 2 days later, The engagement banquet between Tang Yunbing and Jiang Muze was held as scheduled. The Jiang family is a second-rate family in the capital, and Jiang Muze is the young master of the Jiang family. In the future, he will naturally inherit the family business. Therefore, Tang Yunbing can climb up to Jiang Muze, which is a high climb, but she is actually a little capable. As the young master of the Jiang family, Jiang Muze's engagement banquet was naturally held wildly. In addition, for people in the upper class, every banquet is a great opportunity to see into each other and make friends. Naturally, the Jiang family, which has been desperately wanting to squeeze into a first-class family over the years, is no exception. Therefore, today's engagement banquet was held by the Jiang family, mainly for the development of their own family. However, for Tang Yunbing's mother and daughter, they felt that the Jiang family valued them and gave Tang Yunbing enough face. Tang Yunbing, the protagonist, dressed up today in a red cheongsam, outlining her graceful posture, and her smile is gorgeous. She is professional in hooking up with men. After all, trained by Zhao Zufen since she was a child, the ultimate goal of her life is to catch a golden turtle son-in-law. Wang Songyue also relies on marrying a good man. Obviously, now, their goals have also been achieved. At this time, in the lounge, seeing such a beautiful Tang Yunbing, Jiang Muze was so itchy that he drove away all the makeup artists and servants, and directly pressed Tang Yunbing on the sofa. Yunbing, you are so beautiful today. He couldn't help kissing Tang Yunbing. However, Tang Yunbing pushed him away and asked delicately with her red lips, Brother Muze thinks, who is more beautiful, me and my sister Tang Gao? At the mention of Tang Yuejiu, Jiang Muze subconsciously frowned and said, of course, Yunbing, you are beautiful. That stuffy gourd, who can't even fart, lowers his head and wears big black framed glasses every day, just like a fool. I don't deserve to give you shoes at all. I feel bad when I mention her. But Tang Yunbing bit her lip and looked aggrieved. Grandma and her old man were still thinking about her. You see, Grandma won't come to our engagement banquet today. That's because she likes Tang Jiao when she is old. Jiang Muze said with a gloomy face. Yunbing, don't care about that old and immortal thing. What if she likes Tang Yuejing? Isn't this too much to make me? Now, I like you, and so do my parents. You are my wife recognized by Jiang Muze. What's more, sooner or later, the Jiang family will have to be the head of the family. At that time, I will ask that immortal thing to apologize to you in person. Hearing the words, Tang Yunbing finally smiled relaxedly. She has firmly controlled Jiang Muze's heart. Even if Mrs. Jiang liked Tang Jiao first and wanted to match up Jiang Muze and Tang Jiao at the beginning, what if the Tang family would have the opportunity to contact the Jiang family? She, Tang Yao, never wants to compare with her Tang Yunbing in her life. It's just a disgusting illegitimate daughter. She died long ago. After Tang Yunbing and Jiang Muze made out, they went out of the lounge hand in hand. Today, Tang Yunbing officially stepped into the upper class, which is a new starting point in her life. She must appear in front of everyone in her best state, so that they can all remember her name Tang Yunbing. In the future, Tang Yunbing will be the young lady of the Jiang family. When Tang Yunbing entered the scene, Jiang Muze's parents pulled the two of them and toasted everywhere. Tang Yunbing was trained by Zhao Zufen since she was a child. She painted the most exquisite makeup, said the most decent words, spoke and laughed, and was calm and generous. Naturally, she was also praised in all kinds of ways. Jiang Muze felt more light on his face, and he felt that his choice was not wrong. Although at first, it was because of drunkenness and Tang Yunbing has a relationship, and Yunbing doesn't want him to be responsible, for fear of affecting him and Tang Yuejio and his future. As a result, he also realized what a kind and precious girl Yunbing was, and wanted to be more responsible to her. Later, the more we got along with each other, the more he liked Yunbing and more, and his choice became more firm. How can Tang Yao, such an ugly and stupid wood, spend his whole life with such an uninteresting woman? Yunbing, who is beautiful and P.N.D., is the wife he wants to spend the rest of his life with. However, just then, suddenly, there were a few exclamations. Take a look. Who is that girl? It's so beautiful. My God, just like the elves coming out of the fairy tale. It was so beautiful that I forgot to breathe. Jiang Muze frowned when he heard the words, and also followed everyone's side to look over. Suddenly, I really forgot to breathe. I saw a girl in a gradient purple tall skirt slowly coming in. Her steps are light, as if stepping on the clouds, and as if stepping on everyone's heart. Her dark curly hair is scattered on her back, outlining her delicate and white face the size of a palm. The eyebrows are curved, the bridge of the nose is straight, the moist lips are red, and the white cheeks are dyed with a thin blush. Every part is just right, pure and beautiful. People can't help but peek and peek again. and deeply engraved this beauty in the heart. Which lady is this girl? I want to introduce her to my son and let her be my daughter-in-law. Such a beautiful little princess should be married and hidden. Jiang Mu slowly came back to his senses. Hearing these discussions, he was suddenly in a trance. What does he think that this overly beautiful girl is a little familiar? But I didn't think much about it at the first time. At the same time, Tang Yingying felt that her whole lungs were going to explode with anger. Her face at this moment can almost be described as Pa Li. Tang Gao's bitch. Didn't she say she wouldn't come? How can you dress up so beautifully? Didn't you come to smash the thing on purpose? Sure enough, she doesn't have amnesia at all. She still regrets that Jiang Mu chose her instead of her Tang Yao. Sure enough, her mother is right. What Tang Yao showed on the surface was that she didn't care about being with Jiang Mu, which was simply pretending. Jiang Mu, such a good man, doesn't want her to be Tang Jiao, but wants to marry her. Tang Yingying, how can she? Tang Gao, not mind. Last time, she should have stabbed her to death before pushing her off the cliff. Now it's okay. She didn't die, and she came to smash her field on purpose. Obviously, Tang Yingying is today's protagonist, but now everyone is watching Tang Gaogao, and everyone is praising her. No one remembers her as the protagonist at all. Even her brother Mu Ze couldn't take his eyes off her. She knows men too well. Lu Jia. If you say you love her today, tomorrow, or even the next moment, you will fall in love with another woman. Damn Tang Gaogao, damn bitch. Why can't she shrink in the corner with black framed glasses as before, without communicating with anyone? Why do you dress like this? Why? On what basis? Obviously, she is the seed of the same father. Why should she, Tang Yao, be so much more beautiful than her? Tang Yingying. The anger of jealousy distorted Tang Yingying's delicate face. At this moment, she couldn't even rush over to kill Tang Yao immediately. However, suddenly, Zhao Zufen grabbed her hand and took her to the bathroom. In the bathroom, Tang Yingying couldn't stand it at all. With a twisted face and vicious eyes, she roared hysterically, "Mom, how could it be like this? Tang Gao, what on earth does she want to do? Is she happy if she wants to ruin me? It was her Tang Yao's incompetence that gave her a chance to hook up Jiang Mu. What's more, she herself said she didn't care. What are you doing now? Brother Mu, the who blatantly seduced her. This stinky bitch." Zhao Zufen frowned and said, "Since you know that she is deliberately trying to provoke you, won't you let her succeed like this now? Take a good look in the mirror and see your ghastly appearance now. Are you sure that if Jiang Mu sees you like this, will he still like you?" Zhao Zufen pushed Tang Yingying in front of the mirror and let Tang Yingying see her in the mirror. In an instant, Tang Yingying was stunned to see herself full of ferocious hatred in the mirror. At the same time, I also came to my senses. No, she can't let Tang Yao succeed. Don't allow her to take away her brother Mu Ze. Chapter 22. Does Tang Tang want him? Tang Tang, who was stared at by everyone at the scene, acted a little strangely. She is like a wooden man, and her eyes in her pupils seem to be a little dull. Only when Lin Jiren next to her spoke, she knew what she should do. Lin Jiren asked her to go forward, and she went forward. Let her go to the right, and she went to the right. It seems to be a mission controlled by Lin Jiren. Lin Jiren saw Tang Yingying and Zhao Zufen go to the bathroom, bowed her head and smiled, and then took Tang Jiao straight to Jiang Mu's. "Uncle Jiang, Auntie, I'm Jiren. My parents are still out of town today and can't come back. I can only come here on behalf of our family. Congratulations to Jiang Xiaoxi for getting a good relationship." Mrs. Jiang smiled, greeted Lin Jiren for a few words, and suddenly asked again, "Jiren, who is the lady next to you?" Lin Jiren pretended to be surprised and said, "Why don't you know your aunt? This is Yingying's sister Tang Jiao. I thought you were already familiar with each other." In an instant, the Jiang family was stunned, especially Jiang Mu. He stared at Tang Tang, and his eyes were full of incredible. "Tang Gaogao, it's actually Tang Gaogao. How could she suddenly become so beautiful?" At this moment, when I got closer, the magnified appearance was even more beautiful. This ice muscle is simply a natural beauty. He even thought heavily that this taste should be much better than Tang Yingying's. Originally, such a beauty, it should have been his. Suddenly, Lin Jiren realized that Tang Jiao was uncomfortable and asked, "And, where is the lounge? Gaogao is a little sick. I'll take her there to have a rest." Jiang Mu's eyes moved and he immediately said, "I'll take you there." Lin Jiren raised her lips to hide the emotions in her eyes. "Okay, then thank Jiang Shao." At the same time, after finishing things in the city center, Jihen took a bus back to Gaoyao Villa, and immediately couldn't wait to take out his mobile phone to make a video call to Tang Tang. It's been a day since he came out today, and he hasn't seen his little fudge for 8 hours. I don't know if she misses him as much as he misses her. However, video calls are usually answered in a second. But today no one answered until the phone was automatically hung up. Ji Henyuan's intuition was wrong and he frowned. What is his little fudge doing? Are you going to the toilet? Are you doing something else? Or are you asleep? Ji Henyuan tried to make a phone call again, but no one answered. He suddenly felt bad, and his heart was even stunned. He immediately clicked on the monitoring in his mobile phone and carefully checked every corner of the bright moon villa, but he couldn't find Tang Tang. In an instant, Ji Henyuan's whole body was like falling into an ice cellar. Could it be that Tang Tang suddenly recovered her memory? Did she choose to leave him? She doesn't want him anymore. Jiang Muse led the way all the way and took Lin Jiren and Tang Tang directly into the lounge. However, after entering the lounge, he didn't want to leave in a hurry at all, even if there are so many guests waiting for him outside. He first poured 2 glasses of water for Lin Jiren and Tang Tang, and then took the opportunity to sit next to Tang Tang. Lin Jiren naturally noticed Jiang Muse's overly direct action, but he had no intention of stopping it at all. Jiang Muse looked straight at Tang Tang, and the amazement and salivation in his eyes were not hidden. I really didn't know before that it turned out that Gao Gao was so beautiful, but I was short-sighted. Lin Jiren raised her lips and smiled. It's not Jiang Shao that you are clumsy. In the past, she didn't like to dress up herself, and she was very low-key. Of course, no one knows. Jiang Muse looked at Tang Tang with explicit eyes and said, but his personality is still the same as before, and he is not very talkative. Lin Jiren suddenly covered her mouth and coughed, whispering a few words in Tang Tang's ear. Suddenly, Tang Tang, who had been hanging his head, suddenly looked up at Jiang Muse, and then said softly, Brother Muse. In an instant, Jiang Muse felt that his heartbeat missed half a beat. 大写 H. He felt as if he had been poked in the heart by the holy god using her white fingers at this moment, instantly bringing out bursts of numbness. His whole body was numb and soft, but somewhere, he was particularly hot. Originally, he not only didn't know that Tang Geoio was good looking, but he didn't even know that her voice was so beautiful, sweet and soft. Such a sentence, Brother Muze, is like making people eat a mouthful of marshmallows. It's sweet to the bottom of my heart. At the same time, it also aroused a flame. I can't help it. I want to taste this sweet marshmallow. Looking at Jiang Muse's reaction, Lin Jiren smiled with a winning coupon in his hand. Of course, Lin Jiren knows what kind of virtuous person Jiang Muse is. After all, several sisters around her have had an indeed to the illumined with the man of the Jiang family, so today, she specially brought Tang Geoio here, and that's the idea. After all, I heard that the old lady of the Jiang family liked Tang Geoio at the beginning. As a result, I don't know how Jiang Muse got along with Tang Yunbing. Now, in sea of everyone, Tang Yao dressed up, but anyone who knows the hidden feelings will inevitably think more. Then, Tang Yaogao and Jiang Muse were personally arrested by Tang Yunbing. The adulterer is present. It's hard to protect her reputation. This scene, just thinking about it, is very interesting. Today, she, Lin Jiren, wants Tang Jiao's hand, fuck the reputation and sweep it all. Let her be the target of all the people in the capital. She didn't believe it. Would Ji Henyuan still like such a dirty Tang Yaojio? Lin Jiren lowered her eyes and smiled, and then took out her mobile phone. Oh, Mr. Jiang, I have an important conference call to hold, so I'll ask you first. Lin Jiren took her mobile phone and went out in a hurry. Suddenly, a flash of light flashed in Jiang Muse's eyes. Is this? God help him. Looking at Tang Yao, who lowered his head and lowered his eyes and behaved like a doll, Jiang Muse couldn't help it. As long as he solves it quickly, surely no one found it. The next second, Jiang Muse rushed to Tang Yaojio. Just then, Tang Tang suddenly frowned and subconsciously dodged Jiang Muse. However, how could Jiang Muse let the dog in his hand fly? He looked at Tang Yaoyao with a squint and coaxed in a low voice. Gao Gao, I used to look away, but I didn't find your beauty. As long as you are willing to follow me, I will cancel today's engagement banquet immediately. I won't marry your sister. Marry you? Okay, Jiao Gao, as long as you are willing to give me this opportunity, I will do twice as much to you in the future. With that, Jiang Muse approached Tang Tang again. Seeing it, I'm about to meet Tang Tang. Chapter 23. Tang Tang was falsely accused and began to abuse the scum. 5 minutes later, Tang Yunbing rushed to the lounge with an angry face and pushed open the door of the lounge angrily. She knew that Tang Geoio, a bitch, deliberately dressed up to provoke her today, and even deliberately seduced her brother Muze. On the surface, she pretended not to care about anything, but in fact, she was simply envious that she had found such a good destination. Which woman doesn't want to marry into a rich family? What's more, Jiang Muse not only has a superior family background, but also is so handsome. How can she, Tang Yao, not blush? Can it not be sour? Oh, I'm afraid it was Tang Yaojiu who found that the new man she was looking for, in addition to his outstanding appearance, was not as good as her brother Muze in all aspects of his family and property, so he couldn't wait to come to make trouble and rob people. She even blatantly seduced her brother Muze to the lounge to let it go. What? If you want to learn her tricks, do you want to cook raw rice first? She doesn't even look at her if she is worthy or not. Just when Tang Jiao pushed open the door of the lounge in anger, bitches, seduction and other rhetoric had even poured into her throat and was about to break out of her mouth in the next second. However, the scene in front of her made her swallow these words alive. She was almost choked to death by her own saliva. Jiang Muse leaned against the corner with a blue nose and swollen face, trembling all over. He didn't even dare to raise his head, but kept muttering, "Don't hit me, please. Don't hit me. I was wrong. I won't dare again." On the other hand, what about Tang Yao? She threw away a toilet brush in her hand in disgust, and then picked up the wet wipes on the table and wiped her hand slowly. This scene completely stunned Tang Yingding. She just heard those girls talking about Jiang Muse and Tang Yao were talking in the lounge, and made some inexplicable sounds. What kind of nonsense is this? This is simply Tang Yao's unilateral beating of Jiang Muse. Is it possible that some inexplicable sounds made were Jia and Ji Muse's screams when he was beaten? In an instant, Tang Yingding was furious again. Tang Jiao, this bitch, why did he beat her man? This is her engagement banquet. Tang Gao beat her fiancé like this. How can the engagement banquet be held? Isn't it a shameful love for nothing? How could she tolerate her originally perfect engagement banquet being stirred up like this by Tang Jiao? Tang Yingding rushed over in an instant. Tang Gao, you bitch. While cursing, she raised her hand to fan at Tang Tang. However, Tang Tang raised her eyes lazily and shot at Tang Yingding with sharp eyes. At this moment, Tang Yingding felt scared for no reason and subconsciously wanted to retreat. However, Tang Tang didn't give her any chance. She grabbed Tang Yingding's hand directly and accurately with her slender right hand, and then, with a gentle force, she threw her out directly. Bang! Tang Yingding was hit heavily on Jiang Muse. Jiang Muse screamed again. The weight was on his body, and he felt so uncomfortable that he instinctively pushed, and his hands kept using force. Tang Yingding was pushed to the ground. Her cheongsam was hung up. The headdress on her head was crooked, and her elaborate hairstyle was also lost. Even the makeup on the face has been rubbed off several pieces. The whole person is so embarrassed. Tang Yingding didn't close the door when she came in. In addition, the hero and heroine have been missing for a long time, and everyone is looking for someone. So as the movement spread out, a large wave of people came over. In addition, some people pushed to fuel the situation. For a moment, people kept flocking to the lounge. Oh my god, Muze! When Mrs. Jiang saw Jiang Muse huddled in the corner in such embarrassment, she rushed over and kept checking Jiang Muse's situation. Jiang Muse was dumbfounded and his mind was not clear. When he saw his old mother, he suddenly hugged Mrs. Jiang and cried loudly, "Mom, I'm going home. I'm going home." He has lived for more than 20 years, and it is the first time he has been beaten like this, completely trampled on his dignity. The most important thing is, it's really painful. It hurts so much. I feel that my internal organs are in pain. I feel that the heavenly cover is about to break, and I feel that I will be hurt to death in minutes. He really can't stand it. He can't stand it. Mrs. Jiang coaxed Jiang Muse for a long time before coaxing him, and then glared at Tang Yingding, who fell aside but was obviously also very embarrassed, and said angrily, "Tang Yingding, what's the situation? What on earth did you do to Muze?" At the first time, Mrs. Jiang naturally thought that Tang Yingding had wronged Jiang Muse. After all, she was the only one with Jiang Muse at the scene. Tang Yingding was stunned when she saw that Mrs. Jiang did not care about her, but questioned herself angrily. Fortunately, Zhao Zufen also came over. She helped Tan Yingding up and looked at Mrs. Jiang neither humble nor arrogant. "Mrs. Jiang, please see clearly. My Yingding was also injured, and the injury was not as light as yours, Muze. You don't have to ask Yingding Xingshi for a crime." Zhao Zufen briefly sorted out Tang Yingding's appearance, and then gave Tang Yingding a meaningful look and asked meaningfully, "Yingding, what's going on? I just heard someone say that there has been an inexplicable voice in the lounge for a few minutes, but you have been in the bathroom with me before, and the injury between you and Muze, what's going on?" Hearing Zhao Zufen's words and seeing her eyes, Tang Yingding suddenly realized, yes, now is a great opportunity to make Tang Gao's reputation broken. Tang Yingding immediately made a decision, pinched herself secretly, and her eyes were filled with tears in an instant. Then he said extremely pitifully and aggrievedly, "Uncle, and I just came to this lounge. I was beaten by my sister when I came in. I don't know what's going on. I also heard it when I was looking for Muze outside. People said that Gao Gao and Muze were alone in the lounge, and there was a strange sound, so they rushed over. You know, Mu Ze and Gao Gao, ridiculous. Mrs. Jiang immediately interrupted Tang Yunbing. Our Mu Ze did not choose Tang Yaojiao from the beginning. Even if the old lady likes Tang Yaojiao, he has never seen Tang Yaojiao with his eyes. You should know this matter better than anyone else. He likes you. How can it be with Tang Gao? 感叹号. Of course I believe Brother Muse. Tang Yunbing's eyes were hazy with tears. Suddenly, she took Jiang Muse's hand, choked and cried. Brother Muse, I believe you will definitely not betray me. Is it my sister? Jiang Muse has not yet reacted. When Mrs. Jiang heard Tang Yunbing's words, her shrewd eyes suddenly shot at the one sitting on the sofa. Tang Yaojiao, who is eating a fruit plate like nothing. You are good, Tang Yaojiao. No wonder you dressed up so beautifully today. It turned out that he wanted to seduce my son. Hearing the word Tang Yaojiao, Jiang Muse, who had not reacted, suddenly trembled all over. Suddenly, Mrs. Jiang became more determined of her thoughts. She looked at Jiang Muse and asked, Muse, tell your mother that was Tang Jiao trying to seduce you and beat you like this if she didn't succeed in seducing you. Otherwise, why did Tang Yaojiao have nothing wrong? But her son is so embarrassed. It must be his son's death and disobeyed. Tang Yao was annoyed and angry. His son has been spoiled and educated since he was a child. He knows that he should be humble to girls, and he will not do anything to girls. And what about Tang Yaojiao, an illegitimate daughter who grew up in a small family, a wild girl? I have not been educated and have no quality since I was a child. At this time, she can't be seduced and angry, so she wants to beat her precious son to death. Right, what a vicious beat. Jiang Muse suddenly trembled and looked up at Mrs. Jiang. Mom, well, son, stop talking. Mom knows it. Mrs. Jiang immediately interrupted Jiang Muse and said angrily, Today, Mom will definitely ask this bitch to give you an explanation. Chapter 24 Ji Hengyun came to protect his wife domineeringly. At the door of the lounge, circles of people surrounded. Even the upper-class celebrities can't break away from people's nature. They like to eat melons and gossip. Even, I like to listen to the secret scandals of other people's families. A few days ago, the illegitimate son of the third master of the silent family made a fuss. I heard that the child in Zhou Ruli's belly was saved at the beginning. As a result, Mrs. Ji insisted on recognizing the illegitimate child outside and returning to the clan, and Ji Mingpeng completely obeyed the old lady's arrangement. He forced Zhou Ruli to bleed again, and the child was gone. While everyone is still passionate about the matter of the GF Emily, they want to wait for the follow-up of the divorce between the two families. Unexpectedly, the Jiang family's engagement banquet made such a big fuss again. The heroine's sister seduced her fiancé on the spot. He couldn't seduce him, and he was so angry that he beat his brother-in-law. My sister came to catch adultery and was also beaten by my sister. Although it sounds very incredible, a delicate female stream actually beat two people one after another, and one of them was a big and thick man. However, everyone has seen that the truth is in front of us. Jiang Muse's people who were beaten were not normal. A big man hugged his mother in embarrassment and cried to go home. Tang Yunbing was also in a mess, and even the makeup on her face was spent. What about the other person? Tang Yaojiao himself sat so calmly on the sofa and ate fruit. He was neatly dressed and looked as beautiful as a flower. He even seemed to be more agile and eye-catching than when he first came in before. The men at the scene all glanced at her. These celebrities and noble women were sour and jealous when they saw their men blatantly looking at other women. Naturally, he didn't like Tang Yao's way of doing things, and he also decided that Tang Yaojiao was a scumbag who seduced her brother-in-law. They are all from the Tang family, even if it is a small family, but how can they be sisters? And the gap is so big. That's right, Yunbing is so decent and generous. When I chatted with Yunbing just now, I thought Jiang Muse had a vision. Married a virtuous wife and a good mother to go home. My sister is so sensible. How can my sister be so virtuous? I knew it was my sister's engagement party, but I dressed up like this. Isn't it just to make trouble? He seduced his brother-in-law and beat people. What a slutty shrew. Mrs. Jiang, I suggest you call the police directly for this kind of person. Let her sit in the bottom of the prison. Hearing everyone is disgusted. Zion, Zhao Zufen and Tang Yunbing looked at each other and smiled. Tang Yunbing quickly covered the smile in her eyes, but she was very proud in her heart. Fortunately, she thought that this Tang Yaojiao, after dying, became particularly evil. It's not as good as before. Not to mention, he beats people at any time. I didn't expect to know that you dress up so beautifully to smash the scene today. Obviously, it's not as stupid as before. Unexpectedly, what if her Tang Yao's brain is a little light? She is still the same stupid fool as before. Unexpectedly, he seduced Jiang Muse so blatantly and beat them. Isn't he looking for his own way to die? Fortunately, Her wise and intelligent mother reminded her. She also used her intelligence to successfully bring Mrs. Jiang to the opposite of Tang Yuejiu. This trick of killing with a knife is simply amazing. Today, she will definitely defeat Tang Yuejiu. He even took advantage of the power of the Jiang family to completely send Tang Yuejiu into prison, and then let her die quietly in it. At this time, Mrs. Jiang, who was eager to protect her son, walked to Tang Jiaogeo and raised her hand to fan Tang Jiaogeo. However, Ten Ten pinched her wrist so hard that she couldn't move her whole hand. Mrs. Jiang's eyes widened. Alright, you are a little girl, but you are so strong. Sure enough, you beat my family muse. Ten Ten naturally knew that Mrs. Jiang was deliberately testing her, and at the same time, she was precancing her guilt in front of everyone. However, what's the fear of her uprightness? If you need to go to jail for reasonable self-defense, is there any axiom in the world? I beat people. Ten Ten shook off Mrs. Jiang's hand fiercely, straightened her spine, and looked at Mrs. Jiang with cold eyes, and her voice was extremely domineering. But why don't you ask your son why I hit him? Suddenly, everyone was frightened by Ten Ten's natural fierce momentum. For a moment, I forgot my words and fell into a mysterious silence. Lin Jiren, who was hiding in the crowd, frowned tightly when she saw this scene. Tang Gao, she woke up unexpectedly. When did she wake up? How could she wake up? No way, Jiang Muse didn't do it at all, did he? Damn it, she shouldn't have left. But it's okay, even if her chastity is still there, her reputation today is completely ruined. Unexpectedly, he said so big that he admitted on the spot that he had beaten Jiang Muse. Hey, what a fool. With the means of the Jiang family, she made a good engagement banquet like this, and beat Jiang Muse like this, which made the Jiang family lose face. How could the Jiang family let her go? Without the silence, no one would protect her at all. What's more, when the Jiang family really sent Tang Jiaogeo to the police station, how could Ji Henyuan still like such a dirty woman? Suddenly, Lin Jiren felt that he was in his hands. Any woman who prevents her from becoming the fourth lady of the silent family will be crushed one by one. Why did you hit him? I still need to ask. Oh, Mrs. Jiang sneered, looked at Ten Ten with contempt and disgust, and scolded angrily. Isn't it you, the bitch, who deliberately seduce and beat people in anger? My mother is educated and doesn't hit women, unlike you, the illegitimate daughter of a small family, a lowly blank with no character and no education. I must send you to jail today, so that you can spend the rest of your life in prison, and to atone for what you have done today. After scolding, Mrs. Jiang suddenly turned around and called them the bodyguard of the Jiang family. Everyone, give it all to me, buckle her up for me. Yes, madam. At this moment, a cold sound that seemed to freeze everything in an instant came suddenly. I'll see who dares to touch her. Chapter 25. Show your love in public and sprinkle dog food all over the ground. Suddenly, everyone looked at the sound source. Then, when they saw the people who came, so who knew and didn't know, they all felt cold in their backs and trembled all over. That's an instinctive fear from the bones. I saw a tall man in black strode over. The man's face is extremely handsome, and there is no man in the audience who can compare with him. However, the eyes are so deep that they seem to contain cold ice, and the powerful and dazzling aura around him make people dare not look at him more. Subconsciously, he lowered his head, trembling, and even respectfully welcoming Jihe's arrival. Silent fourth master, Jiang Muse's father, Jiang Zhaya, took the lead in recognizing Ji Henyuan, and suddenly felt like a great enemy. His whole body became tense in an instant and hurried forward to greet him. I don't know that the fourth master of silence suddenly visited, and there was a loss to welcome from afar, Obviously, he is an elder, but in front of Ji Henyuan, he is not qualified to pretend to be an elder at all, unless, as he thinks he has lived too long and the Jiang family has developed too well. After all, with the iron-blooded and ruthless means of not recognizing 6 relatives, a family can be overthrown in minutes. What's more, the Jiang family is just a second-rate family. Although Ji Henyuan is only 26 years old, he has been working alone outside for 10 years. Not to mention the Ji family, which is almost the first of the first-class family. Ji Henyuan himself alone has created a business empire that can almost cover the sky with one hand. What's more, this horrible man just stirred up his third brother's birthday party a few days ago. It took almost no time to destroy Ji Mingpeng. Do you dare to offend such a terrible and powerful man? Can I offend you? At this moment, Jiang Zhaya, even if he didn't know why Ji Henyuan suddenly came, still had to deal with it carefully and respectfully. However, Ji Henyuan didn't even look at him and strode directly into the lounge. Then, a sudden kick. He directly kicked Mrs. Jiang, who was in front of him, and kicked her out. Mrs. Jiang slammed heavily on the wall and spit out a big mouthful of blood. Mrs. Jiang, and Mom, even Jiang Muse, who had always seemed to have lost his soul, suddenly came to his senses and hurried to help Mrs. Jiang. Who are you? Why do you hit my mother? Jiang Muse did not recognize Ji Henyun at the first time. He stared at Ji Henyun and suddenly roared and questioned him. However, Jiang Chaya directly slapped Jiang Muse fiercely. You rebellious son, do you still think it's not shameful enough to make a fuss today? Shut up. That, Jiang Muse covered his face and looked at Jiang Chaya incredulously. Why did you hit me? It's you that I hit. Jiang Chaya slapped Jiang Muse again and scolded him with hatred. This is the fourth master of the silent family. How can you shout at will? Apologize to me quickly. Jiang Chaya quickly looked at Ji Hang Yue flatteringly. He really felt sorry for Ji Xi. It was Jiang godson Wu Fang. Wu's engagement banquet didn't go well today, and he was not in a good mood. He didn't even recognize you at the first time. I'm really sorry. I also hope you have a lot. Please forgive the dog this time. Jiang Chaya was suddenly stunned before he finished his words. I saw that Ji Henyun actually directly hugged Tang Yao's slender waist with his big hand, and then bent down, unexpectedly directly, in public, in sight of everyone, fiercely, sealed Tang Yao's red lips with his own thin lips, two lips, close to each other. Ji Henyun was so strong that he seemed to imprint the little man in his arms into his bones and blood. Tang Tang, my Tang Tang, do you know, when I couldn't find you, I was so panicked and helpless. I'm afraid you don't want me, you're going to run away from me. If you really don't want me, I really want to die. Tang Tang was suddenly kissed, fiercely. Kiss, first. The kiss was explained like this, and he was stunned for a moment. Lips, the thin and cool touch brings bursts of crispness, numbness. This feeling is like suddenly falling into the clouds. She couldn't help but close her eyes and feel it with her heart. However, slowly, she sensed the emotion of Ji Henyun. Her brother seems to be scared and nervous. But what is he afraid of? What are you nervous about? Although he didn't know why, Tang Tang subconsciously wanted to appease Ji Henyun. She stretched out her slender hand and hugged Ji Henyun. Then, red lips respond. Lips, teeth, close to each other. Feeling the response of the little fudge in his arms, Ji Henyun's eyes opened. Slowly, come back to your senses. His sugar is still there. His sugar, I don't want him. Ji Henyun slowly let go of Tang Tang, put his forehead against her forehead, and said in a hoarse voice, Baby, you won't leave me. You will never leave me in your life, will you? Although Tang Tang didn't know why Ji Henyun suddenly asked, he immediately responded to Ji Henyun and said anxiously in a soft voice, Of course, Tang Tang won't leave her brother. Tang Tang will never leave her brother in her life. In an instant, Ji Henyun hugged Tang Tang into his arms again. He beat the earlobe of Tang Tang heavily and said in a domineering and paranoid hoarse voice in her ear, I love you so much. I have to love her for the rest of my life. I love her so much that I will never allow her to leave him in my life. I love you so much that even if I become a ghost, I want to be a Mandarin duck ghost who sleeps with her. The two of them love each other, but the crowd of melon-eating masses next to them were stunned. They began to whisper in a low voice, Oh my God, it is rumored that the fourth master of silence, unexpectedly, he showed his love in public. This really completely broke my stereotype of Ji Xi. This domineering kiss, paranoid love, is too invisible for others. I have to say that the two of them are really a perfect match in terms of appearance and temperament. However, this girl's family background seems to be a little worse. She is just a member of the lost family. I suddenly remembered. At Ji Mingpen's party that day, Ji Xi also brought a girl. However, at that time, Ji Xi had been covering the girl in his arms, and I didn't even see the girl's appearance clearly. Yes, me too. What's more, who would have thought that Ji Xi was a girl from a small family? These days, they have been guessing which big family girl the girl is, and she is lucky enough to win the most expensive man in the capital. Maybe, it's also a famous family background and resume. Unexpectedly, the mystery was so magically revealed at such an absurd time today. It turned out to be a girl from the lost family, and the girl is even deep in the whirlpool of public opinion. Seduced her sister is fine, and beat her brother-in-law and sister. Suddenly, everyone began to be curious. If the fourth master knows, what kind of attitude should he have? With the rumored irritable temper, wouldn't he pinch the neck of this woman who betrayed him on the spot? Chapter 26. Anyone who slanders my lonely cold abyss woman must pay the price. Ji Henyun, who gradually woke up from the emotions of gain and loss, also suddenly realized, how did his Tang Tang dress up so beautifully today? Doesn't this girl know that he doesn't allow her to show her beauty in front of this scum and be spied on and coveted by them? Suddenly, Ji Henyun domineeringly took Tang Tang into his arms and covered the person paranoidly. After confirming that his sugar will not leave him, now, he is going to start cleaning up. Suddenly, the gloomy eyes of the Ji Henyun suddenly shot at Jiang's family. Bitch, a cheap blank. Send him to jail. The tone of Ji Henyun was so cold that the temperature of the whole lounge seemed to plummet. My woman in the cold abyss. You Jiang family are insulted like this. Can't I really think I'm dead? In an instant, even the Jiang family and the middle-aged men who were used to the storms and waves trembled with fear. Misunderstanding. It's all misunderstanding. Jiang Jia quickly explained stubbornly. He is very sure that if he can't give Ji Henyun a reasonable explanation today, Ji Henyun will probably destroy their whole Jiang family on the spot. What else is the misunderstanding? Ji Henyun's dangerous eyes shot at Mrs. Jiang, who was weak and fell to the ground. His deep eyes were full of murderous intent. Suddenly, Jiang Muse felt numb all over his body. No way, he can't let Ji Xi kill his mother like this. His mother scolded Tang Yao like this to protect him. As long as he tells Ji Xi that the woman in his arms is simply a bitch who seduces and beats people at will, Ji Xi will definitely not like her anymore. I won't target the Jiang family for her anymore. After all, he is also a man. He knows that it is impossible for a man to like this kind of woman who is extremely violent and doesn't know anything about customs. Suddenly, Jiang Mu's confidence and courage came from nowhere, and he immediately said boldly, Master Jisi, I can explain to you. It was Tang Yao who seduced me first. You may not know that at the beginning, my grandmother wanted to set up me and Tang Yao, but I prefer Tang Yao's sister Tang Yundian. 感叹号. Today is my engagement banquet with Yundian. However, Tang Gao has always held a grudge in his heart. Today, he failed to seduce me and beat me. He even hit Yundian. Everyone present is a witness. You can ask casually. My mother also scolded her like this to sweat out her anger on me. Master Jisi, you must keep your eyes open. Such a shameless woman is not worthy of you at all. As soon as the call was over, even Jiang Muse himself believed the nonsense in his mouth. Even if Tang Jiao didn't really seduce him. But now, when everyone thinks so, and Tang Gao can't come up with evidence at all, isn't it what he said? At this moment, he himself was impressed by his resourcefulness and on-the-spot reaction. He can't wait for Ji Henyun to kick Tang Gao out and vomit blood, just as revenge for himself. At this time, Jiang Jia, who didn't have time to stop Jiang Muse, simply broke the jar and fell. What his son said is also true, isn't it? Maybe things will turn around. After all, such a woman. However, suddenly, Ji Henyun raised his eyes coldly, glanced at Jiang Muse, and said coldly, Are you done? Jiang Muse was stunned for a second and nodded in a daze. Oh, Ji Henyun suddenly sneered, and then the cold voice of the outlet was like a pot of blades splashing at Jiang Muse's head. Zhao Gang, give me a slap. As many words he said just now, he will fan me as many times as he can. How many words are slandering? Double the fan for me. And Yong who wants to slander the woman who slanders me, must give me a crooked mouth. Cheer it up. Yes, fourth master. Zhao Gang immediately took the order to come forward, raised his hand and slapped him fiercely, directly fanning Jiang Muse to the ground. Blood oozed out of his mouth immediately. Zhao Gang naturally tried his best. After all, this slap was not only an order, but also mixed with personal hatred. When he heard Jiang Muse slandering Miss Tang Tang like that, his fist was ready to move. 感叹号. Miss Tang Tang is so innocent and lovely, and she loves them so much. How can she be the kind of person they say? What's more, Miss Tang Tang was there during this period, and they were so happy. Aren't these bastards just to break up their fourth master and Miss Tang Tang, the fairy couple? After that, won't the fourth master have to be alone again? This damn treacherous and cunning thing. He must smash this bastard's mouth today. Zhao Gang was so angry that he picked up Jiang Muse's collar and slapped him fiercely. Jiang Muse suddenly lost 2 teeth. The teeth fell mixed with blood and water, and the scene was shocking. Jiang Jia was at a loss and almost knelt down to Ji Henyun. Fourth master, please don't fight. I'm Muze's son. If he is gone, I won't be able to live. Fourth master. However, no matter how he howled, Ji Henyun was unmoved. Anyone who slanders him must pay the price. Then, Ji Henyun's cold eyes swept at the people outside the lounge. Suddenly, everyone reacted frequently and didn't dare to take another look, for fear of causing trouble. I only heard Ji Henyun say extremely domineeringly, My Ji Henyun woman, do you need to seduce such a cowardly waste? If anyone has evidence, feel free to show it to me. If you can't come up with evidence, who dares to spread a word? The current mother and son of the Jiang family are your end. In an instant, everyone was so scared that they kept shaking like a quail with a shrinking neck. What's more, some Li quickly explained and flattered. Fourth master, we didn't see what happened to Miss Tang and Jiang Muse at all. When we came over, Miss Tang was eating fruit on the sofa, but Jiang Muse and Tang Yingying fell into the corner. They also said that it was Miss Tang who beat them. It's not certain whether the two of them had a conflict and fought with each other. That's right. Maybe they deliberately framed Miss Tang. I think that's definitely the case. Miss Tang has always been dressed neatly. If she really had a fight, how could she not even have messy hair? And Miss Tang looks so delicate. How can she beat Jiang Muse, a big man? It can be seen that it's all Jiang Muse who is talking nonsense. Falsely accuse Miss Tang. What's more, Miss Tang has a fourth master. Is it enough to like Jiang Muse? I don't even look at his cowardly appearance of Jiang Muse. He doesn't deserve to give shoes to the fourth master. That's it. The fourth master and Miss S. Tang are the perfect match. Suddenly, everyone was touting Ji Henyun and Tang Jiao, and trampled on Jiang Muse and Tang Yingying. Zhao Zufen and Tang Yingying, who had been in a state of shock since they came from Ji Henyun, were even more shocked at this time. Why are these people so arrogant? Are people in the upper class so unbearable? And Tang Yingying suddenly looked at Ji Henyun and Tang Tang jealously. Tang Jiao, this damn woman, how can her fate be so good? Unexpectedly, it was the fourth master of the Ji family, the Ji Henyun. Chapter 27 Ji Henyun always unconditionally tolerates favoring her. When she first saw Ji Henyun, she felt that this man was noble and must be of extraordinary origin. But at her level, how can she have the opportunity to meet such a man who is almost at the top of the pyramid? Even she didn't have a chance. How could Tang Jiao? She almost never thought that the man Tang Jiao climbed was more powerful than Jiang Muse. And now when she learned that he was the fourth master of the silent family, Ji Henyun, she knew that the gap could not be described by the word powerful at all. It was simply a chasm. As soon as Ji Henyun made a move, he beat Jiang Muse's mother and son like that. But the Jiang family didn't even have anyone who dared to stand up and fight back. Even Jiang Jia, the head of the Jiang family, could only grit his teeth and swallow it. What's more, there were still so many people standing outside, but no one dared to stand up and talk to the Jiang family. He is even flattering the silence and cold abyss. Even though she and Jiang Muse were the ones they constantly praised just now, they have become the objects of their constant abuse in order to please the fourth master. For a moment, Tang Yingying trembled with anger. She really wants to stand up and fight for herself and Jiang Muse. After all, if the Jiang family makes such a fuss today, they will not only not be able to join the ranks of the first-class family in the future, but may even go downhill directly. 1 spread 10, 10 spread 100. In the future, who dares to cooperate with the family that offended the fourth master of silence? Then what's the point of her marrying Jiang Muse? She tried her best to marry him, not to live a hard life in the past. However, Zhao Zufen grabbed her hand and took her to the corner, not letting her go out for half a step. At this time, Zhao Zufen was not only happy, but also happy. She felt that she was like the rest of her life after a robbery at this time. Fortunately, she has always been cautious in doing things. Generally, she can kill people with a knife, but she will never do it herself. Fortunately, she just hinted at Yingying, which made Mrs. Jiang stand up first, and they hid behind and did not face Tang Jiao head on. Otherwise, the people who are lying on the ground and vomiting blood, being slapped and swollen into a pig's head and fainted directly, are their mothers. Just thinking about it makes me feel afraid. Even she is shaking all over. This silent fourth master is indeed exactly the same as the rumor, cold and ruthless. I don't know how Tang Yao had sex with him. At the same time, Lin Jiren, who had been hiding in the crowd, pinched his hands together resentfully and almost pinched his nails into the flesh. Why did Ji Henyun appear at this time? Moreover, regardless of what everyone says about Tang Jiao, he unconditionally chose to favor this woman. He didn't even hesitate to offend the whole Jiang family for her. She is Tang Yao, how virtuous and capable. Thinking of the scene of the two kissing in public just now, Lin Jiren felt so angry that his throat even smelled bloody. Such a perfect plan today failed like this. She is so unwilling. However, she can't stay any longer. If she is found out by Ji Henyun, she will not have a good end. She must be patient and continue to lie in wait. As long as she can still enter Jiao Villa, stay with Tang Jiao, and even continue to gain her trust, she will definitely have another chance in the future. Next time, she will definitely be hit with one blow. No matter how reluctant Lin Jiren was, she also left quietly. While everyone was busy bragging about the cold abyss, he only paid attention to the little gummy in his arms. Every time he looked at Tang Tang, his anger around him always restrained and turned into a look that he didn't dare to think of. Gentle, patient and humble. It's like wanting to hold your whole world in her hand and give it to her. After all, as long as she can stay by his side, it is the greatest blessing in his life. At this time, Ji Henyun held his little fudge put it close to her ear, and asked in a gentle voice, Tan Tan, who else bullied you? Tell your brother that he will clean up for you. Tan Tan shook his head and subconsciously glanced at Tang Yunbing's mother and daughter. Although she knew, it was obvious that Mrs. Jiang was wronged by Tang Yunbing and Zhao Sufen. However, she didn't want to have anything to do with these two people easily until she herself recalled her background and the truth about her falling into the water. And if these two people really have ghosts, she will do it herself instead of dirtying her brother's hands. There is revenge, there are complaints, and there are some things she must face by herself. Of course, the mother and son of the Jiang family, who spit fragrant in their mouths, naturally deserve it. No matter how the brother deals with them, they deserve it. Brother Ayuan, Tan Tan hugged Ji Henyuan tightly and said softly, Tan Tan wanted to go home. The people here are so noisy and disgusting that she doesn't want to stay any longer. She just wants to be alone with her brother Ayuan. Okay, let's go home. The next second, Ji Henyuan picked up Tan Tan and strode out of the lounge. At every step, he carefully took care of the villain in his arms. At the same time, the momentum of the outside was still extremely cold, and no one should get close to him. The person outside the door suddenly trembled and consciously gave way to a passage in a second. He lowered his head and watched the two leave respectfully and carefully. It was not until Ji Henyuan walked far away with Tan Tan in his arms that he couldn't even see his back that everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It's terrible, it's really terrible. GCI is exactly the same as the rumor. It's as cruel as the king of hell. Fart, where is it exactly the same? The rumor of not getting close to women's sex is completely different. That's right, silent fourth master. He spoils Tang Geojiu too much. Kissing in public, princess hug, kicking and insulting her for her, threatening to deter everyone on the spot. 感叹号. If it weren't for the terrible GCI, I would really knock on the spot. I've taken the CP name, Sugar C, on Tining couple. It's so appropriate. Stop talking. Stop talking. Jiang family's eyes are about to burst into fire. They are about to disperse. Hearing the sound, everyone looks away. Sure enough, Jiang Jia looked at them with a gloomy face, as if he was going to eat people. Suddenly, everyone was shocked and left in a hurry. However, it is also understandable that a good wedding banquet has become like this now. My wife and son were knocked unconscious by the beating, but they couldn't settle the score with anyone, so they could only bite their teeth mixed with blood and swallow it into their stomachs. It's miserable, or the Jiang family is miserable. Everyone left one after another, leaving only Tang Yunbing's mother and daughter at the scene. Tang Yunbing bit her lip and said carefully, Uncle, I'm sorry, I don't know my sister. Get out. Jiang Jia seemed to finally find a point to vent. He directly interrupted Tang Yunbing and scolded her madly and shot directly at Tang Yunbing's head. You broom star. Without you, our Jiang family would have nothing to do. Don't show up in front of our family in the future. Get out of here, Uncle and I. Tang Yunbing was so anxious that she still wanted to explain. Obviously, she didn't want to lose this great marriage, but she was pulled by Zhao Sufen. Zhao Sufen put Tang Yunbing behind her, looked at Jiang Jia with a cold face, and then sneered and said suddenly, Mr. Jiang, are you making a mistake? Now my youngest daughter, Yeo Jiu, is the woman of the fourth master of silence. Your attitude towards us, and what do you say that the Tang family doesn't appear in front of you in the future? Nonsense. Do you want me to call the fourth master and ask him to come back, so that Mr. Jiang will immediately end up like your wife and children? In an instant, Jiang Jia's face stiffened. Chapter 28. She only likes his brother. Ji Henyuan strode straight back to the room with Tan Tan in his arms all the way. The servants in the manor were frightened by Ji Henyuan's terrible momentum and retreated frequently, and their necks tightened, including Tan Tan in his arms. Tan Tan hung on Ji Henyuan's neck, bit his lip, and asked tentatively in a soft voice, Brother, what's wrong with you? Ji Henyuan didn't say anything. With a cold face, he directly carried Tan Tan into the room and locked the door with a snap. Then, bang, throw Tan Tan directly into the soft bed. Tan Tan's whole body was hit by the big bed. Before he came back to his senses, he saw Ji Henyuan's enlarged face appear in front of him. The pupils of the silent cold abyss are burning hot. It seems that there are flames burning, and it seems to be an abyss that can engulf everything. And at this moment, the food in his eyes, things, only his body, sugar sugar. The next second, he purred, over and go. Well, suddenly, it came with a particularly fierce touch. Feeling, let Tan Tan don't know what to do. Oh, for a moment, although the first kiss had been explained 2 hours ago. However, in this matter, she is really just a big idiot who doesn't know anything at all. I don't know why Brother Yue is suddenly so fierce. Yeah, makes her feel that he seems to want to eat. Ji Henyuan did have such a plan. Eat his sugar into her stomach, so that she can never leave him. Ten seems to have passed for a long time, until she was unconscious. Scatter, lack, oxygen, even when you are about to be and Ji Henyun finally let go of her. His eyes are burning. He stared at his Ten, and his eyes were full of paranoia and lust. His slender fingers gently stroked Ten Yan Hangshu, moist, lip flap. The voice of the outlet is extremely hoarse. Ten, why do you want to live alone? Why are you hiding it from me? Don't you tell me. Do you really like Jiang Yus? At the mention of the name Jiang Yus, Ji Henyun felt that his heart was hurting, and his heart seemed to be about to crack. He admitted that he was influenced by what Jiang family said, although he will unconditionally believe his sugar, but he is more afraid. She will really like other men. She will even leave him for other men and don't want him. What if she really likes Jiang Yus? She is now quietly leaving Gaoyao Villa alone, just to see Jiang Yus, and appeared in the lounge alone with Jiang Yus. Ten, did you think of something? Feeling that the lonely abyss suddenly became extremely humble and lost, the whole figure fell into the endless dark abyss. At this time, if no one catches it, I'm afraid he will fall into it forever, without seeing the light, the starlight and the moon. Ten anxiously held Ji Henyun's face with her hands and said in a soft voice, Brother Yuan, what are you talking about? How can I like Jiang Yus? She has a small head with 800 big question marks. How can she like such a scum? Act who is full of nonsense, cowardly and promiscuous. Hearing Ten's explanation, Ji Henyun raised his eyes slightly, and a faint glow seemed to flash from the bottom of his dark eyes, but it quickly went out. However, you left quietly alone and went to see him. How could he convince himself? Ten dressed up carefully and left, but didn't tell him. Ten bit his lip and frowned. Brother Yuan, if I say, I don't know how I left, will you believe me? Along the way, she has been thinking about why she suddenly appeared in the lounge of Tang Yingying's engagement banquet, but she couldn't remember it. The memory in her mind can only be traced back to the time when she was still in the room of Gaoyao Villa. Lin Jiren had just finished acupuncture for her and left with the medicine box, then switched to the lounge. Jiang Yus rushed towards her, and she reflexively punched him out. In the middle of this, how did she leave Yaoyu Villa? How did she go to the engaging banquet? And how she appeared alone in the lounge with Jiang Yus? She has no memory at all. When Ten said this, Ji Henyun was stunned in an instant. His dark eyes peered into a little glory again, and he looked at the sugar under him in a daze. Ten bit her lip aggrievedly, and the crescent eye looked at Ji Henyun pitifully. Brother Yuan, I really don't know what's going on. She raised her little hand and hammered her head hard. I can't remember anything, and I don't remember anything. Obviously, 1 second I was still in the room, the next second I was in the lounge of the banquet hall, and I was almost hit by Jiang Yus's comeback. Fortunately, I suddenly woke up and was not. Well, okay. Ji Henyun suddenly interrupted Ten and immediately grabbed her and hammered his head, the hand, and then hugged her tightly. He hugged her tightly and said in a hoarse voice behind her ear, Ten, stop talking, my brother believes you. His Ten was so wronged that his eyes were full of tears, and he kept hitting his head. He shouldn't doubt her. It is also possible that his Ten is still sick. His memory has not recovered, and his brain occasionally shuts down. He didn't want her to recall those bad things anymore, but when he thought of it, that damn Jiang Yus almost, 感叹号. Suddenly, the cold abyss burned with anger. It seems that just giving him dozens of slaps is still too little. Brother Yuan. Ten also hugged Ji Henyun tightly and whispered aggrievedly, I'm sorry. Ten almost didn't protect herself. She always makes trouble for her brother. My brother is so busy that he has to take care of her all the time. On the other hand, what about her? Unexpectedly, I haven't done anything for my brother. She really doesn't deserve her brother at all. If she was really Jiang Yus, Ten didn't dare to think about it anymore. She could only hold Ji Henyun tightly, as if she wanted to empty her whole body into his body. How can she like other men? She only likes her brother. Ten's active approach made Ji Henyun move again. The next second, he directly sealed Ten with his lips. Lip flap. He doesn't want to hear his Ten talk about it with guilt anymore. Thousands of mistakes are all his fault. It's him who didn't protect Ten well. This time, he moved gently, full of love. This time, Ten quickly responded to him, wrapped his arms around his neck, raised his chin slightly, and responded carefully. Suddenly, the originally deep and cold eyes of Ji Henyun once again scattered the starlight. In the starlight, the bright white moonlight is the most dazzling, because that's his sugar. Tanggao, the moon in his sky, and the honey in his heart. As long as she is by his side, there will be light in his eyes and sugar in his heart. After a while of warmth, the two naturally made up as before. However, old Ho Ji Henyun found a reason for Tang Tang and told her that her head had not recovered. That's why she did this. However, Tang Tang still felt something was wrong. Because of her own physical condition, she knows it best. At that time, the feeling of sudden awakening was like a person who had been sleeping for a long time waking up in a dream and suddenly regained consciousness. It was very strange. So Tang Tang asked for the surveillance of Gale Villa and began to look at it carefully. Check. Her 29. What is Tang Gao's secret? Tang Tang took the computer to watch the surveillance and fell into meditation. In the surveillance, it was Lin Jiren who left the room first and drove away. Not long after, Tang Tang dressed up and left the room. She went downstairs alone, entered the yard, and then went out of the gate of Gale Villa. During this period, the servant asked her what she was going to do and whether she needed to arrange a vehicle for her, but she didn't care about anyone, and her expression on her face was very indifferent, like a copy of the cold abyss that strangers should not approach. Naturally, the servants didn't dare to stop her. The more Tang Tang looks at it, the weirder it feels. Obviously, she is usually generous and cheerful, and she can talk and laugh with the maids and aunts. How can she ignore them? But she was like that. She walked out of the gate of the villa alone. Then, she appeared inexplicably in the banquet hall. When she was conscious, it was time for Jiang Muse to pounce on her. Suddenly, Tang Tang fell into entanglement. I looked at the computer alone for a long time. Then, looking at the computer screen and keyboard, she didn't know why, as if subconsciously, she raised her hand and typed a line of irregular letters. In an instant, the computer screen suddenly turned black. Then, an extremely strange website popped up in another second. The website is very strange. The bottom is black, and then it is divided into pieces. The basis for the division of blocks seems to be that the price, the top large piece, starting from 10 digits, then below is the 9 digit, 8 digit, 7 digit. Tang Tang just wanted to click on the top to have a look, when suddenly, a pop-up window popped up on the screen. That, with her and deposit and return it. Tang Tang was stunned by the news. Inexplicably, I entered an inexplicable website and received a bunch of inexplicable messages from an inexplicable person. Suddenly, Tang Tang felt that her head was really dead, and she didn't know what to do for a while. Just when the other party was impatient and very anxious to send a bunch of emojis to attack her, and it seemed that it was not even over, Tang Tang couldn't help but slowly tap the keyboard, and then typed 3 words. Lonely Angelica, Lonely Angelica. After plowing missing count plowing commercial I could intervene neither terms H at NS $. I'm Lonely Angelica in the world. And you still ask me who I am. I want to ask you, do you remember who you are? Tang Tang. Tang Tang knocked on the keyboard silently again and typed 4 very innocent words. I don't R plus I'm B $. R+. Lonely Angelica, Lonely Angelica. Terrorism or murdering her willing LD who can kill me with one move. It must be you. Lonely Angelica. Jim still long grow with you. Lonely Angelica. Alright, don't make trouble. A deposit of 1 billion yuan and a final payment of 1 billion yuan. Don't give it for nothing. 大姐 T is not in line with your Taoist style to regard money as dumb. You told me back then that if you have money, you can't make money. Lonely Angelica. Has more, isn't it to get the PR plus and IBIT information of the cold-faced Shura? What's so difficult about this? Which, hurry up and give me a hurry. Lonely Angelica. Her heart was all fever with one. Her work, her wizard, her will, win person, task, from Lonely Angelica. Here is still a party. I will and tell you. Let's go to the wave. Worship. The pop-up window suddenly disappeared. Tang Tang fell into a mysterious silence again. This person, what do you call her? Witch, isn't she Tang Yeo? Why did you become a witch again? And, who is this Lonely Angelica? What is this strange website? Suddenly, Tang Tang thought of the last time, she was inexplicably good at using guns. In an instant, Tang Tang's pupils widened. No, she used to be a evil who did no evil. Right, with a snap, Tang Tang immediately turned off the computer. No, 感叹号. God bless her, don't be a big devil who does no evil. If so, how can she be worthy of her brother? Suddenly, a jingling sound sounded, and Tang Tang was scared to death. Turning his head, a strange video call came from his mobile phone. Tang Tang's heart trembled, and the ghost clicked the connection button. Suddenly, an extremely beautiful woman with large purple waves appeared on Tang Tang's mobile PH1 screen. She was stunned and suddenly felt that the man was a little familiar. Then he saw the purple-haired woman hooked her lips and smiled, and her eyes were full of promiscuous. Boss, it's hard for me to get into your mobile phone, but the firewall of GCI's house is so powerful that I can't say more to you. I'm done if I'm caught. You just need to remember one thing. You must go out in 2 days. No matter where you go. I have something important to give you then. No, T. I hung up. Tang Tang. Looking at the mobile phone and computer that had regained calm, Tang Tang felt that he was completely confused and stupid. An inexplicable Lonely Angelica, calling her a witch. An inexplicable purple-haired beauty called her boss. Oh, By the way, she suddenly remembered that this purple-haired girl was the girl who suddenly jumped out to stop their car that day. At that time, the purple-haired girl flirted with her inexplicably, but today why do you idea call her and say that you have something important for her? Could it be that they used to know each other? Suddenly, an incredible idea surged into his mind, and Ten Ten took a deep breath. Is it true Hang Gao Gao, in other words, Tang Jiao, the second lady of the Tang family, who has always been ordinary? In fact, there are many unknown secrets. Suddenly, Ten Ten made up his mind. She is going to meet this purple-haired woman for a while. Maybe she can help her recover her memory. Ten Ten immediately rushed to the study to find Ji Henyun. Ji Henyun gave her the privilege that she could go in anytime and anywhere without knocking on the door. At this moment, as soon as she pushed the door in, she heard Zhao Gang reporting to Ji Henyun. Fourth Master, in 2 days of the family banquet, the old lady sent us a message, and you must go back. Chapter 30. Just kiss me, then let's go. Hearing Zhao Gang's report, Ten Ten immediately rushed to the silent abyss, threw himself directly on him, and looked at him with a bright crescent eye. Ji Henyun. He absolutely didn't want to go to the Ji family's party, but before he could refuse, his sugar rushed in, hanging on his body so cutely. He looked at him with bright eyes. Who can bear to refuse this? Okay, Ji Henyun responded dumbly and rubbed Ten Ten's head with his big hand. If Ten Ten wants to go, then let's go. No matter what cows, ghosts and snakes in the Ji family, what is he afraid of? As long as Ten Ten is always by his side, no matter what she wants to do or where she wants to go, he will unconditionally agree. After getting the positive answer from Ji Henyun, Ten Ten happily held Ji Henyun's face and kissed her. Great. As long as you go out to Ji's house, with this purple hair Jiros can make video calls to her mobile phone, and she will definitely find her own. At that time, she can quietly ask the purple-haired girl about her past. Maybe, it can stimulate her to recover her memory in advance. And even if she doesn't recover her memory, she can find a way to relieve Aeon's poison first. After all, the purple-haired girl shouts her boss. What if she is also very powerful? Suddenly, Ten Ten was full of confidence and felt that he saw the hope of helping Ji Henyun, and he was very excited. He held Ji Henyun's face and kissed him several times, and then jumped off Ji Henyun excitedly. He hummed a little song like a little rabbit and jumped away. Zhao Gan, gee, he feels so sour. The fourth master and Miss Ten Ten. Really, too boring. I don't think about it at all. Is he also present? And, in the past, even if the Ji family invited the Ji family again and again, the fourth master would not go to the party. He is going to go today because of Miss Ten Ten's words. He really wants to ask, fourth master, what about your bottom line and principles? Oh, seeing that he was still staring at the back of Miss Ten Ten leaving at this moment, and the corners of his mouth were raised, Zhao Gang was stunned. Not only the bottom line and principles are gone, but even the corners of the mouth are gone. Alright, this is the magic of love. 2 days later, Zhao Gang drove to send Ji Henyun and Ten Ten to Ji's house. The Ji family has a great career. After the death of Mr. Ji, the old lady can almost be said to cover the sky with one hand. I can't help it. When Mr. Ji was here, he spoiled her more. Obviously, she is a few years older than Mr. Dian Ji, but Mr. Ji is willing to ignore his real wife for her sake. As soon as his wife went crazy, he immediately sent her away and couldn't wait to take her into the Ji family and become the head of the Ji family. Now there are 4 sons in the Ji family, all of whom are born by her. All her sons also respect and feel loyalty to her. It can be seen that the old lady of the Ji family is definitely not a simple person. Over the years, every family banquet of the Ji family, she has been persistently inviting Ji Henyun back. Ji Henyun took the initiative to leave, and she had to pretend to have a deep love between mother and son. But what she is really planning, no one knows. At the same time, the old house of the lonely family, when Ji Mingpeng heard that Ji Henyun was coming today, he directly blew up his hair. What is he doing here? Our family had a good family banquet, but he wanted to make trouble again. This bastard, don't you think I'm hurt enough? Oh, alright. Mrs. Ji patted the armrest of the Hongnan wooden chair and frowned at Ji Mingpeng. I invited him. You accept your temper for me. Hong Yuan is also your younger brother. Mom, Ji Mingpeng looked at Mrs. Ji puzzledly and said angrily, which of my brother is he? There is a younger brother like him who specializes in doing things with his own family. Besides, Ji Mingpeng complained displeasedly, if it weren't for the crazy mother of Ji Henyun, the 4 of us, mother and son, have been pointed out all the time. Okay, at this time, Mrs. Ji's face immediately collapsed. The natural majesty suddenly spread out. Ji Mingpeng immediately shot up and didn't dare to say anything. Mrs. Ji glanced at everyone majestically and said coldly, "It's all a family, brothers. Today's family banquet. All of you should give me down your temper." Just then, Mrs. Ji looked at the door as if she had a feeling. A servant rushed in and said in a hurry, "Old lady, the fourth master is back. The fourth master is back." Suddenly, everyone straightened their backs involuntarily and looked at the door. Not long after, a tall figure gradually appeared. What came towards me was the cold breath of that body. Don't get close to strangers. It's powerful and terrible. The fourth master of the silent family, who has been away for 10 years, is finally back. However, Ji Henyuan, who has always appeared alone, this time, there is one more girl around him. The girl was wearing a light green long skirt, and her whole temperament was fresh and vulgar, pure and flawless. It's like an elf strolling out of the forest and accidentally falling into the mortal world. Flexible and beautiful. It seems that all the adjectives about beauty in the world can be used on her. For a moment, the people of the Ji family didn't know who to look at. It was Ji Mingpeng's sneer that broke the mystery and silence. "There is nothing we can do." Seeing that Ji Henyuan even took the girl beside him back to his old house, he reflexively thought of his birthday banquet that day, and he was so angry. Ji Henyuan almost divorced himself, but he is still showing his love all the time. Why is he worthy? He is just a bitch, and he deserves to be alone for the rest of his life. Fourth brother, I remember you didn't say that you would not go back to Ji's house. Ji Mingpeng looked at Ji Henyuan with a sneer and said sarcastically, "What? But it's only been 10 years, so I forgot what I said." In the face of Ji Mingpeng's provocation, Ji Henyuan still had time to react, and the Tang Tang he was holding immediately rushed out unhappily. Tang Tang guarded in front of Ji Henyuan, stared at Ji Mingpeng, and said loudly, "His surname is Ji, and he is the fourth master of the Ji family. This old house is also the home where he grew up. There is more of his share. Why can't he come? He can come if he wants to come and leave if he wants. He needs you to be here." After Tang Tang finished the fight, he seemed to be unable to take off his anger. He glanced at Ji Mingpeng again and sneered, "A cheating man who can't control his lower body. Just save your ugly crow voice, and don't bark shamefully here. You, 感叹号." Ji Mingpeng was suddenly angry that his eyes were not eyes, and his nose was not his nose. He has lived for 30 years, and it is the first time that someone dares to scold him so blatantly. And she is also a weak-looking little girl. Suddenly, Ji Mingpeng was furious. "You, an outsider, need to worry about the family affairs of our lonely family. Also, you said that this is the old house of our lonely family. Did we invite you to come? What qualifications do you have to come in? Damn girl, you still don't get out of here." Suddenly, Ji Henyuan's momentum became cold in an instant, and his deep eyes suddenly shot at Ji Mingpeng. "Who are you asking to get out of here?"